Hello. 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 Good morning, afternoon, and or evening, folks. I hope that you're having a good one. I've been posed with a question that I cannot answer on my own. So I'm gonna make it y'all's problem instead. I'm gonna make you all think about it first and foremost. Start the poll here. It's 10 minutes. And then maybe I'll make a pinned message or something like that afterward. Ironically enough, Petty, I will have my first sponsored stream this Saturday. So, you know, I do have a sponsorship. It's a very light one, but one I'm legitimately excited for. So I'm super jazzed for that. But yo, what's up, Atizian? What's up, Marathian? What's up, Petty? And Dermarin as well. Hell yeah. These Wyverns are not going to hunt themselves, unfortunately. I really hope that Rathlos despawns and it gives me credit for the kill and just gives me all the items I would have carved anyway. That would be great. Like, unironic congratulations for that one. But how's it going, gamers and thamers? Hopefully y'all having a good one here. It is Thursday here, but it may be Friday for you. But whatever day it is, I hope that you're having a good one, enjoying it. We're almost to the end of the week once again, and hopefully that brings good things for you on the weekend side of things. Would be very nice if the cool folks out there who are hanging out are able to have a good weekend that they deserve. I know I'm gonna have a good weekend. As I was kind of mentioning, I have a legitimate sponsorship this time. My first one on stream. It's finally happening. I mean, it was quote-unquote just a free game, but it is a free game that I was actually legitimately very much looking forward to. So I'm super excited to be able to say that I'm going to play Double Dragon Gaiden this weekend on Saturday. I'm going to play a couple hours of Monster Hunter, and then I'm going to move over onto Double Dragon afterward, which I'm super fucking jazzed about. Like, that that fucking rules so goddamn hard. I've been really looking for that. So that'll be a great time. And then on Sunday, I get to play Ribbit King with Boix, which fucking sucks because I saw Ty go live today and he said I'm playing Froth with Octopimp. I'm like, God damn it, that was my plan. That was me. I'm not actually mad. That's really fucking cool. I hope we get some sort of random resurgence of Froth. That'd be excellent. But I was also like, God fucking damn it. I'm like, haha, no one's thinking about Froth as of late. Ty Tuesday, thinking about Froth. Yes, I think I'll hit the links today. Yeah, it should have been me, not him. It's not fair. But you know what? Better player won. But how you all doing? What's going on? What is going on today? Hopefully you're having a good one. Ooh, Level's controller in the mail. Oh, yeah. Hopefully it comes before the weekend, so you got a good long length of time to be able to just sit down with it and really learn about it. But Leveless seems to be the wave right now. That fucking rules. And you made a pineapple chicken and then you turned mass content on streams. The world was telling me that I shouldn't have done the Asian food style and instead Scrum style. Yeah, you fool. You buffoon. Why didn't you wrap it with bacon and then put it inside like an onion and then fry it in a pan and then edit magic it into it being cooked perfectly? Like, you fool, you buffoon. You had so much opportunity there. Yo, what's up, Aerokiss as well? Thank you for the nice hell yeah. Thank you for the hell yeah, get that bread. Appreciate it. I'm excited. I've held out on sponsorships for so long. For any level of sponsorship, like even a free game, I've held out for so long to finally, like, all those games that I played that my friends, I mentioned my friends have played or my friends have partially made. I didn't get any of those for free. I bought all of them. I absolutely bought all of them. So those weren't even sponsored in the same way. I bought all of them. I think Hoot did offer, and I said, no, let me buy your game. So realistically, I just turned it down. But this one's like, oh, actually, sizable company with a game that I'm legitimately looking forward to that's a little bit bigger of a release as well. So I'm happy about that. Yeah, it literally came out today, so I'm going to do it on Saturday. I thought about doing it for today, but I'm just like, you know what? I'm actually ill prepared to do it today. I was mentally ready to already hunt monsters, so you know what? Let's just hunt monsters today. I can't say hunt monsters, apparently. I'm saying haunt monsters. And, I mean, my dead ghost might haunt the monsters, but that's a different parallel universe. Yeah, I should make it completely inedible. Why would you make food for the sake of eating the food? Amateur hour out here. I sorry. When you said it arrived today, I was thinking about Double Dragon. Like, yeah, it just came out today. No, you meant the leverless came today. Gotcha. Okay. Which, then good, excellent. You have the weekend and all of tomorrow to be able to futz around with the controller and get used to it. And I hope that it is a complete jam. I hope it completely rules for you. Just open myself a nice fizzy water here real quick. Pretty good. It's pretty all right, actually. I don't know. Actually, I say it's pretty all right. It's fine. It's just fine. I know it's going to sound fucked up when I say this about fizzy water, because I know most people already like, oh, LaCroix tastes like if you start drinking some bubbly water and someone whispered to you the flavor that you're supposed to be experiencing. Yeah, I like that shit. This one actually has, like, legitimate fruit juice in it. And I'm like, if I just wanted fruit juice, I would just get juice in my head. So, you know, it's not bad. It's fine. It's just like, I don't want a juice experience. I want a water experience. I'm not trying to hide the flavor of water. I'm trying to enhance the flavor of water. It's a bit pricey. Yeah. I mean, I got this brand called Spindrift. Everyone's been talking about Spindrift. And I see why people like it. Because if you really are trying to get more water intake and that's the way you got to do it, then fine. But for me, I like water in the first place. So, and this on top of everything else is pricier as a result because they're using actual fruit juice. So it's like, I don't know about that, Chief. Exactly. I do. I am the Ryu of streets. Why do you think my name's Ryudo? I do the Ryu. The code has been unlocked. That's right. I'm as lame as they come. I'm a street fighting bum. Always on the run. No shoes on my gun. All right. We fucked around enough. Damn. Only one vote for Missile. These are not good dogs, apparently. I was hoping y'all saw my problem. All right. Turn off the music. I'm enjoying the music. I'm also buying time because, you know, obviously Celeste music, very good. B-sides, very, very good. But it's time to hunt some monsters. I can't put it off any longer. It's got to get done. But we're going to have content on the side as well. So we're going to learn about the wild, wild history of gay cowboy movies. And this is by the channel Kazro. They do a lot of historical, generally around LBGT subjects generally, and they're very good at like their research and everything like that as well. So it's been I fall in love with their channel somewhat recently. So they're fantastic and everything like that. Actual pronouns they them as well, so that you know. You got 2 for $4 deal on flavor smart waters. Oh, okay. 6, 7 flavors around. Now there's just 3. Like, please don't go away. Try one of these other plain flavors. Maybe you'll be just as into the smart water as the other smart waters. Maybe. I hope that it is still of value to you, honestly. I truly hope it is. All right, I'm putting it off because I just don't want to do it, but oh, one thing I was supposed to do before I actually started was I was going to make the chat box a bit bigger just to fill in the corner a little bit more. There we go. All right. Sweet. All right. Let's do this. Excited. I want to watch this video. Let's do this. Sigh. Let's hunt the fucking Rathlos. I'm pretty well equipped for the Rathlos thing because I was trying to fight the Plethsoth, whatever. So I at least have all my right items ready. I'm capped out and whatever I need to do. I'll maximize my damage. I can make some items on the fly. I just need to not die before then, assuming the Rathlos doesn't land in somewhere fucking stupid. All right. Also, I didn't say hi, Strong Bad Man. How you doing? As well.
Oh, these sunglasses?
Hopefully you're having a good one.
You can't afford these sunglasses.
All right. Once again, you're just gonna have to take my word for it. I am wearing the glasses now. They are on my face. All right. Enough talk. Have at you. What you got for me? Let me make sure
Sponsored by Squarespace.
Sound is
Howdy,
right.
partner. Earlier this year, actor Sam Elliott went viral for his extremely strong opinions on the 2021 film
you know what I should
Power
probably
of the
do?
Dog. Based on the 1967 book by the same name, Power of the Dog follows the story of Phil Burbank, a Montana cattle rancher who
They're very
psychologically
small,
tortures
soft-spoken.
basically
So
everyone in his life.
I'm balancing out here for a
particularly
bit.
his brother's new wife, Rose Gordon,
All
and
right.
her unmanly son, Peter.
Let's
It's an
play around
extremely
this. Is
interesting
that
story
good?
that deals
Is
with
that good?
closeted homosexuality, grief, and anxiety.
Did you see Power of the Dog?
Yeah, you want to talk about that piece of shit? There was a fucking full-page ad out in the L.A. Times, and it talked about the evisceration of the American myth. And I thought, what the fuck? The evisceration of the American West. I mean, they made it look like, what are all those dancers, those guys in New York that wear bow ties and not much else?
Uh-huh.
Remember them from back in the day?
Oh, the Chippendales?
As long as
Yeah.
me. Okay.
That's what all
I am a
these
little bit
fucking
quiet.
cowboys in that movie looked like.
mean-
There's all these allusions to homosexuality
There we go.
Yeah.
throughout the fucking
Oh,
movie.
that's true.
Despite
I do have that on. You're right.
beliefs
I knew I
here,
forgot
gayness
something.
in Hollywood is
Thank you.
nothing new, and neither are gay Hollywood cowboys. If you haven't watched my video on the queer history of the Old West, I highly recommend you go do so.
All right, thank you.
As
Appreciate
it
that.
provides much more in-depth history on that than we'll get into here. This video is essentially a follow-up to everything established in that video, so you might find it helpful to watch that
Love me to-
first. But
lend me a
essentially,
Genesis.
we covered how
All
the
right, so I
Old
should have all my
West
items
was
from last
much,
time, right?
much more queer
Yeah.
than most people today
I'm good to
realize,
go.
much less anyone in the last few generations, when the mythologized fantasy of a hyper-masculine heroic Old West
Before was
was
audio correct now.
glorified
Before we
in
got the
pop
muted
culture,
game. Very correct.
particularly
You don't want
following
to hear the
World
monsters
War
roar.
II.
Like, not
In
that
truth,
badly.
People in the Old West were very frequently gay or bi or trans, though they wouldn't have used those terms for themselves back then.
That
While
makes
our
sense.
identity names
Oops.
are
Also,
modern,
the
our shared
actual-
experiences are very old. And the presence of queer subtext in the Western films of the 20th century proved to us that though people believe there were no gays in the Old West, their presence floats through anyways, despite homophobic erasure, film production codes, and even the intentions of the filmmakers themselves. Come learn with me. But first, let's hear a word from today's
Gotta
sponsor,
hear from the sponsors
Squarespace.
first.
It's been a long time
It's
now since I
important
switched my
every
portfolio
time.
site
We gotta
over
make
to
sure that we hear the
Squarespace.
sponsors.
So
Okay,
y'all
it's
already
Raffles,
know
right?
just
Yeah.
how much it's benefited the way
Fuck,
that
it's
my work is
Raffles. I
presented.
hate this shit.
From
I hate
websites
this
and
shit
online
so
stores
fucking
to
much.
marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is the
It's one of
all-in-one
my most
platform
hated
to
things
build
I've done in
beautiful online
gaming in a
presence
long
and
time.
run your business or showcase your work. They have
Yo,
an
what up,
enormous amount of
Eskimo? How you
beautiful,
doing?
easy
Thank you for the
customized
fight
templates
on.
that are perfect for
I'm gonna
showcasing
do
your
my
work or
best.
getting your online
That's all I
shop
can
up
do.
and
I can
running
just do my
seamlessly.
best.
Not only is everything mobile compatible,
That's
but you
all
can
there is
also
to it.
easily
How you doing,
manage
though?
your
Happy
social
Thursday
media
to you.
or
Hopefully you're
manage
having a
ways
good
that
one.
visitors can contact or pay you, or create a gallery for your work
These
or
first.
products
Actually,
that
let me
is nice
grab
and
the
smooth to
rations
browse.
first
You
is
can
what I
create
need to
any
do.
kind of website that you
Let me
need in
reset
less than
real
2
quick.
hours using their highly
Actually, I could just be
customizable
abandoned, huh?
tools. Head over
Let me
to
abandon.
squarespace.com for
I
a free
actually need to take the
trial, and
rations
when you're
first so I
ready
can
to
eat
launch, go
them,
to
open up my
squarespace.com/Caswell
inventory, and then take the
to save
first
10%
aids
off your first
afterwards.
purchase of
So let me
website
go
or
and do that
domain
real quick.
using my
There's
code
actually an order I need to do
Caswell.
this in.
Thank you
Like,
so
I'm
much to
actually set up
Squarespace
for it.
sponsoring this
Pretty good
video,
success.
And now let's get back to learning about some gay cowboy movies.
Hell yeah. I'm not a big cowboy movie person, so this is going to be interesting for me as
As you may know
well.
already, when Brokeback Mountain premiered in 2005, it was lauded as the first openly gay Western. As we'll discuss, that's technically not true, but it depends on who you ask. This is because it's hotly debated on what a Western even is. Typically, a Western
not
is
even there
defined
anymore.
as a
God damn
story
it.
set
Okay,
in
I
the
have to reset the
American
game.
Old West around the late
Hopefully that
19th
comes makes it come
century
back.
and early 20th
Gotta
century,
reset it.
usually involving dudes on horses and guns. And heroism. Well, a lot of people sort of see a cowboy and say, yeah, that's a Western.
So
Any
if I'm
story involving
straight,
ranching then
you
could
are
be a
more than
Western,
allowed to watch
which
it
is
if
why
you're straight.
Power of
You
the
can do
Dog
it. I
is
believe in you.
considered a Western despite taking place in the 20s, which is technically just out of range of the usual Old West span, but people argue over what that is too. As we'll see with more abstract films like Zachariah, a Western can't really be pinned down by time period either. A lot of people just sort of
Actually, I didn't even
define
think about
a
that,
Western
actually.
based on
Yeah,
vibes.
it's like, it's just the
If it
vibes
walks
only
like
thing.
a
That's what I was going to
Western
say.
and talks like a Western,
Must be.
Isn't it a Western? So for this video, I'll generally go with the definition that a Western is a story that is either set literally or figuratively in the Old West. And the Old West wasn't just cowboys, it was an extremely diverse ecosystem of demographics. For example, California was part of the Old West, and so was Texas. And Mexican people are a vital part of that history.
Yeah, that never comes into the
A lot of
story.
areas of that history may have looked less like High Noon and more like, well, the Zorro tales. Is Zorro a Western?
Makes
Many
sense.
say yes, but many say no.
yeah, what is
I personally
Zorro?
think it is, so we'll be discussing
I'm gonna
it
say,
today.
yeah, I
so
think
most
it
of these
is, but-
stories
huh, I
before
didn't think
Brokeback
about
Mountain
that.
had their characters in the subtext closet, you could say. They are deliberately or accidentally queer-coded, and a lot of this has to do with the
In fact,
American
Atiza,
and
you can't leave
Hollywood
anymore. You
environment
lost
that
it.
persisted from
Oh,
the
shit.
30s to
We're
late
shouting.
60s. So get comfy in
Not
your
each
saddle,
other.
because we need to set
In
the
the
scene that
kitchen.
these
All
movies
right.
were
As long as
created
it's not
in.
each
And the
other, I
most important
guess.
factor
If they're just
was,
hooting and
of
hollering in
course,
general,
the
I hope
Hays
they're
Code.
enjoying
People were
themselves.
pearl clutching over cinema's perceived morals, or lack
the
thereof,
fucking rations
since
this time.
1896 when
Almost
Thomas
fucked it up.
Edison created the kiss. Literally, from the moment pictures began to move, whether legally recognized or not, people could understand
Yo,
the
what's up,
power
Cara?
that
How
film
you
would
doing?
have over people.
Happy
National
Thursday and or
Board
Friday
of
to you. Hopefully
Censorship
you're having a good
member Warren
one.
Cox wrote in a 1915
We're
journal
learning about,
on the
gay
American
cowboy
Institute of
movies
Criminal Law and
in the Wild
Criminology.
West.
Many
Hopefully you're having a
persons
good
now
one.
recognize
You're ready
that
to
the
learn.
cultural and moral influence of the movie
Alright,
must
I
be
should-
carefully estimated.
I should probably actually
The
grab
intimate and
paintballs,
intricate
honestly,
problems of life may be
before I forget.
presented quite satisfactorily to the adult, but may be dangerous to the unformed mind of a child.
Oh, I have the
Long
frog still
before
on
the
me because I was
Hays
fighting the
Code
plethysma.
passed,
Oh, god damn
various
it.
cities
All right,
had
I gotta
already
restart the game
passed
once more.
various laws
Fuck.
and ordinances
I forgot I had the
restricting films
frogs on me.
a
I don't
moral
need
basis.
frogs.
And as the motion picture business
Sorry,
grew,
I gotta
the
restart
eyes
one more
of the
time.
feds were slowly turning
But what's
towards
going
the
on? You have any good
pressures
plans
of
for the week and all
religious
that good
anti-vice
stuff?
groups to control film content. It makes sense then that the film industry would decide to beat the government to the punch and create their own code of censorship. That way they could appease their critics and the government while also maintaining control. Thus,
makes
in 1930, the Motion Picture Production Code
There
was
was a whole code
created
for
by
it.
a number of Catholics,
Yeah.
and 4 years later,
And then it
the Production
begins.
Code Association was created to enforce it. Generally, the code had 3 main principles. 1. No picture shall be produced which will lower the moral standards of those who see it. Hence, the sympathy of the audience shall never be thrown to the side of crime, wrongdoing, evil, or sin. 2. Correct
Okay,
standards of
well,
life,
that's
subject
abroad.
only to the requirements of drama and entertainment, shall be presented. And 3. Law, natural or human, shall not be ridiculed, nor shall sympathy be created for its violation. This meant that PCA was demanding massive
now we
edits
have
and
the
cuts to
Joker.
almost every single film created by a major studio,
You ever heard of the
often
weird
for bizarre
Term
violations
Witwist,
like
whenever you mix Western with
a
other forms
character
like
said
Jonah
the
Hex or
word
werewolves.
pregnant. It also
I did not
meant
know that,
queer
actually. Holy
characters
shit.
who had a surprising amount
I
of
love their
film
videos so
visibility
much.
in the
I
10s
fall in
and
love with their
20s
videos
were
very
rendered
recently.
hidden in plain sight
My
until
partner
the
got into
PCA
them,
finally
and I'm like,
died in
hell yeah,
1968.
they're good. They're way
Basically,
good.
a queer
I've been waiting
character
to
could
watch it
only
on
be
stream for a
present
while
in a
now.
film in a non-outright way. They must be queer-coded and nothing more, or may only exist
need his hot
through
drinks
slight
anymore, actually,
subtext.
either.
And they must either end up in a
need the rest of
cis-heteronormative
these.
relationship at the end,
Yeah,
or
there
they
we
must
go.
be punished.
Yo, also
or
thank you for the
they
follow.
may
Greatly
be
appreciate it.
antagonists.
Falls here always
That's
anonymous.
why
If you
a
want to
lot
hit that
of
follow
villains
button,
are
lurk away, and
queer-coded,
just
or
watch some
they
good
must
videos.
die.
Happy to have you.
Queer-coded characters
But
who fit
otherwise,
none of these
feel free to chat in
endings were
chat. Happy to have you
extremely
here.
Rare. Even the 2 movies that I discussed from the 21st century,
Yeah,
Power
also-
of the Dog and Brokeback Mountain,
yeah, I was gonna say-
have tragic endings.
I was gonna
with
say, they
gay
have to have tragic
protagonists.
endings for, like,
Hollywood is hard pressed
the
to
not
imagine
straight
a happy
white
ending
male. I wonder
for
if that
gay
has
cowboys.
some
There's a
history in
tangible reason for
why
this
older
dilemma,
horror
though.
movies
The
always has
Hays
a black
Code,
dude die type of
pervasive as
thing
it was,
first.
is not the only factor in the tragedy of Hollywood's gay cowboys. The Western itself as a
Just a
genre
thought.
is
But that's a
inseparable
question
from
for
the most
later.
major defining event of Hollywood's last century, the Second World War.
All right, yeah, I guess that makes sense. There's a lot of stuff that comes from that era, like, oh, wow, yeah, that's a thing that Donald Duck
World War
did.
II's impact on Hollywood cannot be underestimated. It cemented Hollywood's
Oh,
role
Bizarro, damn.
as a powerful propaganda machine. During the war, the studios were brought on to
oh, I'm
produce
in the- am I
pro-military
wrong? No.
films,
Wait, what?
like these famous ones featuring
Yeah.
Nazi
Oh,
Donald
I was
Duck.
just talking. There he is. I was just talking about you. How did you know?
It was during the war that the government took notice of Hollywood's potential as a significant sociological influencer that could be used to drive the public narrative surrounding major
Alright,
world
let's just
events
do a quick mission
and political
and,
ideas. Now, when people went to the theater to see a
Just
picture,
to switch
they
it
would
over so
encounter
I can get
film
a
reels
new,
detailing the
roll
horrors
the
and
quests real
heroism
quick.
of the war in the same narrative strategy as the fictional films they went to see. The films themselves were often about the war, too, and American citizens' roles in it. Thomas Doherty writes, "From the Nickelodeon forward to the 70mm screen, the pleasures of spectacular imagery, the vicarious thrill of combat, the titillating horror of death and destruction, all enjoyed from the security of a theater seat, have lent war and cinema a tight kinship. The War Department, the Office of War Information, or OWI, and Hollywood studio heads colluded in keeping the awful devastations of combat from the home front screen, sometimes by outright fabrication, usually by expedient omission. It wouldn't take long for the fantasy of Hollywood's heroic epics about the romance of war and its pain to start seeing real-life consequences. The children who grew up on the mythos of post-war films that projected America as a victorious hero nation went on to fight a shameful, brutal, and tragic war in Vietnam. When Vietnam vets
I was wondering if that was
wailed and
how linked,
cried
but I
in
didn't even
anger
think about
they
it like
were
that either.
lied to by the U.S. government, their anger was directed at Hollywood too. When it comes to the
Which,
war
we're feeling the
media
same things with
produced
other
between
things like, like the
1941
food
and
pyramid, for
1945,
example.
I personally wonder,
Something on a much less scale,
could they
mind
have done
you.
any different? In a time when contribution to the war effort and fighting fascism was so important to people, would they? I don't think so. And it's not necessarily those years that caused the most trouble. It was everything that followed. The post-war years saw glory narratives that sanitized the brutality and nuance of war, that was intended to bolster American nationalism and reinforce the public's xenophobia.
Alright, I just thought about something about those movies as well, like that came pretty much like, said war is hell, war is fucked up, and how those movies often end. I'm just thinking about it now.
In the right, well, you can get away with any atrocity you want.
And we're seeing
the
that
idea
now.
that World War II vets came home feeling like heroes is an oversimplification. Many of them did, but many didn't. For a couple years a while back, my job was transcribing oral interviews from Chinese-American World War II vets, and the stories they told were the nuanced, frustrating, and agonizing histories that the War Department and post-war Hollywood didn't want the public to see. These guys were traumatized, and when they were on the field, often drafted as teenagers overseas and away from their hometowns, often for the very first time in their lives, they felt little pride in war itself. When the interviewer asked them, "What do you think you got out of your service?" a lot of them had to think in silence for a while before answering that the friendships they made stuck with them. Recounting the things they had to do was often too much to bear.
Yeah, don't think about anything
mentally
else.
Dehumanizing the people that they killed was the only way they could live with themselves. Many World War II vets in general went home and saw these post-war films in the theaters and walked away feeling a little bit empty because the war on the screen was so far removed from the reality that they saw. But to the people who stayed on the home front,
and a lot of games
these
only
films
are
felt
starting to
like
get to the
they
point
were
where, like,
getting a
hey,
glimpse into
war is
what
just
the
not
war
like this
was really
woohoo,
like.
go out there and run
When
and gun
asked if
thing.
that
It's
was
starting to
how
actually
war went,
roll into like
many
the,
of them would
hey,
nod
war's
and
also
say,
kind of fucked up too.
Well, I guess so. The pictures are made by experts, aren't they? Post-war pro-American propaganda wasn't just relegated
Americans
to
don't
the
do
romanticized war tales, though.
experts all that well.
Often it was the other
But
vehicle
that's a different
for
subject
American
as well.
nationalism, the Western. I talked at length about the Western as an American cultural identity in my Old West video, but I want to make another connection here between it and war films. Both of these genres carried heavy queer subtexts because war and Westerns were often the only times men felt allowed to be intimate with other men, aka creating intimate rituals to touch the skin of other men. For instance, one example of this that frequently gets cited is the fight scene in High Noon, where Will, played by Gary Cooper, and Harvey, played by Lloyd Bridges, have probably one of the strangest looking fights I've ever seen in a barn, where they basically just roll around on the ground after a lot of emotional tension that builds up throughout the film. The
They're
fight
getting there.
ends
They're
with
getting-
Will
they're
dumping
a step
bucket of
away.
water onto
They're about
Harvey's
to
head,
kiss.
which, if you want to interpret that as an innuendo, I guess you wouldn't be totally out of line to do so.
Acceptable.
Is it the strongest example of gay subtext? No. Honestly, I'm more interested in the silly villainous quapple. However, this fight is a good example in a large number of Western films that have the male main characters getting into often kind of sensual-looking
I gotta
brawls.
fight now.
Often not necessarily out of hatred for each other, but because touching each other physically in a fight is the only way to exercise that desire. It's extremely common for the characters in Westerns to
please-
mistake love for anger and start swinging. Likewise, a major feature of war films is male intimacy. This goes as far back as Wings, a silent film about World War I.
That was a terrible
not
dog
only
shit
was
start.
the first film to win the Academy Award for Best Picture, but was also the first same-sex on-screen kiss.
Oh,
In the life or death
good to know.
circumstances of war, it was heavily encouraged for soldiers to develop close, intimate relationships with each other.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Often dubbed
guys
your
can be
buddy,
just guys.
these
You could actually
relationships
be
made it
friends with your
easier for men
friend
to work
dudes.
together and survive more easily, both physically
Kiss your
and
homies goodnight and
emotionally.
all that.
The Navy especially was viewed for generations as a particularly gay environment because men were isolated at sea for weeks or months on end.
So I think
only
the
surrounded
priority
by other
of saying
men,
like,
so,
oh well, there was
you
no
know,
other
if you think all these
choice.
dudes were just
That's
keeping
the
it in their
only
pants the whole
reason.
time, I don't know what to tell you.
Eh.
World War II especially was a huge catalyst for the development of American gay communities, as many men and women left their small hometowns for the first
Now it
time and
begins.
found themselves in homosocial environments with the freedom to explore their sexualities unhindered by family.
Actually,
Many
you know what I'm
veterans
gonna do
stayed
real
in their
quick?
discharge port cities after the war, like Los Angeles and New York City, to remain with their newfound queer communities.
That's why they kind of start in those
These
areas.
wartime
Okay, no, that makes
relationships
sense. Actually,
really
I was always
stuck with
wondering why it
people
was like
after
they
the
became
war,
the
and
progressive
essence of
cities,
that
and that's
intimacy
probably
made its way
why.
onto the silver screen around the edges of the Hays Code's restrictions. All this to say, when we see queer subtext in the male friendships or rivalries in war or Western films, that isn't coming out of nowhere. And no, it's not your imagination. Red River, directed by Howard Hawks in
actually
1948
get
and
these.
starring
Never mind, I don't
Montgomery
wanna do this
Clift
right now.
and bitch-ass John Wayne, is a good example of this early Western subtext. Spoiler warning, of course, for every movie I discuss in this
Yeah,
video, by
watch
the
out
way.
for spoilers if
Red
you
River, in a
wanna watch some
nutshell,
cool
tells the
gay
story
cowboy
of a
movies.
rancher played by John Wayne with a huge stick up his ass who keeps trying to move his cattle and adopts some kid who grows up to be Montgomery Clift. Well, John Wayne won't stop murdering people, so eventually Monty Clift is like, well, I'm out of here. And John Wayne is like, okay, but I'll kill you eventually. Anyway, so then Monty goes and sells the herd, and then
Kill you
John Wayne
eventually,
does show
well.
up to kill him, and then Monty beats the shit out of John Wayne, and it's pretty cathartic, and then woman love interest is like, no, guys, just stop. Seriously, stop it. And then they're like, okay. And then the movie ends.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, in my opinion, the plot leaves a lot to be desired and has a lot of the
where you
typical
going,
old Hollywood
asshole?
racism against Native Americans, which is something we're going to run into with a
a lot,
large number of
yeah.
the films
That's
we
a
discuss
huge
today.
fucking
Because,
problem.
unfortunately, much like the real Old West, racism and misinformation about Native Americans was a staple of the genre for a long, long time. It's also just a huge pain in the ass to watch anything with John Wayne in it. It was, however, extremely cathartic to watch Monty Clift beat him up, and it turns out it was cathartic for Clift
still a
too,
roar?
because
Oh
he
my God.
really hated John Wayne.
It-
Montgomery Clift himself and his character are actually the most interesting part of the film because that's where the subtext is.
Oh, you gotta
Montgomery
be
Clift
kidding
was
me.
queer himself, having had numerous relationships with men over the course of his life, and had a male partner named Lorenzo James when he tragically died.
Love that for
Clift's
me.
own family
It
said
is a
he was
natural
gay, and co-star
reaction.
Liz Taylor named him as one of the gay actors she knew during a speech for the GLAAD Media Awards in the
Come
year 2000.
on, game.
All of my
please.
life, I've spent a lot of time with gay men, Montgomery Clift, Jimmy Dean, Rock
I
Hudson.
can not even get
who
out
were
of
my
this
colleagues,
subsection of life right
co-workers,
now.
confidants, my closest friends. But I never
Hello?
thought of them of who they
You want to
slept
fucking
with.
use your fucking
They
potion?
were just
oh
the
my
people
fucking god.
I loved.
Clift's queerness, in a way,
Are you
seeps
fucking
into
kidding
every
me?
character he plays, much the same as James Dean.
all these.
You can just feel it. And Red River's queer subtext is, let's just say, extremely palpable in the scenes where Clift's character Matt interacts with Cherry, played by John Ireland.
It's a good-looking gun you're about to use back there. Can I see it? Maybe you'd like to see mine. Nice, awful nice.
Oh, yeah.
Very
Also,
Hey, that's
how do you
good,
fit that in with a
I mean,
completely badass
Come
scene?
on.
Yeah, now I know who you'd be. You'd be Matthew Garth, wouldn't you? That's right.
Yeah, you're just gonna run my fucking way,
As
aren't you?
good as they say you are.
While their relationship never hints at anything romantic, the sexual innuendo is
Okay.
always there.
Just a notion
Oh, good.
I had, and then Matt turned
Good.
it
I
down.
did not want to fall
Made
down
me
here, but
wanna go.
fine.
Besides, I've taken a liking to that gun of his.
Now, as if the Hays
This is great.
Code wasn't
This is
bad
great.
enough, things in the post-war era were about to get a whole lot worse with regards to censorship. The Cold War was upon us, and McCarthyism began its grip on the media. Hollywood was entering the Lavender Scare.
Ooh.
The
Interesting.
Cold War changed quite
Yeah,
literally
good-looking gun.
everything about American society, and Hollywood
You
was
know
no
how to use that
exception.
gun.
A deep paranoia gripped
Let me
the
show you what else
country,
it can do.
stoking fears that evil communists were secretly invading American society
Oh, yeah,
to
yeah.
pollute
Okay.
our morals and endanger our children. Oh, so
The
government
usual.
created the House
We've never
Un-American
heard this
Activity
before.
Committee to
This has
oversee
never
the
been
identification
used
of
at
communists
all.
and communist threats. Frequently, HUAC would
This
enforce
has never been
great
used at
pressure
all
on
for
witnesses
a
to
grandstanding
falsely
point
testify
in the
against people,
U.S.
Anyone, so long as there was someone. It
And
was
general,
encouraged
you know,
for people to
fascist
surveil
anything.
and turn in their neighbors that they suspected of being communist or communist sympathizers. HUAC was actually created in 1938 and ran until its dissolution in 1975. As a result of the HUAC court hearings, Hollywood came under particular scrutiny, largely because many Jewish people worked in Hollywood, and Jewish people were inherently suspected of being communist for lots of horrible reasons that I'll get into in more detail in a future video on the Lavender Scare. As Hollywood crucified its own from the inside out,
And they follow up on
with
their video,
much of
so
the
if anything
damage being
side subject
driven by
sounds good,
HUAC,
they probably have
the
already made the
Hollywood
video,
Blacklist
honestly.
was born, and a massive number of incredible Hollywood creatives were either banned from working in the industry again or had to work uncredited. As a result,
Ooh,
creators do
wow.
what creators do best. They make art about the struggle. When I first watched Johnny Guitar, released in 1954, it didn't have a huge impact on me. I think personally it's the sort of film that gained value the longer I thought
put
about
this
it.
here, it's
And it
probably gonna
certainly
fly
helped
away.
that when I started dunking on it on Twitter, Jennifer Smart so kindly brought to my attention that Johnny Guitar was a movie made to be a criticism of HUAC and the Hollywood Blacklist. A story about one paranoid, hateful person who was able to rile a mob to destroy the lives of a few scapegoats while forcing someone to
You let go of my
falsely
fucking barrel
testify
right
against
now.
said scapegoats. I mean, it's really obvious once it's pointed out. And of course, as Jennifer also pointed out, the movie was written by Ben Maddow and credited Philip
goddamn.
Gordon instead, since Maddow was a blacklisted screenwriter. Everything about the plot could easily be adjacently applied to the way that McCarthyist society treated queer people, especially when you take into account the very slight masculinization of Joan Crawford's character, Vienna. Elise Ray Helford writes about Johnny Guitar for The Take. Moreover, while both women are unusually tough for a classic Western, gender typing is also mobilized via costume to welcome a lesbian reading. Emma is only seen in the long dresses of the era. Her garments have no frills, nor does the style of her hair. There's nothing sexualized about Emma, signifying the lesbianism akin to the spinster or maiden aunt type. Vienna, by contrast, wears dark shirts, pants, and boots more often than dresses, and is compared to a man by her cook, John Carradine. Never
Kind of
seen a woman
interesting
who
that
is
they-
more of a man,
oh,
he
fucking-
states.
fuck
She
off.
thinks like one, acts like one, and sometimes makes me feel like I'm not. It literally takes dressing her in a white frilly gown, albeit with
gonna say,
black
I was gonna say, like,
decorations, to render
I've
her
never even heard
feminine
of this movie.
enough
I'm
to
kind of
be
like
rescued
surprised,
by
honestly, a little
Johnny.
bit.
Though she only explores heterosexual affairs
New
in the
Vegas.
film,
New Vegas.
she is a deliberately masculine
Is there
coded
something about,
character
like,
to mid-century
are we talking about,
sensibilities.
Wow.
But while Johnny Guitar's
worst
nods to
human.
cross-dressing or the masculine coding of the protagonist is more subtle, a movie that came out the year before it that is far more difficult to sit through had never heard of the concept of subtlety, period. Released in 1953, Calamity Jane is a movie musical starring Doris Day in the role of, well, Calamity Jane. Now, Calamity Jane was a
guitar on the
real
radios.
historical
Oh, it just
figure,
never stops
and
playing.
the movie
It just-
honestly
it just
has very
exists
little
in
to do
perpetuality.
with the real woman. The real Calamity Jane was a storyteller for a time in Buffalo Bill's Wild West show,
do
which
remember
was
that.
fitting
Learned
for
about
her
that.
because she spent almost her entire life fictionalizing her own biographical details. If she has anything in common with the movie version of herself, it's that both of them like to tell tall tales and exaggerate or straight up lie about their adventures. Calamity Jane 1953 is also
They
just
tell a mean story.
unbearable to watch for a number of
Why start
reasons.
modding the game
For
to
the
add a ton
first
more
three
songs to the
quarters
radio
of the movie,
stations.
Jane is constantly
We need to
talking
change
about or
things around
joking
these
about
parts
murdering
here.
Native
I've had enough.
Americans, which the
Johnny
real Jane
Guitar.
also likely lied about too, but it is just so overbearing in the film that it's actually nauseating. The other disturbing part of the film actually comes from, well, its queer coding therein.
Did you ever fix your hair?
Jane is deliberately lesbian coded for a major portion of the story. She dresses masculinely, treats other women the same way any male character would, carries herself in a way that to audiences in the 50s would have distinctly been read is masculine, to the point where other characters in the film don't even treat her like a woman, period, or straight up think she's a man. She has effectively unsexed herself, and it is portrayed not as her strength, but as her weakness. When Jane meets Katie Brown, the
Guess not
story actually
surprised.
starts to follow the traditional beats of a romantic comedy, even though both characters end up married to men at the end. They have the unfulfilled desire.
I guess they're
the
always
meet
having to
cute,
follow up
the happy
into like
together,
them
the
saying,
obstacles
okay, yeah,
rise,
no,
the
you.
crisis, the epiphany, and the resolution.
I guess the
Jane and
protagonist has to
Katie
end
are
up in
the
a
ones
very
following the
specific
romantic
way,
arc,
and
not
anyone
Jane
who's
and Bill,
off the
even though that's who
beaten
she ends
path
up with.
that the movie
and her
industry
romance
made.
with Bill fixes
Just
her.
has
As soon as she
to
kisses
hold
him
that
and they're
L
together,
and die
she
at the
now
end.
wears
Or
acceptably
success.
feminine menswear-inspired clothes. She wears makeup now, and she sings in her lovely Doris Day tone rather than the goofy, weirdly accented and exaggerated voice she used before.
Just a wonderful you.
I wonder if this is as well a huge reason why a lot of men, straight men, are like, oh, I can
As
make
far
her
as Hollywood was
straight.
concerned,
Like they're
women
fixing
can
something.
be lesbians, as long as they get fixed in the end or die.
I wonder if that's where a lot of that ideology can come
Like
from nowadays.
overheating.
It's
But it's probably because I'm on 2 antibiotics
oof.
at the same time.
Don't die.
I can't emphasize
Definitely a big
enough
part of it.
just
Yeah,
how
yeah, I'm
massive
feeling the
the
same
impact of
way.
The Vietnam War
Also, how you doing,
was on the
Raindrop?
film
Hopefully you're having a
industry.
good one.
Increasingly,
more as well,
people
hell
began
yeah.
to become more
I hate
critical
Westerns.
of
It turns out I
genre
just hated
violence and
John
portrayal of US
Wayne.
historical
Acceptable
mythology,
response.
in particular with
And
regards to the
promoted
Old
response.
West. Films started popping
Well, hope
up
you're
that
all both
portrayed
having a
the
good one.
history
Good
of
to see you
westward
all.
expansion in a
Can't
more
hold shit.
realistic light,
Kinda
or
shit
at
in this
least
world.
more nuanced. Sam Peckinpah's 1969
right
film
now.
The Wild Bunch sought
probably
to
shouldn't pick this
critique
up
Western
quite
violence by
yet.
instead portraying the violence openly and explicitly. He said, "I tried to make a film that showed violence as it is, not as some goddamn Hollywood piece of shit. Actually, it's an anti-violence film because I use violence as it is.
reach this for
It's
me? I'm
not
not even
fun
gonna
and
try, actually.
games
Fuck
and
this shit.
cowboys and Indians. It's a terrible, ugly thing." This theme of critiquing war and violence would be particularly poignant in the film Zachariah, which we'll get to in a minute. But
yeah.
the 60s and 70s also saw the rise of youth countercultural and sexual revolutions, as well as the beginnings of the gay rights movement, which opened the door for movies to get the guts to start being more frank about homosexuality. This was also made possible by the death at long
kidding me,
last
game?
of the Hays Code, which meant that as the
Oh,
years
so
went
the Hays
on,
Code is
films
gone,
rebounded
but
by
you know,
engaging
people still
with more openly violent,
still
sexual, and
live in the
overall
industry
diverse
as it
content
used to
than ever
be
before.
in the good
Some
old
were
days.
hits, a lot were misses, but all of them still played an important part in history. This is especially so for the earliest openly gay westerns, Song of the Loon and Lonesome Cowboys.
Actually, you know, I can't
Song
change
of
this
the
thing anyway,
Loon,
it
which
doesn't really
released
matter.
in
Oh,
1970
it landed.
and was based on
Holy
the
shit,
book of
you
the
landed.
same name by
Now
Richard
we have
Emery,
completely different problems
is
to deal with.
effectively one of the first openly gay coming-of-age movies, if not
okay.
literally the first one. It's also a great example of the late mid-century attempt by media to shift the narrative around Native Americans in a way that probably seemed fine at the time to some people, but in hindsight, is appallingly insulting. Instead of portraying Native Americans as dehumanized, murderous villains, stories like Song of the Loon sought to humanize them, but still failed in that goal because they still only portrayed Native Americans as, like, mystical spiritual guides for white people. Song of the Loon takes us even further by
Don't worry,
making
that
them
doesn't change for another
psychosexual
good
guides
while.
for the white main characters'
And by don't worry, I mean
trauma, too.
fucking worry.
The story follows 2 men, Ephraim and Cyrus, as they
Yeah, the
explore
tropes
the 19th
absolutely still
century
remain,
frontier
like, to a
wilderness
heavy
and come to
degree.
terms with their homosexuality through spiritual
But you know, at the same
journeys
time, when you
with
have to
more
appease the people who were
enlightened
before you
Native American
to say,
men
no,
that
this
they
is what I
meet
can
along the
make, and they're
way.
like, oh yes, this is what I like.
Suffer from a white man's disease. It's called jealousy.
The story is crappy, the filmmaking is poor, though it does have some really fucking funny moments.
I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for that. Oh, I'm still wearing shades. You suffer from the white man's disease.
The acting is so bad, and it's honestly a nightmare to have to look at all these white
If I could
actors
pause
in
right
brown
now,
faces.
I would run it back.
So,
I'm having a
Song of
hard
the
time
Loon, a
running that
significant
back.
piece of historical media.
Hold on, I
Yes,
gotta run that
undoubtedly.
back. I'm sorry, y'all.
Loon takes us even further by making them psychosexual
I
guides for
just
the
don't
white
have
main
much time because
character's
I'm
trauma, too.
limited time only
The
on this
story
fucking thing.
follows 2 men, Ephraim
I
and
gotta
Cyrus,
run that
as they
back
explore the
once
19th
more.
century
Hopefully I got it
frontier
far back
wilderness
enough. If I didn't,
and
then
come to
sorry.
terms with their homosexuality through spiritual journeys with the more enlightened Native American men that they meet along the way.
Ephraim, you suffer from a white man's disease. It's called jealousy.
The story is crappy, the filmmaking is
I
poor, though it
gotta
does have
use
some
this
really fucking
somewhere.
funny
I
moments.
don't know where. I think immediately, yeah, still a lot of stuff sometimes, but they fix the gay. I am what? Yeah, because I am whatever enough. Exactly.
The acting is so bad.
It's,
and it's honestly a nightmare to have
a
to
lot
look
of
at all these white
hoofa-doofas
actors
in this
brown
world.
face the whole time. So, Song of the
We're
Loon
getting there to some degrees, but then like the heads of the corporations that are able to make the movies are like, don't like that one bit.
But Song of the Loon was not alone. In fact, it wasn't even the first openly gay western.
Please,
A lot of
please,
people
dude.
give that title
You're gonna
to
say
an
this
art
someone,
film
they're gonna
that
really
beat
mad.
Song
You're
of
like,
the Loon
good.
to the punch by 2 years. A film that is honestly,
you're jealous
in
that you
my
can't
opinion,
say
as bad as Song of the Loon. Andy Warhol and Paul Morrissey's Lonesome Cowboys from 1968.
we could throw it at
Straight
anything.
Up, I'll be completely honest. I do not like Andy Warhol. I think his work isn't that good, and he wasn't a good person either. So as you can
So the
imagine,
corporation,
I was
no,
thrilled
100%
to
still
have to watch
correct.
This movie.
It's just,
I swear, I went
saying
into it with an
the
open
quiet
mind
part
and
out
tried
loud,
to give it a
basically.
solid chance, but I just think it flat out sucks.
Mm.
And I'm not saying that because it's artsy and has no plot or is edited weird. I went to art school. I'm used to that shit. I've seen worse. Hell,
Sorry,
I've
don't mind me,
made
I'm
worse.
screaming.
But Lonesome Cowboys, in its attempt to be plotless and artsy, just ends up suffering from a lack of meaning.
Yeah.
It loosely follows the story of 5 gay cowboys who show up in a western town and harass and later rape a woman named Ramona. The actors, many of whom can barely be called that, are improving their lines the whole time, so it's incredibly grating to
that's
watch,
bad, because
and
if you have to
not
go
even
to like
for a
the
good
first thing that
reason.
comes to
I
your
guess
mind,
the most notable part of the movie
like,
is that its vague gayness earned it the honor of being investigated by the FBI. A review of the film in 1969 by Vincent Canby sums up my feelings pretty well. Lonesome Cowboys isn't so much homosexual as adolescent. It has some of the charm of a disorganized picnic, but like a picnic for which there is no food or drink, it gets to be a terrible drag. Then again, not everyone agrees with me. Christopher Lacconi and Zoe Trodwright. In Lonesome Cowboys, there is no longer anything unspoken about the love that dare not speak its name. Warhol constructs a wild, wild west and a gay utopia that stands in stark contrast to the dystopia imagined by Schlesinger. Even more importantly, however, Lonesome Cowboys offers a frontier utopia where an effeminate cowboy might exist. The town sheriff is an occasional transvestite, and one character notes that they've always been accepting of him. We always respect you. When you got your new wig, no one said anything.
Why game?
To town. Warhol depicts a relationship of tolerance between the macho gay cowboy and the drag queen sheriff, a union of seeming opposites. Throughout the film, Warhol's campy cowboys subvert the hypermasculine John Wayne stereotype. Okay, that assessment is fair. Did it really have to involve rape and brownface, though? So, the 2 gay westerns we've discussed from the 60s and 70s so far haven't exactly been winners.
But I also understand time and places.
Some of you might yell at me in the comments. In my process of making my way through my list, I was feeling kind of dejected by this point and stopped expecting so much. So when I watched 1971's Zachariah, directed by George Englund and written partly by the Firesign Theater, you can probably imagine how shocked I was that this movie is absolutely fire. Like, genuinely, it is a great movie. Look, I even bought the vinyl soundtrack. And the DVD.
They're like me.
Zachariah
Vinyl
was billed
soundtrack
as
for
the
thing I
first
like.
electric western, and it wastes no time telling you exactly what that means. The film brought on a number of musical acts to bring the story to life, from Country Joe and the Fish to the New York Rock Ensemble to the James Gang to Doug Kershaw to White Lightning to the legendary drummer Elvin Jones, who plays the sharpshooting king Job Kane. Zachariah follows the story of 2 friends, Zachariah played by John Rubinstein and Matthew played by Don Johnson. When Zachariah orders a gun through mail order and kills a homophobe,
So you and your girlfriend are looking for trouble.
Damn, that's straight up. That's straight up.
Kill you, you little fag.
the 2 set off on a journey through
just
the
straight
Sierra
out, starting
West,
with it.
trying
All
to
right.
become legendary gunslingers. Their adventures eventually
gonna
lead
go
them
back
to
to the
part ways,
base camp for
both
a second here.
literally and spiritually.
You'd shoot me. That's not what I meant. I love you, Matthew. We said we'd stay together. Let's get out of here.
You and me are not on the same trip.
Until eventually they are forced to meet again and duel, before realizing that all they really needed was each other. I need to get into more detail for discussion's sake, but seriously, give this movie a chance. Is it the best story ever? The best acting? No. Gratuitous drug sex scene with go-go dancing because it's the early 70s?
is a homophobe.
Yeah, and apparently it was horrendously awkward for both of them. But the movie has this quintessential 70s charm that I just
Let it
really
be known,
love.
Raphaelos
The story
is a
based on
homophobe,
and a homage to
and
the
I
story
want Raphaelos
Siddhartha,
banned from the stream.
written in
Get him outta
1922
here.
by Herman Hesse, which was
No
an
questions
incredibly
asked.
popular book in the 60s. And the romantic tension between Zachariah
Also, do not
and
ban
Matt
a
is
username called
extremely
Rafalos because they're gonna be like, oh my god, someone's
particularly
playing
at
Monster
the
Hunter.
end.
I love that
for
series.
fuck's
Why am I
sake,
banned from the
they
chat?
ride off into the sunset together after shirking the heterosexual temptress, who is a queen, by the way. Nothing but respect for my girl Bellstar. Girl, you don't want him
this
anyway.
fucking
You want
banned
me.
from this
Me.
arcade.
During the audio commentary of the movie by film historians Howard
Can I use
Berger and
this yet?
Nathaniel Thompson,
Nope.
they
Doesn't
discussed
matter.
at length
Dragon's
the
flying
film's
away.
queer subtext. In particular, how by the time the film was made, Don Johnson was already something of a gay icon. In 1969, he starred in the LA production of the highly controversial play Fortune in Men's Eyes, directed by gay actor Sal Mineo, who also starred in a main role. The story deals with the subject of queerness in men's prisons, and the most controversial part was the fact that Mineo made the decision to have the story's rape scene shown on stage with full frontal nudity,
Oh, wow.
rather than implied offstage like it was in earlier productions.
Oh, wow.
The controversy made the play infamous, though, in particular for the gay community, who flocked to the audience repeatedly.
I
Don
wonder if
Johnson
there
was
was a lot of
incredibly
like,
close to
oh,
Sal
you're going to
Mineo
jail
was
and you're gonna
actually
get,
living
you
with
know,
him in West
RAPE.
Hollywood when Mineo was
tropes
tragically
came from.
murdered
Like,
outside
that's
their
where it fucking
apartment in
started.
1976. This significant association was
Sure, you have to deal
not
with a lot of
lost
the more
to
unsavory
Zachariah's
bits and what people
viewers
casually throw
when
into
it
the
premiered in
dude,
1971.
where they made,
and though the
no.
film has largely
It's
been forgotten today,
and
it was a
unfortunately
cult
kind
hit
of
at the
endless
time.
pool
And
to hit all of
Zachariah,
them.
though it had
It's
an incredibly
as
tumultuous production and
a black dude,
suffered
it's like,
critical
yeah,
cuts to
there's
the plot
plenty
and
of
footage that upset both the
anti-black
creators and the
media out there
audience,
for
never
sure.
shies away from its queerness
And
at
it
any
just
point.
keeps-
A strength of
it just-
fortitude
there's just
due
a
to the
lot
film's
out
goal to
there.
be a pacifist
We can only
anti-war
just try to make the
movie
future
in
better
Vietnam
and
era.
laugh
This was
at
another
the
thing
laugh at
that
the past,
surprised me
acknowledge the
when I
past, laugh
watched
at the
it.
past, move on to a
Westerns
better
and guns
future.
are inseparable.
Even in some
A
cases where
cowboy's gun
they
is
try
like
something,
an
they're
extension
trying.
of his arm. He's incomplete without it. That's how the genre works. But in Zachariah, the characters are only truly happy and freed when they throw down their guns. It is a staunchly anti-gun movie. When
trap,
Zachariah
please, and
gives
thank
into
you.
temptation and starts gunslinging again, the old
Sorry,
man who
cussing about
serves as his
video
mentor
games, don't
character
mind
says
me.
to him,
I've been in this gulag for a while.
and when Zachariah finally learns this lesson about the consequences of his actions, he is able to become that mentor. And he teaches this lesson to Matthew when he returns to challenge Zachariah to a duel. Matthew has just become the best gunslinger there is, but he still feels empty and thinks he can fill that emptiness the way that anyone else out there would, by challenging the most important person in his life to a duel and winning.
This is very
Because
samurai
Zachariah
almost,
is the last
damn.
best gunslinger there is. But Zachariah won't take the bait because he loves Matthew too much.
This is for vampires, not friends! I'm gonna kill you! Kill? Haven't you learned anything yet?
So he runs away.
That's a good fucking
and
line.
Matthew
This is
finally
for
breaks down.
vampires,
It's
not
at this
for
moment
friends.
That the whole story comes full circle. At
Damn,
the
that's
beginning of the
good.
film, Zachariah had asked Matthew to forge him silver bullets. Matthew only had enough silver to make one, and for the whole film, Zachariah wears Matthew's silver bullet around his
Actually, you know
neck
what? Take me
because
the
the
fuck up outta
silver
here.
bullet
Maybe I'll
represents
go back
their
to sleep again,
relationship.
and
it's this silver bullet that finally kills Matthew's fury.
I don't have any bullets.
Only need one!
It's when Matthew breaks down crying and looks at the bullet again that he realizes what he really meant by that sentence. Neither of them ever needed glory or to be the best, whatever that even
this
really
shit.
means. They
rock-
only
goes
needed
rock away.
one. They needed each other. And so, finally enlightened,
Stop being cute,
Matthew
movie. I'm
reunites
trying
with
to be
Zachariah.
murderous.
It's really astonishing on a lot of levels, I think. For a movie that so many people said was mediocre or hated because of its production issues, it has so much heart in a way that so few
It goes
westerns
African with the
of the time
gun.
did. For so many decades, the male protagonists in westerns were
Everyone knows that
defined by
there's
the
a
lack
bunch
of
of
emotion,
Western meets
and their
Jason-
stoicness was their strength.
In the long run,
High
yeah, there
Noon, he
definitely
just kinda
was. I don't know if there
smiles
was
a bit.
one,
In Red
many of
River,
them
he just
back
kinda
in the
smiles a
day,
bit.
I
In
guess.
Johnny
I don't know
Guitar,
when
he just
samurai
kinda
movies
smiles
got
a bit.
popular.
Zachariah is an extremely pointed
in the
cut back
West.
to that whole idea. In Zachariah, the
Oh
men
my God, get me
scream,
out, I
they
fucking
cry,
hit stun.
they
Oh
openly
my
declare
days.
love, even to the people they don't
believe
end
I
up
got fucking
loving.
hit stunned
They
into
overcome
damage.
violence. They tell the
Kinda pissed off
audience
about
who
that.
was in the midst of a horrible war, things don't need to be like this. We could do better.
Yeah,
It's
I guess
tough
I'm not
to
sure if
find
like samurai movies were
that feel
popular at that
comfortable
point
enough
in the
with themselves
U.S.
to be that
Because I just
earnest,
do not know the history of
especially
movies very
today.
well.
It's a
Hence why I'm
stark
watching
difference
this, because I
in
just know
ideals of
jack
past
shit.
generations, calling to mind the ways that John fucking Wayne and Howard
Cursed
Hawks
50
reacted
was
to
inspired by
High
Westerns?
Noon.
Oh,
Wayne
okay,
told
so it was around the
Playboy
same
magazine
time.
in 1971,
That fucking rules.
It was the most un-American
I
thing
love
I'd
learning
ever
stuff.
seen in my whole life. And Hawks complained,
No, from
"I
the
didn't
US,
think a
good
good
luck.
sheriff
You
was
ain't-
going to
you
go
ain't
running
squeezing
around
anything
like a
from this
chicken with
rock
its head
named
cut off asking
Matesian."
for help. No matter how manly you are,
All right, let me eat one
even
of
if
face really
you
quick.
win the fight and get the
I don't
girl
have any
in
more
the end.
paintballs though, so that sucks.
Asking for help is weak. To High Noon's credit, I really
yeah,
enjoyed that
there's
film.
a lot of
I
guys who
think it
still,
actually
a lot of older
aged
guys who
pretty
follow
well.
that mentality
Can't say the
nowadays.
same for most
Asking
of
for help is
Wayne's
weak. I'll
films.
never
And
ask for
people
help.
felt
It's like
the
you should
same way
totally ask for
during
help, honestly.
Vietnam. People didn't just feel
And people are
lied
getting
to
better about that
America's
nowadays,
mythological
honestly.
cowboy past by the government. They felt lied to by John Wayne
Fistful of Dollars is
himself.
Yojimbo?
Christopher McCullough
Really?
and Zoe Trot
I fucking
again.
love
Doctors
Yojimbo.
dubbed a post-Vietnam stress disorder the John
I
Wayne
fucking love
syndrome.
Yojimbo.
And Kovic's disillusionment with this war echoed across war journalism.
So,
veteran memoirs
I
and
should watch
interviews. One
Fistful
Marine
of
in
Dollars.
Dispatches praised the movie he's in. And another veteran
I've heard of
recalled,
it, but
"When I
many a
went to
times, but I've never
Vietnam,
actually seen
I
it."
believed in Jesus
But
Christ
yeah,
and John
holy
Wayne.
shit, please don't
After
squeeze
Vietnam,
me. Do not
both
squeeze
went
a
down the
TZ in.
tubes. It don't
TZ
mean nothing.
is,
Still another recounted.
a very large
I lost
rock,
my
and you'll hurt
footing
yourself
and
if you
slipped
do.
into a ditch. Went under the water and came up and out, screaming, "This ain't a war movie. This ain't a John Wayne movie." It took me 6 months in Vietnam to wake up. Movies could no longer help me to deflect reality. America was finding no regeneration through violence in Vietnam. Zachariah is the polar opposite of this John Wayne syndrome. It rebukes masculine stoicism and individualism. The characters need each other, and they embrace male intimacy.
You've
and
seen
they're
Yojimbo.
stronger for that. Gary Needham points out
Shut
that
up.
Zachariah depicts men, even if they're not
I have to
interpreted
see him
as
back
gay,
to back now.
as
It's
unbound
been
by
like
the
years since I saw
masculine
Yojimbo because
paranoia
I
that
spent like
surrounds touch,
a
feelings,
summer
and
of my college
emotions.
years
It's a message that
just
surpasses
watching a bunch
whether
of
or not
movies, like classic
Zachariah and
movies,
Matthew
and that's
are
when I
intended
watched
to
it.
be
So it was a
or
long time
really
ago, like
were
10 plus
gay,
years.
Whatever you believe, the love between them is a message
Get
that
me out of
applies to
fucking hit stun,
everybody.
please, and thank you. Get me out of here.
I think we can all agree
God.
that something weird happened in the 80s. I don't even
Oh,
need
this
to
is a-
say what it was.
everything that they
Something
do
just
is
popped into your
really
head,
fucking good.
Whatever it is you
They
thought
have
of,
very,
you're
very good
correct.
video
But one thing
essays.
that happened in particular was a massive uptick in media visibility for queer folks. As the tragedy of the AIDS epidemic ravaged through people's lives, the voices
cool.
of the gay liberation movement grew ever louder, demanding visibility, justice, and respect. The effects of this visibility resulted in more queer characters in media, but
Ow.
unfortunately,
Fine, whatever,
not
fuck you.
always represented with much compassion. Gay characters were often
Oh yeah, Kaz
the
Rowe.
joke
I'll link it in the
or
chat here in a
completely
second when I can
mean-spirited.
stop fighting this
So,
goddamn
it's incredibly
monster.
odd that one of these Western gay comedy characters
that was
I
so
found
short. What the fuck,
actually
game?
turned out to subvert
Why?
the usual characterization in many ways. Where do I even begin
put this fucking
with
bomb down. I've had
Zorro
enough.
the Gay Blade? Released in
God.
1981, this parody
is
of the classic
happening?
character Zorro, written
Yeah,
first
absolutely.
by Johnston
Oh my gosh,
McCauley in
I just need to
1919,
not die for
follows
half a
Diego, the
fucking
playboy
second.
son of the original Zorro, played by George Hamilton, as he returns
Or I know
home to
somebody said
historic
in
Los
chat that they've
Angeles,
watched their stuff too,
discover
so
that
if
his
they can
father
link them
has
as well.
died and bequeathed him the title of
Okay, you
Zorro
already
in
nailed
order
it.
to
Thank you
save
so
the
much,
people
TZ.
from the ruthless rule
Fucking
of
out
his
here getting my
childhood
ass
rival,
beat.
Captain Esteban, played by
Jeez.
Ron Liebman, who is giving the performance of his life, it seems like.
I have seen this movie. It's really good.
When Diego injures his foot and can no longer be Zorro, the title must now fall to his gay twin brother Ramon, also played by George Hamilton, who now goes by the name Bunny Wigglesworth, because their dad had sent him to the British Navy to become a man, but it ended up just making him even more gay.
My stream
You
command
know,
next best? E-Duck?
because the Navy is
I have
gay,
no idea what
we
that.
know.
I have
know
no
it
idea
looks
what
like
that
it, but
command
George
is.
Hamilton
I'm
isn't
gonna search it up
wearing
next time
brown
though.
face here, by the way.
Actually, do me a favor,
Apparently,
TZ, and
he
add
was
that to the
just
cool
known
list
for
so I can actually like
having an
hopefully
intense
look at that list and be
suntan,
like, oh yeah, I was going to
like
do
it
that
was
because I'm
his
going to
thing.
forget.
Anyway,
I have
it goes
terrible
without
recall
saying that
memory.
the casting choices
These were a weird
not
period.
fantastic. Watching it and enjoying the movie, I think, needs to come from the same place as like enjoying the movie Nacho Libre, I guess. And a lot of the enjoyment comes from the performances themselves. What I want to discuss for the purpose of this video is the interesting decisions that the movie made in the way that it portrayed Bunny Wigglesworth. For a movie from the 80s, I fully expected its portrayal of this extremely over-the-top, stereotypical and exaggerated character to be completely mean-spirited. What surprised me was the fact that Bunny Wigglesworth is in fact portrayed as the hero of the story. He's the one who helms the title of Zorro for most of the runtime, and when he changes the Zorro outfits to be more flashy and literally fruity,
He wore a fruit.
He was dressed yellow like a big banana.
I think he is trying to tell me something. First a plum, then a banana. Green, like a lime, like an avocado.
people love the
Now
look,
looking
and
back
he
at
is
that,
only
holy
ever
shit, he's
mildly
really
derided
laying it
by
on
the
thick.
antagonist.
He really is.
And it only happened once. Esteban doesn't hate Zorro because he's obviously gay. He hates him
Zorro.
because
He
he's
just hates Zorro.
Not to mention, Bunny Wigglesworth is the
That's
only
really
reason
fucking
the
good.
day is
It's
saved in
really
the end.
fucking good.
He's always portrayed
I need
as
to rewatch
confident
this as
and
well.
competent,
Holy shit.
A stark contrast
Ironically,
to
a
the way
movie that
other
my mom just
similarly
loves
characterized
Zorro.
characters from this
And so that was like a
period
part of
were
like the
written.
whole things that we
Often
used to
feminine or
watch.
flamboyant gay men were written to be a liability to the plot. Or
My mom was
an
both
annoyance, or
antithetical
simply there for
and
comedic
positive
value
to
or to be put down.
my
Bunny
own coming
Wigglesworth,
out,
on the other hand,
ironically.
was much of a joke. Details of his character are.
She
is
would not
never
let me watch
once
Sailor Moon because
the
it was for
joke. He's
girls.
loved by his
And then,
brother,
but then she would show me like
mistakenly
Zorro movies like
loved by
these.
Charlotte,
It's like,
and beloved by the peasants he protects.
where are
It's
you
really
coming from here? And she
interesting.
watched Star
And
Trek
he's
too,
actually
so
not the only
she's adjacent to
queer-coded
it.
character in the story. It's constantly made apparent that Esteban is attracted to Diego.
But why you see me walk before? Yes, but you always do it with such manliness. I never tired of watching you.
And though he's the villain and his weird crush on Diego is clearly meant to be a joke,
So
it's
God, I feel
never
that.
met with
Good, it's
hostility
same
from Diego
brain cell.
himself. Anyway,
For
the movie has some
better
good
or for
jokes,
worse,
but the
and
casting
I don't know.
might turn
I can't
you
say
off
if it's for
from
better
it,
or
and
for
it's
worse. It just
understandable
is.
if it does. But
All right, I
Zorro
think
the
the
Gay Blade, whether you
Raytheon
agree that it's a
flew
Western or not,
away.
signaled a new presence of undisputable queerness
Brathy and
in the
Raytheon.
Western
I do
genre,
not
and
know how to
one
pronounce
movie
these
in the new
names.
millennium would shift the conversation around Westerns themselves forever. Of course, we can't not talk about 2005's Brokeback Mountain, dubbed
Yeah.
forever in history as the gay
still flying
cowboy
around? Oh,
movie.
God.
To say that this
Hey,
film
could you,
made
like, go to
tidal waves
bed
culturally when
and
it was
ignore me
released
for a
is
little
an
bit?
unbelievable
Thank you.
understatement. The story
How's the
follows
grind
a
going? Still
rodeo
fighting
cowboy
still
named
fighting the
Jack
Raytheon.
Twist, and the
Or
ranch
Raffles.
hand
It's
and
Raffles. Never
Delmar,
mind. It's
who
Raffles
fall
this
in
time.
love while
Forgot.
sheep herding in
I have never
Wyoming.
actually seen
Though both
Brokeback
of them
Mountain, and
eventually
it's
marry women, they
an
can't
embarrassing
forget
part
each
for me.
other, and
I really
unfortunately,
want to watch
one
it.
of
I just
them
never did.
dies in the end. Let's just say that the social reaction to this movie was explosive. And
I
brought
do
to
remember the
surface
social
fact
reaction to
that
it, though,
for
around that
generations
time.
of people,
Jesus.
a cowboy isn't a cowboy unless he's John Wayne. When Brokeback Mountain came
Okay,
out,
good. It's
one
flinching.
cowboy
That's
from
good.
Wyoming
It's gonna
named
hurt me, though.
Jim Bob Zimmershe
Don't hurt me.
declared,
Don't
"There
run at
ain't
me."
no queer in cowboy, and I don't care for
why would
anyone
I-
suggesting there is.
Why would
I've
I
been
ever-
doing this job all my life, and I ain't never met no gay cowboy. John Wayne and Will Rogers, they made real cowboy movies.
I ain't
They
net-
portrayed us like we
real-
are. They've gone and killed
The
John
game
Wayne with
lagged
this
me
movie.
out.
Many people truly felt that in
Wow, that
challenging
sucks.
conventional ideas of what a
Not in a
cowboy
bad
is,
position,
Brokeback
but
Mountain was
wow, that
insulting
fucking
a
sucks.
fundamental keystone not only of America's
The
culture,
game fucking
but of a
lagged
lot
out
of
and
people's
killed me.
personal identity. The idea of the stone masculine.
Yeah, kill John Wayne with that
brawny,
movie.
straight
Good.
cowboy for
Don't
so
come
many
back.
years
You're not
had been
welcome around
so
these parts.
intensely
Yo, what's up,
enforced,
Lex? How you
challenged after
doing?
Vietnam,
Happy
and then
Thursday to you. Hopefully you're
reinforced
having a
in
good
the
one.
90s, and especially during the nationalism explosion after 9/11, that one movie sympathetic to the very real truth of
meat
gay
here.
cowboys felt like a personal
Apropos of
affront.
the current
It's not
conversation.
like Brokeback Mountain was saying that all cowboys are gay, but that's how people acted. No,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
There have to be
There's
no
a
gay
slight
cowboys
subset of
ever,
anything.
because
You're saying
cowboys are the
everything is
ideal of
gay.
American masculinity.
Stop
Just look at
shoving the
John
gay
Wayne.
agenda in
If
our
some cowboys
face.
Are gay, well,
This
it
is
could be any
one
of my
movie
partners,
of
couldn't
literally
it? It could be
10,000.
you. It could be me. If I have to
Please,
accept that
please,
gay people
shut
don't
your
always
ass up
look
and
or
sit the
act
fuck
one
down.
way, then don't I have to accept gay people? No. Of course not. As Lee Boucher and Sarah Pinto write, in political terms,
just
Brokeback
chilling out with
was a
some Monster Hunter,
groundbreaking event,
hopefully getting a
if
step
only
closer to
because it
finishing the
brought
game
into sharp
today.
relief connections between
But yeah, still
homosexuality,
a lot of work to go
homosexuality,
here,
and
unfortunately.
homophobia. In
Ugh,
gaying up the
why would I
cowboy,
even-
Brokeback
why would I even
Mountain
climb that
brazenly
right
set a
there?
homosexual love
Terrible
story
idea.
in the grand national
Please.
and decidedly heterosexual narrative genre
Fine.
of the Western. Indeed, the homoerotic
Fine, I'll
subtext of
take
the
it.
Western was convincingly brought into view by the
Yeah,
film.
people
Within the
are all
film's
about, it's
depiction
all
of
or
Jack and
nothing.
Ennis'
It's
time
nerf
on
or
Brokeback,
nothing.
There was a constant
It was
connection
like,
made between their boyish
it's
games
closer
and
to
manly
nothing, I
love.
promise
There
you.
were strong figural echoes, for example, between scenes of tumbling
And it
clay
pisses me off every time we say
and
something like, we say,
scenes of
hey, this
tumbling
thing could
tent.
improve
By
society.
juxtaposing
And
images
people are
of
like,
Jack and
well,
Ennis
it
in
doesn't fix
homosocial
all the
play
problems,
and
so we
then
can't
homosexual
do it. And it's
practice,
like,
Brokeback
we could
Mountain
get
made the
steps
implicit homoeroticism of the
towards
Western explicit.
good thing.
Brokeback Mountain's
Come
criticism
on.
landed squarely on its homosexuality,
Just
but
because it's
failed
not
to
perfect
address the
doesn't mean
film's
we
core
shouldn't
message
fucking
about
not
violent
do
moral
anything about it.
homophobia. It's like people were so anxious about having to address a problem that most straight people perpetuate, they swung instead towards promoting the film as a love story anyone can understand, or just hating on the fact that it was gay in the first place. At the same time, a lot of the press was
mean
very
that
adamant
gay
that
people
Brokeback was
love
not
people
a
like
gay
normal
cowboy
people? people.
Even
I
Jake
don't
Gyllenhaal himself
understand.
railed against that tagline, insisting that the story isn't about gayness, it's about love. Okay? The truth is, it's all the above. People got so caught up in arguing over the fine details of
That's
what
different.
this
Can you fix
movie
everything
is,
at
they
once? Yeah,
failed
exactly.
to adequately think
Can you
about
just
its actual
solve all
message,
the problems
a clear,
here?
unintentional
Please and
reaction
thank you.
that happened because
All right.
straight
Maybe I won't
audiences
fucking
just
die
didn't
this
want to
time.
have to interrogate their own
Just kidding, I'm gonna
complicitness
fucking
in
die.
a real-life issue that killed one of these characters. The American Cowboy persisted not only as a
actually
tool
good
of
damage.
America's
I'm willing to just do a
fantastical
lot of damage
historical
here.
identity, but as its fantastical
Ooh, I got hit by the
gender
leg,
identity
so I can
and
actually
sexuality
be safe
too.
for
As
a
we
fucking
discussed in
change.
my Queer Old
That'd
West
be great.
video, the West
Nope.
was a
I ran too
lot
close.
less
Way too
straight
close to
and
the sun.
white than John Wayne
Alright,
Flick's
get me the
led
fuck out of here.
generations of people to believe.
Just reset the situation
and
again.
those ideas about the American cowboy mythos still persist, as people's
Very much
reactions
so.
to Power of the Dog have proved. When the next gay
of
cowboy
the
film
Dog.
comes around, and it
I don't
will,
actually know what that is.
how will people react? I guess only time will tell. Thank you for
Right.
watching this exploration of the gay
All right.
cowboy films of Hollywood
Let
and
me
beyond
take a second to
cast.
actually
I'm
pause
sorry if I
the
look a
actual
little haggard
game
today.
itself.
I was in the emergency room all day yesterday and had a death in the family last week.
Okay,
so
I know Casro was
it's been
already
kind of
linked,
a
but
rough time for
let me just get that
lately,
in the
and
chat
so
just in
wasn't
case
easy getting this
if
video out.
folks had missed the opportunity. So
Honestly,
this is
I had a lot
Casro. They
more
do
to
a
say
lot
too,
of
but I just
LGBT
feel so sick that this was the most I could
content,
do
like just
for now.
entirely,
Definitely
like
check
just
out
like
the
and the
sources I
history
posted,
of,
though.
and they do a
Regardless,
great
I hope
job
you
and they do
enjoyed it,
really
and
good
I hope
research.
this video
So
inspires you to
if you
watch a
like
few
this,
pretty good
you will like
films
literally
and
everything
appreciate the
else they have
historical
put
value
together.
of others,
They are
but maybe
seriously
don't waste your
really
time. I don't know.
good.
Of course, everyone has
Please
different
check them out.
opinions. There might be some films on this list that I gave a hard time, but maybe you loved them. Were there any historical gay
Artesian, look, you
westerns
told
I
me
didn't
not to
mention
squeeze
today that
you,
like?
so
Let
I'm
me know
not
in the
squeezing you for
comments. So
for
until
any
next
sort of
time,
extra
wash thy
help.
hands,
No,
wear thy
I appreciate
mask.
that. Like, let me
And
just get that in there
remember,
for people who might have
drifts
came in a
ain't got no
little bit late.
friends.
Fun upbeat music. That's right. All right, let me get the next video going here real quick. This one is gonna be a lot long. Well, not a lot longer, I guess, but I have no idea what to expect from this video, this person, or anything like that. This is unknown territory for me as well. So if the video sucks, we hit the bricks. But this is I like hearing things about like frauds and throughout history, especially the more comedic ones, like, you know, like a Zen master, psychics, and stuff like that. I don't know. That's a jam for me. I like seeing the downfall of people eventually. And usually the way that they've been done found is pretty good. So we'll see what happens here. But let me balance the volumes and stuff like that all the same.
They turned to celebrity photographer Harry
Okay.
Langdon.
Pretty
One by
good. I
one,
think we
he
go up
would
a
direct
little
their
bit
gaze
more.
into the camera, with their heads backlit in a glowing halo. It was a look so many celebrities of the decade sought that one
True.
could
That is a
hardly
lot,
doubt
actually.
from
Now
the
I'm thinking about it.
start
Like,
if
wait a
they
second. That
hadn't
was
been
a
photographed
thing.
by Harry Langdon.
All right. I love you, Artesian. just
But
want to
in
get that out there.
1984, a man named Dr. Frederick Lenz commissioned
All right.
Langdon for
Let
a
me know if the
series of
volume's
photo
off or any sort of like thing like
The
that. I will
glamour
fix
shots
it.
that
But
resulted began
I
to
wanna
appear
resume here.
across California on college campus
Artesian.
poster boards, newspapers,
Who's your
and
buddy?
magazines,
Who's your
frequently
buddy?
filling up the entire printed page. But it was unclear who Dr. Frederick Lenz was.
Well, by now, probably most of you have seen this photograph of this man.
Oh, shit.
Some of his portraits were
Good audio
postcards.
bounce, which is you currently.
Others, Dr. Lenz would devote
You know what?
to
I'll
listing
accept.
his past lives, where
I
he'd
accept.
been a
That's
Japanese
fine.
Zen master and a Tibetan lama.
Oh, it's
But
always
his most widely
foreign
circulated
master
portrait
of
would
thing.
feature only his face,
Martial
along with
arts
a
was
simple
really
call to
around the 80s
action,
that same time.
Meditate with Rama.
Hi, my name is Rama, and today I'm here.
We
in
have
the
hella fun
eternity,
here.
Where I am every day. Thousands have become familiar.
Things are
with the
taken
gentle
seriously to
expression
a
and
very
halo
certain degree,
rule in
and
the
then
sand
beyond
has
that point,
become
we
the
fuck around and
trademark
find out.
Of Zen Master Rama.
You believe Dr. Lenz is enlightened?
Yes, I do.
Fully enlightened.
Dr. Lenz seemed to appear out of nowhere, brute forcing his way
Bob
into the
Ross looking
public
motherfucker, but
consciousness.
probably with none
To
of the charm.
casual observer, his visibility campaign seemed nothing more than an advertisement for meditation
Betty,
classes.
please.
But
He just
to
got
his
on
hundreds
screen.
of already existing
Don't blow him up already.
students, his face was meant to reach those who'd been followers of his for centuries, reminding them of who they really were and calling
Come on,
them
get one more
back
hit.
to him
Okay,
in
that's
order
fine.
to finish their liberation.
We need to
Oh, sweet.
scour the globe for his students.
Oh, I was hoping I
and
could continue to get the
reunite
spin.
them, because we need to save the world from some unknown evil, or the evil of
The,
the
oh,
world.
I was just talking about the karate part as an adjacency of thing I knew. He also does the karate part. He's every fraud. He's every single 80s comedic fraud.
Lenz was a clever liar. He was entertaining. He presented himself as successful, and this kind of loose Buddhism that he offered was appealing to a lot of young seekers that wanted
Have you
to
ever
make
heard of
money
fraud?
and
This
be
guy did
like
it.
him.
In order to complete their liberation, each follower must master not only the disciplines of the ancient world,
One more time. Come at me.
Look at him go.
but prove their supremacy
Oh my
in the
God.
modern
Speaking
world
of
by
frauds, I
climbing to
really
the
like
top
videos
of
about Kung
America's
Fu
most
fraud
profitable
bastards.
industries by any
It
means
never gets old
necessary.
for me.
Most of
I'm
them
very
didn't know
simple.
anything
I'm
about
very
coding.
himbo.
Sometimes they'd get caught, put on literal blacklist because they were destroying code.
To find out what it was like to be inside, I spoke with a former follower who joined Lenz's organization when he was 20 years old.
Like, if you were to ask, like, how deep did I go?
That's
I
wow.
looked forward to jumping in front of a bullet to save him.
Oh shit.
I looked forward to that. I was like, I can't wait till his life is on the line.
I can't wait for him to
I'm the one
fucking
who
potentially
gets to
die,
save
and I'm
him.
gonna be the one.
And one of Lenz's
He's gonna
most
do it. I'm
committed
gonna save him. I'm
public
gonna save his
detractors
ass.
who
Yeah, get
threatened to
down,
take it
get
all
down,
away.
Mr. Guru.
How many followers of
Motherfucker.
Frederick Lenz did you attempt to
Hey,
deprogram?
Rathlos, get down. Get down.
How many of those would you say were successful?
I think all but 4.
Wow.
This is the story of Dr. Frederick Lenz,
That hit me.
or as he was better known, Zen Master Rama.
You're gonna hit me.
It was a psychological, potentially arguable, physical
I think I'm
abusive
stoned off of that. Yep.
relationship with this
that
guy.
was
It
just
was
set
not
play. I got hit
as
3
it was
times.
presented.
Stood up, knocked down. Stood up, knocked down. Stood up, knocked down. Nothing I could do. The coolest
I'm a
YouTube
teacher of
video.
enlightenment.
Count Dante, supplicant
That
count.
is to say,
Yeah, I've heard of Count Dante,
I'm
but
enlightened.
still put it on the list anyway
And I
because that's
enjoy
worth a rewatch.
being
Honestly,
a vehicle
that is
of
a
the
that is
expressions
worth a
of the
rewatch.
universe.
It's
How
so
did you
good.
happen to meet Frederick Lenz?
It started in college, where I was in my senior year, and
Oh,
saw on
Maria's
the
getting
walls
down
of
all
my
right.
college
Look at her
these
go.
beautiful, shiny posters about learn how to meditate from the Boston Meditation Society. So my fiance at the time and I went to one of these classes, and at first they talked a lot about what, we meditate so we can find enlightenment. We can be
We can
calmer
condense
and connected
it.
spiritually, and what historically those who have found
Oh no, an
enlightenment,
hour.
like
We definitely
true
have never
enlightenment,
watched an
look
hour-long
like
video on
in
this channel,
our,
and especially not
historical art.
recently.
This sort of
course
golden
not.
glow in the paintings, right? And so some of us who are spiritually sensitive enough, when you're around one of these enlightened beings, you can actually see the golden glow. And I'm kind of nerdy, so afterwards I would kind of go up and ask them questions and just say, historically, what was it like with blah, 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 blah. They were like, listen, we can tell that you are sort of, you vibe, your aura or whatever vibrates higher than
As
most
someone who had
people.
college friends who
You
went to a
must
lot
have
of,
studied this in past
we'll call it
lives.
multi-level
Listen,
marketing.
we follow
I hear a lot of
one
those
these
same
guys
phrases
that
being
we
used.
think
Thankfully,
we believe
I
is enlightened.
went to school for marketing, so I kind of
And
hear
we'd
some of those
love you
things,
to
and that's why this
check
is always
him
so
out.
interesting to me.
There
The
is
human
going to be
conditioning.
a
Like I'm not
$500
as a marketer,
plate
marketing's fucked up.
dinner
But seeing
in
it
New
like go
York.
to like these next
They were gonna
levels
pay
is
for
like
the whole thing.
I
They were
see
like,
it.
Listen, we've
It's
got
like,
so much from
That
this
fit the
guy
show?
we
It could.
follow named
Who said it can't?
Dr. Frederick
Look, we're gonna be
Lenz,
here for a
or
while.
what we call
We're
his
gonna be
Rama.
playing
We've
Monster
got so
Hunter
much
for a
from
little
him,
bit
we wanna
here.
give back. And
We're gonna
we
fuck
can-
around and
so we're
find
happy
out.
to pay your way, and we were like, okay, because we're like 20.
Yeah.
We all drive down together. We go to this place.
There's
and
always a
there's
group
like
gathering, a
300,
meal
200 or 300 people there,
to empower
all in
other people
tuxes, and
who
a lot of them
have
are doctors,
somewhat
lawyers,
leaning same
computer programmers,
mindsets.
and computer programmers, which I noticed sort of a
Oh,
pattern.
that's so
in all
sad
of
to
that.
see. I hate that so fucking
And
much.
then this tall guy who has sort of like blondish curly hair, kind of like this, but bigger. At some
But
point,
bigger.
I saw him in like a leather
He
jacket,
really decked
and
out
like,
in them
Ray
clothes.
Bans, and he did like a 5-minute monologue stand-up routine.
Wow.
In other words, meditation has been turned into
I can't believe I fucking missed that. Oh,
a
God, God.
tool of
Okay.
the bourgeoisie.
Oh my God, please. Please.
No, I'm sorry. It's the wrong incarnation. I get, I'm in different ones at different times, and I got to bring it around and get it straight. Sorry, this is the right America.
And then he said, okay, everybody, we're going to dim the lights and let's meditate. For those who haven't been with me before, don't close your eyes like you usually do. Just like have a soft focus on me.
Then open your eyes a little bit and watch me meditate. You're not just watching me, the body. You're watching the energy fields here. You're relaxing your eyes, not looking too sharply, gazing, and just watching.
He just closed his eyes and he was doing a thing. I don't remember. And within 30 seconds or a minute, the whole room glowed gold, and I got this wave of euphoria that I never experienced before.
Huh.
I was like,
Interesting.
oh my God, if this dude can do that as an enlightened being in minutes,
Nice.
I'm in for life.
Yeah, fair. That would be an extreme sell if you can, you know, you
This
get that
man
first
can
hit.
turn a room
It's
gold
similar to
in
drugs in its own
60
way.
seconds, read one of Lenz's Bay Area advertisements. Imagine what he can do
The first
to
hit
you.
is free type of thing.
It's a claim that would be echoed for years.
Turns the room gold. That's all you see is gold light. Kind of like if you looked into the sun and squinted.
Even decades later, it's difficult to find discussion of Frederick Lenz without someone mentioning the golden
he
light.
fucking left. God damn it. Oh, stop it.
But not everyone had such a theatrical introduction.
What was it then, Annie, that made you go, wow?
Well, first of all, I didn't go, wow. I listened to his presentation. I thought he was witty. I thought he was a nice person. And I resonated with things he said. Then he said, let's meditate. And I had a good meditation. I had a very good meditation.
I don't know.
Dr. Lenz's brand of meditation was not unlike what was already beginning to catch on in the West, with the goal of achieving better focus and control over one's emotions by quieting the mind.
Our mind is always in motion. You'll notice you're
I'm going to
always
exit the room so he
thinking
doesn't see
something.
me and wake
You're
up.
worried about tomorrow, paying the bills. We're thinking, images are flashing through our mind, seeing somebody you'd like to see, remembering something that happened in the past, our desires, our feelings.
His
feeling
suit, though, I'm not
guilty,
going to lie. His
feeling
Columbo suit, pretty
expectation.
good. But his other fucking
Meditation
suit,
is the opposite
that rainbow suit,
of
all right,
that.
I'm not going to lie. That
The
kind
basic
of
technique
whips.
is learned in seconds. A student focuses their attention on the rise and fall of their breath or a place on their body. Keeping eyes closed is common, although Lenz often asked his students to look in his direction, a technique he called gazing. And when
Yeah,
random
unfortunately,
thoughts intrude,
Final
the
Gamer
student
James, you're
gently brings
literally
their
like
attention back to the focal
minutes
point.
too late.
I would wake
We
up.
just started the
at
next
like 6 in the
video.
morning,
You're
which
just
I've never
minutes too
done
late,
in
but
my
I still have the copy
entire
and paste on me
life.
anyway, so let
And
me
I
just
would
shoot that
immediately
over
meditate
anyway.
for 45 minutes.
You
I
can find it
was
on
so
Kaz Rose's
motivated
channel.
and
They have it over
focused.
there, and
I
it's
was
really.
a
I mean, everything to
4.0
do is really
student for
fucking
my,
good, but
last
that was also
semester out of
another great
being a
video.
B-
Yeah, you
student
missed the gay.
forever.
I would like to teach
Oh
you
no,
to
we
look
might
into the
watch more
depths of
Kaz Rowe
yourself,
videos in
and
the
I'm afraid you're
future,
gonna be
which
shocked.
focuses a
You're gonna
lot
find
on
out that you're much
gay
more
history.
beautiful
So
than you realize.
I suddenly started loving running.
Typical
And so I would go for a run for 2 or 3 miles. I'd come back. If I didn't have school that day, I
God damn
would
it.
work hard at work at Friendly's, scooping ice cream, but being super focused and being like the best I can be.
And that you can be happy even in the most adverse
Columbo-looking ass,
circumstances
though.
if you
All
can
right, they're
do this
definitely outta
one
here.
thing.
God damn it.
Learn to make your mind
I ain't
quiet.
finished this quest
Still your
either.
thoughts.
Oh,
Turn my
and
gay
a lot of
card now
times
in.
I would
I'll
meditate late
accept
at
it.
night
I'll hold it
and
on to
find
you
that I
until you're
really
able to
didn't need a lot of sleep,
recuperate
so
it.
I'd be
I
working
got you,
extra
homie.
hard, reading books.
How you doing, James?
that
Good to
he
see you, buddy.
suggested I read on top of all of my homework.
Because then it's as if a curtain opens, and behind that curtain is light, ecstasy, perfection, beauty, and reality. There's nothing
Maybe
to be
not.
afraid of. There's only life, and we all live forever.
So it's hard for someone to go, I think you're in something destructive because it doesn't look that way in the beginning.
You're just saying I feel great and everything's going great, so you roll with
But
it.
in 1989, a computer
I know some friends who
programmer
did get
from
addicted to some
Oregon
things
named
because of
Brenda
that, too.
Kerber, who'd been a meditation student of Lenz's for the past 3 years, went missing. Others would disappear soon after, as well as students cutting off contact with their families
Yeah,
after
that's a
they
big
began
one.
attending
That's
Lenz's
an
workshops.
unfortunately big one.
Reports even surfaced of students.
So yeah, we're just
giving
watching
up
videos
custody
while
of
I
their
try to grind in
children
Monster
in order to
Hunter
follow the meditation
because
group across the
Monster Hunter is
country.
grueling. It's honestly grueling.
My
It's a grueling
fiancé and
grind.
I, we lived
These
together.
boss
We
battles
went to
really fucking
Boston
suck,
to meet with
and
one of the
I
inner circle.
have no idea
And
how
we
to
had
make
dinner
things
with
better.
him, and
So
he
that
talked
it's
about
not like just me
relationships and
watching
energy
me
and stuff like
try
that. And
to
on the way
fail at these
home,
fucking fights
we
that I have to do.
spontaneously, the both of us at the same
I'm
time
just
realized
instead
we
just
should
going
be
to turn on videos and watch them
because it's such a
instead.
drain on our
So I can at
battery
least
life.
multitask a little bit, and other
we
folks
talked
can
about
enjoy some of the videos that I get to
how
watch in
we were
my
gonna
spare
split
time
up
as well.
all the stuff that we owned. It's like, oh, you can get the CD, those CDs, and these CDs will be mine, and those books and my book. It's like, do you want the bed or do you want the couch? She's like, I'll take the couch. And then a few days later, she was like, I don't want to leave. You know, I really love you and I want to stay together. And I was like, oh, you're so silly. It's just going to destroy us.
So who was Dr. Frederick Lenz?
But unlike I guess like mini-mat content, it's, you know, It's intentionally aimed to be good and interesting content for me.
Frederick Lenz
Instead of seeing
dedicated
what
his
horrible
first book
atrocities can be
titled
created in the kitchen.
Lifetimes, True Accounts
I don't
of
think I can watch 2 hours of that
to an
and
individual
be
named
clocked in
Sri
any way, shape, or
Chinmoy.
form.
In Lenz's second
cannot
book,
find this
Sri
fucking monster. It's
Chinmoy
gone.
received not only the dedication, but credit for the ideas presented in the book itself, disclosing
But
that
this is Monster
Lenz
Hunter
had
as
been
well,
a
yeah.
student of Chinmoy's for the past 10
Wait,
years.
100% watch for one of these. One of the weirdest guys you could ever. I think I've been looking for that one actually.
A genuine guru.
Oh, there it is.
Really
I just have to go in.
genuine.
Unfortunately.
Sri Chinmoy.
Sri Chinmoy is our next guest on the program, and he is the holder of the United Nations Medallion for Peace.
Yep, I just have to go in right now because I do not have any
In
time.
1970s Queens, New York, there were few local figures that baffled the media quite like Chinmoy Kumar Ghosh, who'd adopted the honorific title of Sri before leaving Bangladesh for the United States. After
okay,
settling
fine.
into Queens, Chinmoy began putting his face on posters around college campuses, offering free meditation classes to the public. His following
Cool.
is nearly
Love that.
always described as increasing, and by the mid-70s, reporters found that he'd accumulated hundreds of students, most of whom were college-aged.
Little by little, as we meditate every day and we see him twice a week, we notice, or I notice, that I'm so happy and I feel God's presence.
Why
so
does he
much
look like
of
he
the
belongs
time.
in a hentai
Chinmoy
manga?
attempted to be a living example of what a focused mind, conditioned by frequent meditation, was capable of.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
would
There
invite
is
local
very,
press to
very.
witness and
I mean,
perform
you know,
endurance challenges,
cults obviously,
which
and that
he
was like the
called
whole sub story.
Creative miracles. The first was a 24-hour writing session where he produced 843 poems. This works out to about 35 poems per hour, or a poem every 100 seconds.
What the fuck? Okay, I have to actually block. Okay, I'm just gonna run in here and hopefully I have enough time to get this, sharpen this.
We just don't know if there is a world
It means
record
nothing if you
for
just
the
do
number of
haikus,
pages
yeah.
done in the shortest possible time. But on tonight's edition of Bert Haney's People, he may just have found
Like,
that
man, this
man
guy's a
on the
fucking
roof living in Queens.
genius. I mean,
The
a poem
pace
could
of
be
his
a lot of
second
things.
challenge was more
Not super structured.
frantic. 16,000 paintings
fucker.
in
God
24
damn it.
hours, averaging now
Ugh.
only a few seconds per
I'm
piece.
starting to wrap around finally to say I can officially hate this game.
Idea as to what
That shit every day. He's a sin to be honest, dude. Yeah, I've never seen this dude open a door with his back. I think he's a fraud. I think this guy's a fraud.
labor as well as an act of love. Remarkable.
Through meditation, Chinmoy claimed
Reset the
to have
game, try
achieved
again.
what he called a oneness with the Supreme, a type of psychedelic state he was known to spontaneously slip in and out of at all times of the day.
Oh, I also feel that way when I eat good food. I also feel that way. Oh yeah. Love me a cinnamon roll. Look, if you ever want to get on my good side, buy me a cinnamon roll.
This
I'll
facial
love you
expression
forever.
Chinmoy adopted became the focal point of his group meditations, with students staring into the flickering whites of his eyes. as they
Oh, that's
cleared their
actually
minds
based
of
on
thought.
a actual story. I did not know that, Betty. Holy shit. Well, something new I got to study and learn about.
Show his followers how to reach this other world.
But I watch a
At
lot
home,
of
students
YouTube
would
videos about like
substitute with a photograph,
cults,
as
frauds, and stuff
instructed
like
by
that,
his
and everything like that. And it's just like it's
meditation
always
manual.
interesting to me.
Quote, "The best type
And
of
it's also good to know,
meditation
just in
comes when
case,
you
because
enter into
I've
my
definitely have
consciousness
been
by looking
adjacent
at a
to
picture
cult-like
taken of me when I am
statuses
in a
and
high
almost
meditative
been pulled in.
consciousness,
Thankfully,
when I am one with the Supreme.
I didn't
Do
commit.
not
I guess is
think
the best
it
way to
is a
put it. I got
picture
fucking
of a
lucky.
human being.
All right, let's try this again. Cult leader is still in life imprisonment. Good. Good. Stay the fuck away. Hate looking at this guy. I'm sorry. Every time I look over, his eyes are in the back of his head, and he's looking like he's absorbing the power of 500 orgasms at once.
Chinmoy would soon have enough of a following to pack out event rooms, where he would take the stage,
All right, let's try it
establish
again,
a
I
oneness
guess.
with the Supreme, and then deliver
That's
to
what I
a
can do.
crowd of thousands a new
He got
creative
executed a few years ago. Oh shit. Wow. Say like if he's on top of cookie dough. I mean, same, exactly the same.
In a
Like I
single
said, cinnamon rolls. Every time I get a new cinnamon roll,
performance, Chinmoy would
that's me.
sometimes
Rolling my eyes back in my
cycle
head.
through 100 or more instruments,
Love me a
improvising
cinnamon roll on the
melodies with
day,
each one
and
just
today is
long
just
enough
any
to channel
day.
the Supreme
Oh, did I
before
save after
moving
I
on to the
fucking,
next.
no, I didn't. God damn it.
By the late
I'm sorry, my
1970s,
brain just
Sri Chinmoy's
stopped for a
monthly
bit there. What was I doing?
sensory
Hold on,
extended
I see where his brain
far
control
beyond
works. I'd be sitting in the back of the audience, my mouth agape, and I'm like, yes, I see that you also have the power. No, I have the power of listening. Please, what the fuck are you doing?
They pray and meditate.
What is going on?
And
You're worse at music than me. Why do you have an audience? He's like that dude from Resident Evil Director's Cut, making that basement music. He's doing it. He's fucking doing it. I'm trying to restart the game. I can't focus. I literally can't
success
focus.
was owed to the recruitment efforts of his students.
What was I doing? I was resetting the game.
Classified show that Frederick Lenz
Oh
spent
my
much of his
God.
early career as a traveling meditation
All right, where was
instructor,
I? Where was
leading
I?
workshops on behalf of the Sri Chinmoy centers.
So let's go to
Tonight, as
multiple
we
anime
meditate
movies
together,
about
I'm
how
going to be
reincarnation and
bringing
real
out
and
a
all good
complaint
figures in
of
history are the
tension
same guy, and that
and
guy is
taking the
learning to
Kundalini
lead
and
it.
surging
Wow.
through you in a lot of different ways
What
to
the
show you inside what it feels
Okay.
like to meditate.
He went by
Resident Evil Director- yeah, no,
one of
same
the
hat,
scenes
same
from
brain cell.
movies
Yeah.
that Chinmoy had given to all of those in his
We
inner
all three of
circle.
us connected. I think we're all enlightened. Actually, we should start like a group of some sort and really recruit other people who think about the Resident Evil basement theme and are also one of the enlightened.
Oh yeah, there's a
as
definite
well.
battle between the light and the
That's
dark.
right.
Yeah.
The
The network always
Resident
wins, though.
Evil
We run the
basement cult is finally starting. Oh, that's the ugliest sentence I've said all day today.
He was a professor of American literature.
Oh no, I was stuck. Like I had my menu for my very real PlayStation 2 open, and I was trying to reset the game, and I was just gone. My brain turned off.
Because if you feel
I was
that
really
you're knowledgeable,
upset.
you may be.
I was
But to be a
legitimately.
perpetual
I was not
beginner
looking
is
at
the happy
anything.
part. Being a student is much more fun than being a teacher.
Yeah.
Lenz's
Suddenly, someone just starts
experience as a
hitting
professor
notes and like,
gave
I'm
him
a
a
fucking
natural
guy.
ease
And I'm
and
like, what is this? A
authority
fucking
over
fighting
his
game?
college-aged audience members. And as he traveled
Think
the
about the
country
Resident Evil Director
gathering
Cut
recruits,
basement theme.
he began
Find
to
people who
realize
also
an
think about it.
opportunity.
He would give a lecture.
It's like that sounds like a
for
curse.
Chinmoy to
A
recruit
curse
people
or a
into
blessing,
Chinmoy's
whatever it is, as
circles.
long as
At
it's
the
in your
very end, he'd
brain,
be up there
then you
sitting
and I
cross-legged on the
are the
table.
same.
He was channeling the guru's spiritual
All right,
light.
I need to store some fucking items here.
And he
Sonic
would
bombs don't
look
do
at
anything for
people
this
and,
battle.
like,
Hot drink goes
spiritual
away.
light
Frog goes away.
would come out of his eyes, he would say. Well, that's a big no-no because that is up for the big kahuna to do, not for the little tiny Atmananda to do.
And by 1980, Lenz's workshops were no longer associated with the Sri Chinmoy centers, but sponsored by his own organization.
He took off with a handful of other Sri
Huh.
Chinmoy followers, convincing them that he was the one and the master has kind of fallen.
As I grew up spiritually, as I entered into enlightenment, I saw the limitations of my own teacher, who was a very powerful occultist, but who I thought was, to some extent,
I'm
limiting
gonna
others in their
Sasuke your
spiritual
ass
growth.
in like 4 years. You better watch your
I'm the
back.
enlightened one.
It
Damn.
wouldn't be easy for Lenz to rise
Also,
out of
dude
Sri
wearing
Chinmoy's shadow.
tank
Not
top
only
under
did
that pink
Chinmoy
shirt.
have the adoration of thousands,
not a look.
he'd been hosting weekly meditations
become
at the
one with Nicolas
United
Cage.
Nations headquarters.
Make me cool, I'm
Every
just
Tuesday,
little
his
Atma,
students could
Nanda.
watch him slip into the Supreme.
You'll
in
never
front of
make
some
it
of
in
the
this
most
world, James.
influential people in the world.
I'm sorry to hear
In
it,
order to
kid.
take followers away from Chinmoy,
Me, though, I'm built
Lenz would need
different.
to establish himself as a guru of greater merit.
What did Frederick Lenz say he was offering his students?
So he was offering his students spiritual energy.
case one of the
At
people
a
buying
certain
his
point, I
DVDs,
came to
DLC,
learn
to know
that we
that when you're
had
playing this,
studied
you and
with
him are
him
connected.
specifically
You
for
are,
hundreds
you
of
are
thousands
Nicolas
of
Cage.
lifetimes.
You're not playing as
And
Nicolas
we've
Cage. You
all
are Nicolas
grown
Cage.
towards enlightenment
That's a
because
terrifying
of
thought, actually. I don't want to be
working with
possessed
him.
by Nicolas
And so what he
Cage.
was
Not in this
offering
day and
his
age.
students was
I mean, maybe if I had
spiritual
a
energy.
fraction of the money that he
When
did,
I sit with my
suppose.
students
A
and
fraction of his
meditate with
castle
them, I
as well.
channel the Kundalini, the energy.
No, he
directly
seems
into
fine.
them.
I
bring them to
I think
plane
he's.
after
Let's put it this
plane
way.
of
I think he's probably
what they
fine.
would do in
I
100
still
years of
don't
meditation,
want
I
to
can do in
be
an hour.
Nicolas Cage. I can openly
Give us
say I have
spiritual
friends who I
energy.
truly love. I do
We would
not
go
want to be
home
them.
with that spiritual energy and meditate better.
And I take the Kundalini and I play against the notes with it. Kind of do a light show, inwardly and outwardly.
with the energy, with vortexes
first
of
aid
energy as you sit
meds,
there,
and then-
opening you up, opening up different parts of you that maybe you haven't felt since you were a child.
Just
no
grab the
big
goddamn
deal.
map. I should just grab the. Actually,
That's what I do.
And when
I've got the flash
Lenz
bomb.
announced his
Can I grab the
separation
map as well?
from
No.
Chinmoy, it's reported
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
he was able to siphon about 40%
Go far
of the
personally.
students in attendance.
Yeah. It's still-
But even without
and you
a
know what?
star
That's a-okay.
recruiter, Chinmoy's following
Sometimes you look at
only
people like, you
increased
know
throughout
what?
the
They're kind of rad, and I want
and his
to
students
be at
were
least my
beginning to perform
imagination of
creative
them.
miracles of their own.
His willpower
In
is wet,
1986,
wild.
the world record for most consecutive underwater pogo stick jumps was surpassed. The new champion used his platform as an opportunity to promote the Sri Chinmoy Centers.
Wow.
Elsewhere in New York, a student shattered the record for continuous hand clapping with 50 hours of nonstop applause. And he did so, he said, to honor his guru. By 1982, Chinmoy claimed to have completed over 140,000 paintings, as well as over 4,000 musical compositions.
Shit! My brain! I need it right now!
Lenz would need
my
his own
God,
way
did that
of
not touch the
showing the
goddamn- oh
fruits
my
of his
God.
enlightenment.
Fuck.
I have written a number of pieces of music to meditate.
What am I
to.
doing?
I asked the Zen master, what is dancing? Dancing.
Oh my
Dancing. Dancing.
Zazen was Lenz's rock new age band.
Wow.
And he was credited as writing all the songs. And I would listen to them all the
Back
time.
you!
All
Why?
the time.
Why?
I mean, all the time.
Get back here, you asshole! Oh! Not that soon! Not that soon! I'm just kidding, bro. I was just
Lenz
kidding.
was
Haha,
joined
idiot.
by 3 of his students to
fight.
form Zazen,
And by fight, I
throughout
mean
the
time for me to take a
1980s,
billion
they
damage.
produced a number of albums with tracks like "Death Is Sexual" and "Gandalf the
Death
Wizard."
is sexual.
I loved listening
I
to
love
it,
it
but I
when
was,
death comes and
you know,
bones me
controlled
to
love
death.
listening to it. It was actually fine music. It was perfectly good.
This music is composed in other
fuck
dimensions.
me, dude.
That's where I go to compose it. Then it's brought here into this world
Alright,
from the
hit
planes of
you.
light, and it's played by some of my students.
Chinmoy had become well known for drawing talented
He's out here pulling
musicians into
a
his
Tommy Tallarico.
Guitarist
My
Carlos
students create the music, so
Santana and
therefore
John
I
McLaughlin
create the
both
music.
spent much of their early careers making music dedicated to this
Kill me. It has
Zazen was
literally
stacked
killed
with
me.
talent as well, with
I have felt
Grammy-nominated
death.
walking
Death is
music
sexual, you
and providing
know.
lead guitar. And Lenz would
Mr. Everybody's the
incorporate
best
this
way. He
music
bought a
into his
dinosaur's
live
fossil
workshops,
skull, found it
often
was
using
stolen.
it
He
as a
told like
focal
Mongolia's
point for
stories. He said, "Yo, my bad. Here you go."
And I go through the
Damn.
music that they've played with my
You know what?
aura
He's a fucking real
to wash
one.
out
You know,
anything
I will
impure.
not take
So
that away
there's
from him.
only
That
light
fucking
in
rules.
music. It's perfect music.
And he go for
Students
well,
were asked
ideally
to
some damage.
demonstrate their spiritual growth as well. Lenz required the submission of essays
not get hit.
detailing
Never
each student's
fucking mind.
progress in their
What was I
twice daily
thinking?
meditations, and several supplementary
noises, fart fucking
disciplines such
noises,
as the
goddammit.
reading and rereading of recommended books, and martial arts taught by Sensei Lenz himself.
Martial arts is an ancient science. It was codified by Buddhist monks.
He would wear a gi, you know, the karate.
As if he
like,
made my
gi
eyebrows in
with black belts, and they both looked like they had just come out
Some
of the
shit just
package.
never
They still had the
changes.
folds all over them and stuff like that.
I will be extending an invisible energy field that we call the ki, that we gain from deep meditation and samadhi.
Isn't that chi? I guess. He jawed that guy. He just straight jawed that guy. He 100% jawed that guy.
His inner circle would run at him, and he'd go, ha, like that with his hands, and then they'd fall down.
What I want to do is interfere with their mind.
No, thank you for swinging by,
The
Valkyrie. I
mind
much
is the
appreciate it.
ultimate weapon.
It's great to
So
have
they're
you
going
here.
to
I'm glad that
have
you
the
got to enjoy some of the
way of
comedy and
energy as
entertainment
my
that
body
happens
is
in these
disabled,
parts.
right?
And feel free to swing by anytime. Happy to have you here.
Say!
Damn, he's good.
One more time.
He's looking at the camera like, did you see that shit?
Say!
Oh, fuck. I'm good. See that?
For a moment, a wave of energy sweeps through their body, and they don't know where they are, what world they're in, what dimension they're in.
Same.
It's
I've heard
embarrassing.
music
It's
before.
cringy, right? How bad it was.
Rain? Okay,
Man,
absolutely.
did it look
I
good
will
when
call you
was at
Rain
the
from here
remote
on
control.
out.
Holy shit!
Apologies
that guy
for
could move.
not laying that in the first place.
Lenz
Ooh,
seemed to
you
take the
eat
strictness
food.
of
You eat
routine
food.
from
I did not know
Chinmoy,
you
who
did that.
frequently enrolled his students
I
in
did not
marathons
realize
to
that you
advertise the
ignore
center,
food the
and was
moment
known
that
for
you
waking
notice
his students
anything
up at 3
slightly in
a.m.
your
for morning
vicinity.
meditations. But Lenz took what he called a Western-oriented approach to enlightenment.
All right, let's just.
If students weren't progressing in their careers and increasing their salaries, they weren't making
I can't
full
see
use
shit.
of his spiritual energy.
Oh, if you ain't making the dough, you ain't on that grind set. You ain't on that Zen Master
In this modern
Rama grind
world,
set.
The more money you make, it's the better meditation you're having.
It's difficult to find
did not realize I
consistent
charfed my
membership price for
blade like
Lenz's
that. I gotta get out of here for a second.
The introductory seminars are usually advertised as either
never
free
lied.
or for a small cover charge.
Because this dude's
But
got the
as
weakest
attendance became regular,
footsies.
tuition can
As a
range
non-taekwondo
anywhere from
student,
$600
I
a month
wholeheartedly
to
agree.
$2,500 a month.
Shut
I believe it was
I
$20
am
a
that.
month.
I am that. Oh,
Is that what you pay?
no.
No,
no.
since then my career has advanced significantly, and I pay approximately $1,000 a month now.
For me, it started free.
Hey,
And
anybody
then it
want
was
to pay
like
me $1,000 a
sliding
month?
scale.
I
Like, if you
will
could pay
actually
$100
probably
a
say
month,
no. Don't do
$500
that.
a
But
month, that would be helpful.
You could
And
you
it got
could
to the
wear
point
me
where I
down
might have been
very
paying
easily.
$300 or $500 a month scrambling.
Backseat lens,
To
please.
cover the
Absolutely, please do.
ever-increasing
We
tuition,
need to have an
students
actual
were encouraged to
practitioner
switch
to get the
careers,
expert
and at
opinion
Lenz's
of
suggestion,
how
many
Lens
of
is
them
fucking
turned
up.
to the
It's all
fledgling
you.
field of
It's all
computer
you.
programming.
You got
A
this,
person
homie.
who meditates who becomes a programmer is kind of like a duck in a happy pond.
Okay, let's see if I can get lucky.
You're in the right situation for many, many reasons.
He believed or he
that's
taught that
understandable,
computer
but unfortunate.
programming was very similar to really good meditation because of where your brain goes.
Computers are
Thank you.
fascinating because the mindset
My
necessary
God, game.
to work with advanced structures in programming and in design is exactly what we do in advanced meditation. It's exactly the same mindset.
I had credit cards at age 20, 21.
Wow.
That I was maxing out because of the promise of just in a few months you're going to be making $100,000 a year, which was an unbelievable amount of money back then.
Yeah,
According to
holy shit.
ex-followers, Lenz told his students that they'd all
I
been
remember hearing
software
slimmer things
developers
from certain
together
churches
in
that my parents
past
went to when I was
lives
younger.
in the lost city of Atlantis. And he appears to have registered a corporation under the title
What do
High
Chris you have last to
Priest
do?
of the
Look, when I
First
figure out
Diocese of
what
the
you're supposed to do,
Californian Church of
I'll let you know.
Atlantis.
You'll be the first person to know, Grums. What's up, Grums? Good to see you. Yeah, backseat lens is weak
But if
ass
his
footsies.
students had known how to code thousands of years ago, they would need a refresher.
If you're not familiar with the world of programming, you might take a simple course in it. And then there are two ways to plunge into it. One is to go to a short-term computer school where you go for 6 months or 9 months or a year.
Atlantis Nintendo.
We talked a lot about the importance of programming computers and
Look,
artificial intelligence.
you made
and
Mario
relational
Brothers,
databases,
all right?
which is like
Shigeru
a 3
Miyamoto,
or 4D
absolute fraud.
database
Me,
instead of
I'm
like
built
a flat
different.
spreadsheet, right? I'm a nerd, so I kind of understood it, and there were lots of people who were like, I don't know what he's saying, but they like worked really hard to figure it out.
Was Lenz knowledgeable about computer programming?
As far as I know, he was like a Steve Jobs. He understood the rudimentary stuff, but he was just trying to inspire people.
Damn,
to
he
go
even
out
called
and
out
make a
Steve
great
Jobs in like
deal
the
of money.
same wavelength.
Obviously, it's a smart
Clean.
career choice.
This dude cleaned
Our
up.
country's #1 business now, and it will only become more so.
But not every student waited until they knew how to code before entering the field. A pattern began
What about
to form of
Taekwondo?
students packing out their resumes with proficiencies in programming languages and listing
don't you
one
feel
another as
with-
previous
Yeah.
employers who would vouch for them.
If you don't have
wish that
experience,
was
you come
me.
up with the names of some companies. Then you have somebody say, yes, they worked for me there, a friend.
wait, what I think I need to
Most
do.
of them didn't know anything about coding, and they would use each other as references onto their resume
Oh,
and list all
wow.
of the computer programming jobs they've had, which they
Wow.
never did, with the intention that they were going to do the best job they had, and they had this enlightened being's energy, so they should be able to persevere. So what normally would take 4 or 8 hours at their work, they would work 12, 14, 16 hours looking at books, copying code, doing all of this stuff that they could until they actually started understanding it, usually.
The girl that I work with at Citicorp who was doing this was on the phone all the time with the other people on the
Impressive
call,
to a degree,
and she
I'm
would
not
use
going to
me as a
lie.
source of information. She would ask me questions that were totally unrelated to her specific job. They were obviously, she was trying to help these other people. So
He's like,
basically,
I've
it was
never
blind
seen
leading
a
blind.
man sweater.
Sometimes they get caught, put on literal blacklist because they were destroying code.
As one newsletter that circulated among the industry's
You didn't see
hiring
Lenz's
managers
earlier
stated,
suit though.
Lenz's
That
followers
shit was
were, quote,
great.
inserting themselves
He had a Columbo
viruslike
outfit
on
as well.
accounts in the tri-state area where they proceeded to wreak havoc.
Wow.
But not all who lied their way into these companies were exposed. Many learned the software languages quickly enough to begin rising the ranks into high-income positions.
That's why
and
they
were
keep telling us,
advised to
yeah,
use
fake it
this
till you
money to
make it. Well,
reinvest
here you
in
go,
their
kid.
enlightenment.
You get more money, which tells you how more enlightened you are. And since we're simple monks, we give this money back to him as a gesture of thank you.
Okay, I'm like,
And then he takes the money as the gesture, and then he gives us more spiritual energy, which lets us meditate better, to program code better, and then
Give
give
him
him
money.
more.
Study enlightenment requires a commitment.
He just created
And
college.
part of that commitment is the
He just
person's
created
willingness
college.
to go out and work to make the
Goddamn.
money to pay for their own way.
How much money do you think you spent involved with Zen Master Rama?
In cash layouts, for the 5-month involvement from January to May 1985, I gave out a little over $30,000 in cash.
And an exceptional person, of course, will pay even more, will give even more, because they not only want to just pay for their own way, but they wish to make enlightenment more available to others.
Yeah, charge a J.O.
Because
course.
you were
It's
a
simple.
spiritual student
Trade
of his,
offer.
and you come to him and go, I have this great idea for a computer program or a database program. He would become CEO of every single one, like dozens of these companies.
Oh, yeah, I guess he could also
Lenz
make
credited
a
himself
bunch of
with
companies at
developing
once.
software through the 1980s and 90s that he claimed was used by hundreds of American companies,
It's just
both commercial
once again,
and
marketing's fucked up.
military. And it's reported that some of his more successful programmers were providing Lenz with upwards of $5,000 per month each.
If I were to keep on going and had a full-time job out of college, I would have been paying as much as I could, $1,000 a month, which was a lot, $2,000 a month, and living with a number of other Lenz followers by sleeping on floors.
Oh, wow, he's just
or
Silicon
packing in
Valley-ing
rooms, so
them
we didn't have
before
much
that was a real
overhead,
thing.
eating ramen or just vegetables or whatever.
Jeez.
And then giving him essentially all of our money.
What's the odds of this
Did
guy?
he ever,
Actually, I'm not
in
going to try
any of
it
his
so I can play
seminars,
Fall
you know,
Trap. Fuck
verbally
this shit.
justify how he could
gonna-
ask that much?
Lenz would say that at his level and the amount of energy he had, there are so many people who want him dead, maybe from the government or these unknown
Don't
evil
communicate
people,
with the outside
or they just
world.
wanted to steal his energy. He needs to hide himself out.
Don't
and
steal
in
my
plain sight,
J.O.
protecting
energy.
himself
It's
in
mine.
impeccable locations
You can't take
that
it.
Sat on
They're coming after me.
vortexes or energy centers that the Earth naturally
They're coming after me
gives.
after my
And
coming
also
after
surround
energy.
himself with other high-class things that energetically
me just
contain
get out of here for a
his
second.
energy and protect him from this dangerous world.
By
government want
1988,
my
Lenz was
juice.
purchasing million-dollar homes across the United States in order to bring enlightenment to a wider audience.
Dragons
I
flying
can
backwards
work
for some reason.
anywhere I want in the world. I can do what I want
Why
to,
did you do that?
when I want to, buy or not buy what I want to, and I have a good understanding of art, literature, mathematics, geography, computer science, and the world. I know a lot about people. I'm not a bigot.
Oh, I didn't.
And I try and help people out whenever I can. But I'm also street smart. I know the
Damn,
street really well.
I'm book smart, but
By
I'm
the end
also
of the
street smart.
1980s,
I'm built
Lenz
different.
had begun to elicit a fair
I'm a
amount of
literal
attention
god.
from journalists. LA Weekly published a several thousand-word expose, making it the centerpiece of the January 28, 1988 issue, with this illustration as the cover.
There's a newspaper in Los Angeles called the LA Weekly that ran a story called Busting Rama. I didn't know there was
You gotta be
anything to
fucking
bust.
kidding me, game.
I mean, I don't understand.
You
what
have
the
to be.
problem
Oh
is.
my.
I teach seminars.
That is
It's
the
very
stupidest
mainstream.
damage
do
I
them
think
at
I've taken in
Lincoln
the
Center and
entirety
everything.
of
The
Monster
authors
Hunter.
interviewed
I've been playing this for
several
like
ex-followers
70 plus
for the
hours,
expose,
and that is the
marking
stupidest
one of
damage
the
I've ever
first
taken.
times Lenz was publicly confronted with the more extraordinary claims he had convinced his students to believe.
I want to see if any things are correct.
His fucking police. He would, yeah. The moment he's conflicted with like a decision,
We should all be
he's
so
done.
lucky.
He's
Sounds
done.
Like you're talking about Jesus Christ here to me.
Hey, do I want McDonald's or
You
Subway?
deny having ever
Shit,
claimed
these
it.
streets be
Of course
hard,
not.
yo.
If you meet an enlightened person, you will see, if you have the ability to see on a subtle physical level, a beautiful golden light around them. Oh, you may see many other things.
Do you claim to be one of the 12 truly enlightened beings on this
See,
planet?
In my estimation, at this time, there are 12 fully enlightened.
Being wide enough, you can convince people that you're a brain genius.
Lenz claimed to be one of the
12,
12 enlightened
one of the
beings
12.
on Earth. Do you know what he meant by that?
Yeah, people who have evolved for incarnated for thousands of incarnations, who have studied Buddhism.
I've seen this
At a
anime
certain
before.
point, you get to a point like a Buddhist or a Jesus state, right, where you're so enlightened and connected to the universe that you're.
Sorry, see, lots of people, and then he's just there.
And it would
That's
take about an hour
way
to
too
explain
funny.
what that means.
That's
Who are the
way
other
too
11?
hilarious.
Well, there's a very well-known gentleman in India called Satya Sai Baba,
Uh-oh.
and so on and so forth.
hoping I could
Names
avoid
you
that,
wouldn't
but-
even know. Wow.
It was almost a threat if you think about it. If it's not
I don't have any
him,
more
there's a
paintball
good chance
because,
you're not
my
going to
first one
find
missed.
the other ones. You really lucked out, or you were meant to find him.
Other claims include Lenz telling his followers that he could stop breathing while in deep meditation.
When you go into samadhi, very often you won't breathe.
Oh
for
shit,
half an hour, an
he's
hour.
Guybrush.
There's no breath at all.
He can
And
hold his breath
something called
underwater for 10
blisses,
minutes.
This line of puppets that Lenz had imbued with spiritual energy.
Oh my god.
Does this have to do with Zen Master Rama? Anyone want to just
It's
jump in
Saint
here?
Pritza. You're part of the you're part of the clan now. You're a part of
And part of the things they do is get rid of
You're
demons.
now a part of the cult. Congratulations, Fetty. That will cost
But the
you
most
$5,000 per
revelation
month.
in the Busting Rama expose was what Lenz did to many
Guybrush
of the women in
Zenwood
the
and
group.
Smurf Rama
It's- we're not
dolls.
really
This is
having
cursed.
sex at
This is
all,
fucking
the
cursed.
exchange of
You're not
energy.
wrong, but it's fucking cursed.
As a young man in Lenz's circle, did he treat you any differently from the women in the group?
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of it at the time.
Oh
but
my
the
god,
answer
I actually
is
nailed it.
yes.
I actually got it down.
So what was happening behind the scenes?
I know, I could actually fucking
was
do that in this game.
He would pick out some woman or young woman and convince them that
It's
if
always
they
leads back
had
to sex
with
as
him,
well.
It's actually like a tantric
always sex
way of
pestery
him imbuing them
in these fucking
with
cults.
spiritual energy.
The greatest transfer, karmic transfer, occurs aside from in meditating with someone, in sex with someone.
He said that he had sex with many of his women students. It was strictly a spiritual
I'm just gonna ignore that
designed
Monoblos
to
exists.
energize me and
Just gonna
raise
just assume
my
it's not real.
awareness level up to a higher realm.
I actually heard that some of his inner circle were convincing new people to do the same thing because they were higher than everybody else. I talked to one guy after the fact, after we
Monster
were
Hunter
both
ends
out,
when I
and
break the
his
disc
girlfriend
and
was one of those
eat the
people,
shards.
and they broke up because of it. And he left the group not because he didn't believe that he was unenlightened and he was a fraud. He actually left because this feels unequal, because there's no option for him to have sex or some equivalent with this guy.
Throughout the 1980s, much of Lenz's
I got news for you.
advertising
There is an equivalent.
exclusively toward women.
We just learned about gay cowboys. There's an equivalent. If he's really that built different, let's see if he could have sex with a fellow man.
From a point of view of meditation, let's say that women have an inner power that men don't. We know that women's bodies are stronger than men. They can endure
we'll never know.
greater temperature changes.
Never know, it's
heat,
impossible.
cold. There are
I
physiological
think I hear the
differences.
monster
But from
here.
a
I can't tell if
psychic
that's a
point of view,
monster or...
women just have a stronger
there it is.
energy. They can bear more and endure more.
By the end of the decade, Lenz had accumulated over 1,000 followers with a high tuition inner circle of nearly 400 dedicated
goodbye.
members. The group had spread
Lenz,
over the
fuck
country
me too, it ain't
with
fair.
meditation
Yeah.
bases in Palo Alto, Malibu, New York, and Boston.
Oh my god.
You
Wow.
originally started in New York. You moved to San Diego. You asked people to follow you from New York to San Diego. You asked some of those people to follow you from San Diego to Malibu.
Now, I had a meditation center in San Diego, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. That's true. I've never asked anyone to move anywhere.
Did Lenz ever ask his followers to move or relocate with him?
Shit.
Yes.
Very simple.
Like
yeah.
of
course he did.
You know, my first exodus was when we went from Boston to Los Angeles or to Chicago. I can't remember the places. You would leave all your friends and family and everyone you ever knew
you just rip 'em.
like they were old clothes that don't fit anymore. When you show up to this new place, you're finally free of the past. You get to reinvent yourself. Instead of talking to your family members, you can give them their beeper number. So you're like connected, but you
in
never
the middle of the
respond
country,
to
do
the
wrong.
beeper
Yeah.
number.
What's wrong with
preparing
Iowa?
for
You
mine
you jerk.
and saving money by living in my
His
parents'
brother's
house while I was working full time to disappear to New York and just disappear, not even say goodbye.
Wow.
Gone.
There are certain places, we call them places of power on the earth.
It just
These are
happens to be
fabulous places. These
California,
are places where
New
there's
York,
more energy
places
available.
with
For some
high
reason,
cost of living.
When you meditate in these places, it's easier to stop your thoughts.
Oh wait, I didn't
There
do
was
that
a
shit.
time limit hidden from the concerned family and friends who might be considering an intervention. If they didn't act quickly, they might lose the opportunity for good. But without an understanding of what these students were experiencing, many interventions went nowhere.
He asked, so, Mark, are you getting involved in a cult? And I said, no, Rabbi, I'm studying
No.
spiritual mysticism.
Oh my
And
God,
he
I
sort of
just
looked
want
at
to
me,
fucking.
and he said, "Well, Judaism is a set
Alright,
of
hope
laws.
that's far enough away.
And we don't deal with that stuff."
Yeah. Metropolis
What the
Living
students
feels
of
like
Frederick Lenz
a brain
really
drain all the
needed
time.
was expert intervention.
Shit
Would you mind
sucks.
introducing
And you
yourself
can't
and giving a
always, you can't
description
hit the
of what it is
bricks.
that you do?
Yeah, hello. My name is Joe Simhard. I'm known as a cult information specialist. Since 1980, I've helped people,
Nope, can't do that.
families,
I was
media
trying.
understand the cult problem. I've done interventions that were called deprogrammings or exit counselings. Approximately 500 or more. I also have a career in the fine arts.
Joe Zimhart was a recurring voice of opposition throughout Frederick Lenz's career.
There's
In the
always a
late
voice of
80s,
opposition
he
who's like,
publicly
yeah, I was
confronted
right in
Lenz
the
on
long run,
talk
you
show,
dick.
A Current
Fuck
Affair.
you.
What does he do that creates such loyalty? Well, for one thing, he sets himself up as something that he is not. A Zen master, an enlightened being, a person who can traverse in the occult world at will.
I tried to keep rolling inside.
Seminars
Didn't work.
that a person attends and may or may not attend. Again, I don't see how this race is a cult.
Joe's interest in this field came organically.
That's something who.
Throughout
That's
the
something who was
1970s,
someone
he
who was
became
rolling a
member of
cult
the
would say.
Apocalyptic Church Universal and Triumphant, led by the charismatic Guru Ma, who claimed to be, quote, God incarnate.
Damn,
in
me too.
unraveling that whole thing, and
I say I'm a god all the
deconstructing what I had
time.
been involved in, I
It's
became
never been true.
kind of an expert in the field of fundamentalist
Let me
Christianity,
sharpen
New
my
Age
sword real
cults,
quick here.
fake Buddhism, self-help groups, all kinds of things that are related to this sort of activity. And deprogrammers and exit counselors got to know about me and asked me to go on cases with them. So I got, I guess, good at it, at doing conflict resolution with families that were impacted by this, and quite a few people would leave these cults after talking to me, sometimes for several hours,
God,
sometimes for a
please.
week.
Oh my God. Why am I even trying to do this in here? There's
When
no
did
reason to.
Frederick
There's no fucking
Lenz
reason to do this.
first appear on your radar?
In
where's my gunpowder?
1986, a family called me from California complaining that their daughter had just got home and she was a mess and had been living with Frederick Lenz Rama for 3 months at his place in Long Island. They flew me out and I spent a week with their daughter, and she filled me in on Lenz's behavior. He had her take LSD, and she said during the first trip she ever did on LSD, he began to scream and yell at her for failing him, for not being respecting him as an enlightened person, and she was devastated and suicidal. He left
Oh
her
my
alone in
fucking
the
God!
house.
It exploded.
Sadie Hughes is a woman, you know her?
Sure do.
She says she was seduced by you. You made her her mistress.
It
She says
froze it.
you encouraged her to use LSD. Tried to make her believe she was possessed by demons. Told her she was the only one who could save her from the dark.
She called a friend that came and picked her up and called her family, and they got her on a plane and sent her home. And so I helped her to deconstruct
get this going before.
debrief her about what happened to her. You know, what cults are about, what narcissistic leaders are about, the fact that Lenz didn't appear to be enlightened, and his claim to be enlightened was just a claim to be entitled.
Well,
Love that for me. Thank you, game. Thank
This
you
is
for
someone I spent some time with.
trapping
a young
me
woman,
in
very beautiful
between.
young woman who I went out with.
All those monsters are just in the
And
way.
we traveled together for a while and had a great time
Because you could not
together.
creatively
She seemed
create
to
a
have
better
an
monster.
obsession, as some people do,
Creatively
with
bankrupt and you couldn't make anything better.
demons. It was unfortunate. I liked her very, very much. I thought she was just super.
That started my career with him, one of his mistresses, and I had exit counsel of about 5 other mistresses of his and about 20 other members.
Jesus.
What were the greatest challenges in deprogramming a devoted follower of Lenz?
Yeah, so the difficulty is just getting the whole conversation started, and once a person realizes that it's all about their choice, you know, they can stay in the group forever if they wish to, for every reincarnation, or they could, you know, talk it out and see what I had to say or what the ex-member I had with me had to say. You know, over time, in most of those cases, by the 3rd day, the person is ready to defect from the group.
Joe was often joined in these interventions by former students of Lenz, many of whom Joe had exit counseled himself. And when they weren't assisting in deprogrammings, these ex-followers could be found protesting outside of Lenz's seminars.
Could you describe some of the common characteristics of a Rama student?
Most of them were quite attractive, young, intelligent. They could have been successful in business, you know, higher than average IQ, lower than average IQ about comparative religions, and not understanding what Buddhism
to a
was
degree,
really
like it's
about.
not real, but whatever.
So he could fool them as far as that aspect of spirituality, and you know, hungry for either spiritual enlightenment or success.
The unenlightened can only take you to the beach, but they can't bring you across the ocean. God can do that directly,
game.
if that's the will of eternity. Or God will do that through the voice and the guidance of what we call an enlightened person.
Taking off, maybe.
It's this exchange between the narcissist and the hero-hungry person. The narcissist becomes a foil, like a movie that they can watch and feel part of, and they join that guru on this stage.
Mm-hmm.
You get kind of caught up in it.
Always the separation with other people of like, well, there's people who are just talking that you're wrong. They're just haters. You see it even in the grind set aspect. People are just fucking haters out there.
During
You gotta
television
grind
appearances,
though.
Joe was often captioned as
Own a
being
body and
affiliated
travel
with an
across the
organization
ocean.
called the Cult Awareness Network.
This guy's not the head of the Cult Awareness Network. All right, this is a deprogrammer who's hired to do kidnappings for $50,000 a hit.
I think I'm realizing now that me doing sword strikes is actually a lot more damaging than the explosion barrels for the most part.
When spiritual
just need to keep
leader
swiping.
Jim Jones coerced over 900 followers to ingest cyanide in what he called a revolutionary suicide.
The
We cannot
well-known
afford to
one, I guess
forget
I'll
what
put that.
happened in Jonestown, said Can's initial director.
They had
Sin
annual
vessels.
conferences. Their basic function was to disseminate information about controversial groups.
Are you falling
There was a
asleep?
time, if you were worried about your son or daughter being in a cult, you could get help from a small nonprofit organization called the Cult Awareness Network, or CAN.
One
Fucking
follower
hell,
of Lenz
game.
described the
Seriously?
Cult Awareness Network as,
Thank you.
quote,
Love that for me.
utterly vicious people
Love the fact
who
that
prey
this person
on
just
others' religious
exists.
freedom. Lenz himself told Newsday that, quote, CAN is to small religious groups what the KKK is to black people.
If anything is a cult, it's the Cult Awareness Network, and I will tell you
Well,
that.
I've heard everything today. Good night, everybody.
I think Lenz is an individual who has found how to
Just got to invoke some either the children or the
There's
racism.
an organization that calls itself
Then you're good to
Cult
go.
Awareness Network, and they put families in touch with kidnappers who go out and grab these people. Sometimes 25 to 50 grand a shot is paid by wealthy parents.
There were only 2 cases that I can recall regarding Lenz, 2 young ladies that began coercively, where the family had kidnapped them and flew me in after securing them to try to talk them to leave Lenz, and both of those cases didn't work, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's
All the
unfortunate.
voluntary
Oh shit.
did was just
All right, I feel like I gotta explain myself what was going on before. Also, what's up, man? We're good to see you. Let me take a moment to explain what's going on here before we go too far. Let me catch everyone up here. One, what's up, Miranda? How you doing? Good to see you and your crew in here. Hopefully, you all are feeling hella cute today because I am happy to have all of y'all here. What's going on? What were you up to today? For those of you who are rolling in here, my name's Rito, variety streamer on twitch.tv.com, and I have been cursed with the Cursed50. For those of you who do not know, the Cursed50 is you're given a game that is very cursed, and you're tasked with completing it, and upon completion, you get $50 and the ability to curse somebody else. So I'm currently playing Monster Hunter, and I am going to focus heavily on this until it's fucking done. But Monster Hunter grinding, not the most interesting thing in the world. So, if you look to the main screen here, we're just watching videos on YouTube. Currently, we're watching the enlightenment fraud of Zen Master Rama. This guy has a afro. He's built different. He's street smart. He's book smart. He's getting all these people doing programming so they can give him multiple thousands of dollars a month so he can basically charge their JO crystal. This dude is comedic bucks all the way through, and it's been a monstrosity because you're gonna be coming in a little bit late here, but we're getting to the point where he's being called out for his fucking shit because this is the part that's always so cathartic in all these fraud videos. Also, wow, new followers can do backflips. That's fucking sick. You love to see it. Thank you for the follow as well. Follows are always anonymous. If you want to hit that follow button and lurk away, feel free. Happy to have you here. You're under attack. I just looked up. Shit. That's bad. What's up, Vibe? What's up, Brandon? What's up, microwavable Froggo? Oh, there's 2 in there. Can you even finish Monster? Allegedly. I hope so. This game kind of fucking sucks, honestly. Oh, gosh. Oh, it's this whole video is drama, but I love watching frauds, and especially cult frauds, get their comeuppance. This is a very comeuppance one. It's not a sad story like Jamestown. This is like it's still a sad story, but this sounds like it has like a very comeuppance in. But we'll see. We still have a little ways to go here. But that said, thank you for hanging out, bringing by your folks and everything like that. And I'm happy here. I'm an old follower. I can backflip. Yeah. I think you just rode in on a train, actually. Or you were probably a little bit earlier than that. So you were probably doing the Mr. Libido dance at that point. Every monster has a game that has a credit screen. Okay, I trust. I'm just trusting because I have never beaten a Monster Hunter in my life, let alone barely played Monster Hunter. So it's all new to me. I'm just trusting. With microwaveable forest frog, but wait, but it was whom's the fuck? You know what I feel like today? A microwavable frog. No. A microwavable forest frog. That's right. Let's fucking go. I hope you find them on the streets and you don't fight them, but you just like say, hey, look, if you ever get any free time, you should let go of that name. But until then, I hope you like stub your toe and then you can walk away from that conversation. Also, what's up, Antler? Good to see you as well. Hope you all having a good one. All right. Well, we're going to start back on this video here. This is a great time to pop in because you're getting the downfall of the fraud Zen Master Rama. Also, I didn't even see what Miranda was up to. I'm just going to... He really is like Tallarico. Shit. Yeah, actually 100%. It's like, I didn't even see what you were up to today. All right.
Hey,
there we go.
I am 22 years old. I'm a legal adult. They have no right.
So I'm grinding right now to get some good parts so I can actually not die.
Damn right to kidnap me.
In the September 18th, 1992 issue of the Philadelphia Inquirer, a woman named Jennifer Jacobs published a letter to the editor in response to an expose the Inquirer had published the previous week called "As Guru's Disciples Hit Town, Critics Cry."
Excellent. 10 out of 10. Love it.
Of the expose
Somebody gave Brandon Simmons $17. Please and thank you.
Lenz's meditation group, their daughter had stopped speaking to them and, quote, no longer has a sense of humor and has stopped playing the piano, a passion she had since childhood.
All right, that's fair. That's fair.
Jennifer had
I should have healed. I wasn't thinking.
Quote,
I got distracted by Miranda. But
I
suppose that's just a normal day in the life here.
Yeah.
I was cornered. Couldn't do anything about that. The health wouldn't have helped anyway. So
in what was euphemistically called an
sorry, I'm still smirking about
involuntary
reptile dysfunction.
End quote. She used similar language in her affidavit, naming her parents as complicit in the kidnapping.
Thank you about that, Frogo.
And
Appreciate
Joe
that.
as among the 2D programmers.
I peaked though. That's it. No more funny times here. I will never make a comedy again. It's over for me. I started at the top and now I'm just gonna tumble down the hill in a barrel.
Deprogram her. Is there truth to that?
Let's see. What did I not grab from here?
CAN of the Cult Awareness Network had nothing to do with it. Number one, they didn't hire deprogrammers and they didn't manage them, even though people that did interventions attended CAN conferences and would do some networking, but CAN didn't approve of kidnap deprogramming. So that was wrong. I'm trying to think of, I don't remember if it went 11 days. I think it probably went like a week. She went to a rehab center afterwards, you know, agreeing to go, and which was for ex-cult members, and she
I could want to learn a little bit more about like the deprogramming aspects as well.
And she went back to the group.
I know when you're coming out of like prison, for example, that's a completely different style of deprogramming, effectively.
Self-righteous man, and that is the attitude of the whole Cult Awareness Network.
But they kind of do it by like almost reprogramming you into like focusing your interest in something else, which is
we've reconciled all of that.
99% of the time.
In 1992, Joe was quoted saying, "I don't recommend coercive situations anymore because there's too much trauma involved."
So I'm very curious. I have to do some research on that as well. Please climb. There we go. Thank you.
Hello, power lovers. I'm here today, on top of the Continental Divide, 11,500 feet up above the Earth. I'm parked by the side of the road. It's around 7:45 in the evening on August 7th. Occasionally a car or truck will roar by. I'm facing some distant power mountains. A suitable place.
I hope that's a real term.
To discuss with you the end of the world.
Oh, good. Oh, good. We're going full circle. Gotcha.
Entered a precarious phase. On the surface, things seem to be trending in his favor.
Power lover.
He published his first novel titled "Surfing the Himalayas," the story of a young
you make him sound like a fraud,
aspirant
Petty.
and a Zen master named Fwop, who set out to snowboard their way to enlightenment.
Now, your book
He made Quap. Is that what you're telling me?
I mean,
You're
this
telling
is
me
The
he made
Perfect Ride
Quap?
is really about spiritual enlightenment, isn't it?
Well,
snowboarding is spiritual enlightenment. Snowboarding is the fastest growing sport in the world, and in 5 years there are going to be more people on snowboards than on skis. But yes, you're absolutely right. Snowboarding is about balance.
The novel sold 90,000 copies. It was even publicly endorsed by Chicago Bulls head coach Phil Jackson, who quickly withdrew the blurb after backlash from the Chicago Tribune. The sequel, Snowboarding to Nirvana, also sold well. In Rolling Stone, after reading the latest coverage of Pearl Jam's battle with Ticketmaster, and flipping past all the ads for CD subscription services, readers would find Lenz's face, with 2 full printed pages dedicated to promoting the new Zalzen album. There's also a list of seeing the reassuring amount of
what I call infectious laugh.
That appeared around this time.
You know it's me. People have recognized me at fighting game tournaments just by my laugh alone.
In 1993,
good or bad,
ex-follower Mark Laxer released
I don't know,
a memoir
but I ain't
called
mad.
Take Me for
It's
a
my calling
The
card.
book details how Lenz convinced his students that Sri Chinmoy couldn't actually achieve samadhi, the deepest state of meditation in which union with the Supreme is reached, and had only been
just keep hacking away until you create a new golfing
and how Mark
style.
and other male students were dissuaded from even speaking to the women in the group for fear
Wow.
of bringing down their energy.
Yeah,
while
you're
Lenz
you're
himself
harshing the
was
vibes, my
privately
dude.
pursuing
Stop scaring. He really said stop scaring them. This motherfucker actually said it. Fuck this guy.
Cole had been among the 400 students purged by Lenz for, quote, maintaining an abysmal level of confidence.
Abysmal level. Your vibes, your honor, the vibes are off.
These were people, 300 or 500 people, who'd be giving him tens of thousands of dollars, like, constantly. And he would just get rid of half of everyone. He would just, like, wipe everybody out.
Sometimes the spiritual teacher will literally kick out some of their best students because it's time for them to go out and experience for a while in the world. Sometimes a student just isn't doing well.
Your
They're
mom
knocking
chocolate
their head
jelly beans
against
with
the
bean.
wall.
Oh,
well,
fuck.
if you're a good teacher, you
As
don't
someone
let them
who
keep knocking
recently
their
did
head
a
against the
charity
wall. They hurt
stream
themselves.
that
You
involved
send them
taking
out
a
for while.
handful, multiple handfuls of Bean Boozled beans, soaking them in
Lenz
hot
was
water and making a soup out of them,
threatening
I
to
feel
use
bad
his
for your.
spiritual
I feel
energy
bad for your
against
mom.
students who left the group
My empathy is on
It is
anyone who has to eat a,
possible that he could
Bean
give me
Boozled bean whatsoever.
Or
Holy
as
shit.
I'm driving late at night alone in my car.
I'm still hiding from her.
Look,
Yeah, I hope
Do you know how Lenz would dissuade
your
his
ass is grass the moment you found it.
Well, there was a lot of dark forces out there,
Let's see if I
according
can
to
fucking do
him,
this.
and that without his protection, you
All right,
will
that's what I
fall
wanted to
into
do.
insanity. Your life will collapse. You won't
The journey
have a
went well,
chance
though,
for
so, you
enlightenment
know,
for many lifetimes.
we got money for the
Now
kids,
that
and
you're
that's
sort
what
of
matters in this
connected
workaday
with his
world. But I
energy
cannot even
spiritually.
look at
If
the
you were
rest
to
of the Bean
leave,
Boozles
your
that I have.
body is so kind of addicted or connected that you would quickly fall
Like, I can't even
into
consider
the lower
eating them on
levels,
the
kind
off
of
chance
the
that I get
hell
something fucking whack.
levels
Wait, what are
of
you doing?
existence, in
Get
which
off the
case you'd go
water, you
crazy,
asshole.
You'd get cancer. You'd get into a car accident.
About 3 years out of the group, I still
Can't see
believe
shit.
he could do that. He could stop my heart. He could cause a car accident.
Oh, they could just
But
like
the 1990s
the feeling
saw
of
Lenz's
dread that this guy can
opposition
actually
ramping up
cause
as
is
well.
terrifying. Oh god,
Ex-students
sorry, don't mind me.
managed to get his novels dropped from Barnes & Noble
The good and bad Bean
promotional
Boozled beans.
events, and reports surfaced of
I
a
mean,
group
this
of
is
parents
just
called
one
Lens
guy's
Watch,
opinion here,
who
Chicot.
worked
Also, one, good to see you.
synergistically with
Hope
the
you're doing
Cult
well.
Awareness Network in
Two,
order to find students and
that's
connect them with
terrifying.
exit
That's
For more information about Lens
one.
and
It's both the
followers,
point,
you
and
can
two, that's
contact the Cult
terrifying.
Awareness
You're just like,
Network
oh yeah,
or a
it's
group
all
called
sugar.
Lens Watch.
Wish I
I
had
had
that
told
little
my mother,
sugar
whatever you
sensitivity.
do,
Then
if
maybe
the
I
Cult
wouldn't
Awareness
need
Network
to have like
gives you
so
a
much
call
deep
and
sugar
tries to
cravings
convince
all
you
the fucking
that I'm in a
time.
cult, just hang upon them. They're going to try to deprogram me and try to get tons of money out of you. And then I walked away and she said, the Cult Awareness Network. That sounds legit. So she called them. And it turns out one of the top cult interventionists or exit counselors lived just 3 towns away or 5 towns away. And I still thought that they were going to be full of shit, but I was like, I might as well listen to what they have to say. My friends are there. My family's there. This guy who's the cult expert and a few ex-members are all there. And they show me videotapes of Scientology and the Moonies and stuff like that.
Oh, you probably get to
And
make your own connections of
I wanna
like,
say 3 or
huh, this
4
seems very
hours
familiar,
into
huh?
just talking and learning about mind
God,
control.
sensitivity.
I had the sensation of
I'm going to give you the credit, and I'm going to say you're just built different. You can just process sugar as
oh my
sugar.
God,
you
have
can't
no
be
idea the
stopped.
shit
You're
I
an
believe.
unstoppable force.
Oh my God. It was
You're
like
the storm.
waking up from
You're
a
bringing the
year,
storm
year and a
back.
half
You're the
long
storm in
dream
Storm
and having
Cloud.
the memories of a totally different person.
For charity, I always don't want
I
like one sit shy of the
actually had my
requirement before the
stepfather
being
drive down
boozled.
to
This
where
one couldn't
my
be stopped.
ex-fiancée,
Unfortunately, it was like
and
once
she
we
was
reach a certain
still in it,
threshold, that
drove
shit is
down
going to
after
be
the
put
first day,
into
picked her up,
either
brought her
water
down, I
and or
shared
milk,
the
and
intervention
we
with
are
her.
eating it.
And so she would pop out of it. She was not as
whew,
dedicated as
that
I
was a rough
but
day for
there
my
was
stomach.
Still,
That was a really rough day for my
mind
stomach.
control going on with her.
It's a ratting me out.
In
Yeah, keyword yet.
1996, delivered a
You're
critical
done for.
blow to
It's over
Lotus
for
River.
you.
A
You got to
primetime
start a new life now.
expose, this time featuring an ex-member of Zazen who
Yeah,
was
the
quick
movies
to
were
call
connected to that
Lenz out
Japanese
for
political party.
sharing
Who?
songwriting credits with the band.
I
Huh.
never, in my definition
Huh.
of composition and writing, saw him write anything.
Word?
What does he play? He doesn't play anything.
The film crew
Valid by
captured a
logic.
Zazen
Yeah, everyone
jam
just said like,
session,
wow,
showing what
no one's
Lenz
really upset about
psychically
it except
cleansing the
for
music looked like in
maybe
action.
the family. And even then,
Now let's go on the opposite, so that way down.
you know what I have to say is what? Oh, don't worry about it. We're just talking about the enlightenment fraud of Zen Master Rama. Dude knows karate. He's built different. He's the next coming of God.
He was apparently
He's
using
just the
a
best
lot more
person ever.
drugs. I mean, he used LSD.
How you doing, Al? Hopefully you're having a good one. Oh, shit.
Inside person
I
told
was
me he had
almost out of
also been
stamina
using
and I could
cocaine.
not do anything
And he
about that
looked
almost.
ill. The last time he was on
Sweet.
television was on Dateline program. He
Can
was
I
very
get,
thin.
knockdown?
I got
No,
this
I can't.
Caucasian body, and it's created all kinds of problems in the West. I've never had one before. It's a new
And now he's
experience.
he's talking about the end of the
Being
world. He's gotten to the
shorter
end of the world point of his
and
cult
being
following.
in a land where
And he's
I
at the point
am
where
understood.
he literally
He wasn't
told
as
his male
effective as
followers,
an influencer
stop
for
looking at the
last
women.
couple
You're
years, and
you're
I think,
scaring
A lot of
them.
followers began to break away from him.
So now he's really
The
starting to
segment
get
also
desperate
featured
to
a newly
keep the people
defected
locked
Jim
in,
Piccarello,
who are giving him
at
thousands of
times
dollars
seemed
per
stunned
month.
by his own story as he recounted it.
I thought,
Okay,
this
I'm like,
guy
I'm gonna get hit by
turned
that.
the
I
room
am
into
100%
gold.
getting hit by that. That's
I
unfortunate.
was pretty much into
Took
it
revenge
at
on
the
the
beginning
P-
of the dinner. By
took
the end of the
revenge on the
dinner,
because yeah, his
I was
family got
going
played by the
to
Colt. Yep,
hang
yep.
out with that
to
group
that. Feel
for
like
the
party.
rest of my life.
Let's have their funding.
Over
Yeah,
time, not only did I
yeah.
see him turn the room gold, which I saw
Which then
every
basically lost
single
half their
time
funding because they
during
got
a
investigated
retreat,
because of their
desert
cult connections.
retreat. I saw him at night.
Yeah, I
skate
haven't
on
heard much of, I guess,
beams
like
of
the
light,
follow up
over
or
the
aftermath of
sand.
anything that
I
happened
saw him
around that
disappear.
either. But
I've seen him turn into a woman, into a prince, into
Good
this
thing.
weird bug-like creature. I've seen him levitate. In the very beginning, what did they do? They had us get into a trance state by meditating, and then they would talk about
Oh,
what
shit.
the experience is when you're with a enlightened being and you are spiritually sensitive. You want to be spiritually sensitive. You want to be better than other people. You're a person.
True.
B,
True.
you're interested in being with an enlightened master because how cool would that
Looking
be?
like a
You're a special
yearbook
person
photo.
who's learning stuff that no one else is learning.
All right, I think I might be stoned off
You're
this
in
one.
a room with 300 people
Okay.
that believe this guy's enlightened. You've got the group dynamics that are shaping your experience. And then when he comes out and he
whiffed. Thank
lowers
goodness.
the lights and gets
Red
you
potato
into
microwave.
a
Oh,
state
goddamn.
and you have a belief like, I want to be special. I want to follow someone who's special. Start experiencing what they
Is there
describe
any
historical
value
enlightened
in like
beings
microwave
are
potato?
like.
I've never actually
And
tried
I
before.
saw gold.
Okay, I was afraid I was gonna get hit there. I saw gold.
In the early spring of 1998, Long Island
God,
police pulled the body of Frederick
please.
Lenz
Oh,
from
try
the
making
bottom
mashed
of a
potatoes in
bay
the- oh,
located
okay, gotcha,
behind one of his
gotcha.
New York homes.
I've
A
never
local
actually tried using the
reporter
microwave to cook
described a small
potatoes.
crowd of onlookers who'd gathered to watch the scene.
It was
And the
wild.
leading
I gotta follow that.
hypothesis that Lenz had been
I
killed
don't
by the
know why.
parent of a student.
Damn, if
someone
that
who'd
lands you in
felt Lenz
Hawaii,
had, quote,
I can think of
brainwashed their
worser
kids.
fates.
Adding to this theory was a section
Alright,
of
what if I
damaged
run out of the
railing
room and
along
go
the
back in? Maybe
pier
he'll make him
where
land
it was
faster.
determined Lenz entered the water. But when the body was recovered, they found Lenz dressed in a Versace suit with a dog collar buckled around his neck.
Scotty dog had died years before, named Bayou. And he had that dog collar on his neck. He claimed that Bayou was his most enlightened student and that they had been together many times in past lives. I mean, this is how delusional he was.
Inside
you have to buy your own
Lenz's home
lies
were
if you
two
really,
other
truly
Scottish
wanna-
terriers and one student. The dogs were in critical
do that, but holy
condition,
shit.
having eaten Valium that was hidden inside their dog food. The student had also taken lethal
That's me
amounts of
screaming.
barbiturates and was found staring at a framed photo of Lenz with a note beside her that read, "We all tried to go to the other world last night, and only Rama made it. Please help us make it to the other world."
The woman was discovered by the housekeeper when she came in, and she got help and survived this overdose, and so did the dogs, by the way.
After a
Okay,
toxicology
good.
report
Good.
found that Lenz
Good.
had ingested 150 tablets of Valium mixed with vodka
50
prior
mixed
to
with
drowning,
vodka?
his death was deemed self-inflicted.
Holy fucking shit.
Beyond this world, beyond other worlds,
Yeah, goodbye.
be they interdimensional
Rip and
worlds or
piss, you won't be
physical
missed
world,
energy right
there
here.
is something else, which is that vast unknown that we call eternity. It is where we have come from. It is that which is
Could be
within
both.
us,
Not
and
out
it
of the
is where we
scale, not out of the
eventually
scope,
return.
honestly.
I can't tell you what that is like. I have meditated
this,
and experienced that. I have tasted it and felt it. Then I went
Sometimes we
beyond
just
that
wake
to
up and
become
take a
it.
picture of Lennon and just
The
kind of stare
widespread
at it.
reactions of followers to Lenz's death have mostly been lost to time, but archived message boards show students sharing photos of group memorials and a sudden urgency to reconnect with other members they might not have seen in years.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
once you're
I
in a
actually
community,
found out
it's
about
really hard,
his
especially
death
nowadays,
at my
to
wedding.
make
I was
group
walking
connections
around
with other
my friend
communities.
Bob, who
So
was
some people
involved
really
in
get attached to their
intervention,
original
and we're
communities
walking
and have a
around, he goes, "Oh, what
hard
did you
time
think
leaving it.
about, Lenz
And I mean,
dying?"
I even had
And
a
I was
friend
like,
who
"What?"
was friends
just
with another
surprised
friend
that
group
he
who
tried
was
to kill other
very
which is
bad
so
to them.
un-Buddhist.
I
And they
was like,
finally were able to
"Okay,
break
well,
that
one
a
less
little
cult
bit.
leader in the
And it's
world.
just like, geez.
I was in my mid-20s. I didn't have a lot of empathy for incredibly abusive sociopaths.
Hi, my name is Rama.
There's
and
the
today I
suit.
would like to
There's
teach you
the
how to
JoJo
meditate.
suit. There it
Lenz
is.
never groomed a
This dude's a
successor to
JoJo's
lead the
fucking
meditation group in
villain.
his
Look at that
absence.
shit.
On the contrary, he'd been adamant that none of his students had come close to achieving a level of consciousness that could be called
Wacom forums.
enlightenment.
Yeah, these folks have a
So when my
Herculean
friends write me and
task.
tell me they're enlightened, it's
Like, we
someone
know
who's
this
just
guy
taken a second year
died
French
because
course
he
announcing that they've just completed
took
their
a bunch of
PhD.
Valium and
So the group
vodka and
continued without a
drowned
living
himself.
figurehead.
But I
Today,
think we have
the
a real
few
connection
remaining and
here.
incoming students have virtual meetups to discuss Lenz's teachings or to watch his favorite movies. Some meditate on framed
Stan is
portraits
why
of
is this
him they keep in
weakness
their
Stan?
homes. Others
I think it's
simulate
Stan is
full-blown
Anakin
augmented
Skywalker.
reality.
But Anakin
And
spelled with like
clips
a
from his
Y
VHS tapes
to be,
will
you know,
occasionally appear
legally
while
distinct
scrolling YouTube
Anakin.
Shorts.
When you meditate over a period of time, you'll come to see more and more of the
So I
many
hope we get it
faces
right
and
before I do
sides
something
of
stupid to myself.
creation.
Good, good,
And in
yeah,
this one
yeah.
brief lifetime,
Be
you can
safe,
experience
please, and
ecstasy
thank you.
thousands and thousands of times.
Would not
Why
want
do you
things to go
think
wrong.
someone like Rama, even
Okay.
after all these years,
Where
still
the
has a
hell is
loyal
this
fan
stupid
base?
fucking monster?
There
Why can't I
are
ever
other
not find a
groups
stupid
that
thing in
are
like the last 10
selling
minutes?
his halt. One of the ones that's most successful these
Yeah,
days
just
is
wanted to
run
make sure
by
that
a guy
he
who
was
calls himself
finished.
Sambara, who's a Lens offshoot or a Rama offshoot. His real name is Jeff Malone, Geoff
Oh.
Malone. And his group's called the Buddha Dojo, and it was called Awakened Mind at one time. But it's very Lens-like. When people approach that group, they don't know that Lens is behind it, and they might never know. But you know, once you get deeply involved, then it's revealed that Lens is the guru.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like in his day, the seekers
You know, oddly
out
enough,
there
I did know that,
want to
Brandon.
believe
I
that there's
don't know where I
people
learned
out
that
there
from,
are
but I did know
enlightened,
that.
And they think that if they come across one, they'll recognize this person. You know, they all use this line when
I don't
the
know where I heard
seeker
that
is
from.
ready,
I'm like
the
really
Buddha
thinking
will
about it. Like,
appear.
where did I learn that?
And that line,
definitely
that
nodding. It's like,
slogan,
yeah,
has probably
yeah.
gotten more
You know
people
what?
into bizarre cults, at least Eastern groups, than any other, because people in their own narcissism
you.
think
You do
that
it.
they will have this insight or this psychic
Like I just
power
slapped him
to
on there.
recognize a real guru when they see
Yeah,
one.
no, we like the overkill.
It was Lenz's will that his net
We're playing
worth,
Final
which
Fantasy X right
included
now.
several
We go for the
houses and
overkill in
cars
this dude.
totaling around $18 million,
Get some extra experience.
be used to establish a charity in his name with the objective of, quote, disseminating Zen Buddhist teachings, meditation, and yoga in the context of what I have taught as American Buddhism. The Frederick P. Lenz Foundation for American Buddhism still exists today and claims to give millions to Buddhist-friendly causes across the world.
I'd be very curious
In
to see
2013, a
where the checks
follower
end
named
up.
Liz
I'd be
Lewinson
very curious to see where those
crowdfunded
checks end up.
$29,000 in order to write a biography of Frederick Lenz, titled Gaze in My Direction.
This monster doesn't exist anymore.
New Year's Eve,
It's gone.
1998, and he said
Peaced
to
out.
me, "You will be my biographer." 3 months later, he was
Mm.
gone. He staged his exit.
There's that
Lewinson's
stupid
account
little
of Lenz covers
Muppet.
much of the same time period as Mark Laxer's memoir, but the tone couldn't be more different. She describes the change of stage names as
That's
Lenz
an Abe. I was
incarnating
thinking
into
about
the Hindu
the fucking
god Rama.
Prime Minister.
I don't like calling him Rama. It's an insult to those who
Monster's
actually
gone.
follow either
Oh, it
Hinduism
is.
or Buddhism.
And
Doesn't exist
Lenz's
anymore.
reasons for breaking away from
I
Chinmoy
just need to
having
make more. Why do
largely
you
to
figure out how
do
to
with
make paintballs
Chinmoy's
and make a
strict rule
fuck
of
ton of them? Apparently,
celibacy.
I went through
The moment it
terrible
loses
times.
monster, he
I
just
went through
actually
times
disappears
of
off the face of the earth.
Self-hate, thinking,
how undeveloped
Kool-Aid, even
spiritually I
25 years
was.
out of the
Everyone
thing.
else in
Yeah,
the
no,
ashram,
absolutely. They
1,000 people. Nobody had a
Humans are
girlfriend or a
very much
boyfriend.
have
I
the
did.
aspect of like, we don't want to say everything we did was not worth the time. Oh my god. Okay.
Sri Chinmoy never had the reputational downfall that Lenz experienced. Around the time of Lenz's death, the Chinmoy centers around the world were celebrating the completion of 7 million bird drawings.
Okay, I gotta actually
Chinmoy
run out of here
students
for a second.
continued performing
Maybe,
endurance challenges throughout the decades. By the 1990s, powerlifting had become Chinmoy's preferred method of demonstrating the
lie.
supreme.
Seems pretty strong.
Whether he was calf
I'm not gonna
raising
take it
a
away from him.
helicopter or an elephant, or wrist curling a giant dumbbell, he always kept the cumulative weight prominently displayed for the audience to consider.
Yeah, he kept it up. I'm not gonna say, you know, he fucking kept it up.
Occasionally, he
He just
combine
wanted to be
his creative
strong.
miracles for a
His secret actual
show-stopping
passion was,
finale.
I just want to be
Over
strong.
close to 1,500 books. It gives you just a brief idea of how prolific Guru is. He has written close to 1,500 different books.
This dude just wants to
Chinmoy's
do side
sheer
quests for the rest of his
quantity
life.
of
I mean,
creative
don't we
output
all?
has always been seen
We
as
just don't want to,
dubious
have a
by
fucking
those
cult
outside of his
behind our name
meditation
either,
centers.
if possible.
And some of his more outlandish feats, such as this lift listed at over 7,000 pounds, were difficult for even his most loyal
know about that,
adherents
though.
to believe. But
I don't know about
Chinmoy
that.
had a seasoned defense. I don't blame people who suspect my performance, he said. My own mind suspects it. When Chinmoy passed away in 2007 at the age of 76, the way he was eulogized in the media
Ow.
couldn't have been more different from that of Frederick Lenz. Then in 2015,
Oh my God.
13 ex-followers
was
converged to form a YouTube channel
Trying to
called the
roll,
Sri
but
Chinmoy Disciple
it buffered
Experience.
my sword.
And you know, it's
put
very
away
scary
first.
and very daunting, especially when you hear all the horror stories that
Maybe you should,
Guru used
maybe you
to
should aim to
tell.
beat him,
Frequently say,
James.
"Oh, if you just said
Maybe you
that,
should
you're
aim
gonna
to
wind
be
up- you're gonna get
stronger and
raped, you're gonna
better
get
than this
cancer,
guy.
you're gonna-
I believe in
the
you.
hostile force are going to
Make
have
him resume babies. Yeah. He's like, I don't have the time to drink vodka. I gotta make my next Resident Evil basement jam.
Myself that
And
was
you ain't
the
gonna
thing
stop me
that
from
I
this
just
shit.
Many times curious, so it's just
What
one
is Buddha
incarnation,
3
and I thought to myself,
bottles?
okay, fine, I can just give one incarnation.
God
for
damn it,
this.
Rosamund.
Being in the meditation
What's up? How
center
you
is very
doing?
much about trying not to be human.
Good.
Certain parts of the being, like
Good day
between
to
here and
you.
here, and everything else is meant to be dead.
Started out by having me sit in front of him and meditate, and then he was like saying, "Are you surrendered?" And I had my hands full, and I said, "Supreme, I bow to thee." And then he was like, "Oh, are you really surrendered?" And then he said, "Take your clothes off."
Oh. All right, we got the Aladdin undertone message.
Of the Supreme.
The last development of the story of Frederick Lenz came in 2021, when the remains of Brenda Kerber, a programmer and meditation student who disappeared in 1988, were recovered. Her car had been
land,
driven
please,
into
thank
a
you. No,
reservoir,
you're gonna waste more time?
an act
Cool.
that police ruled intentional.
Love that for me.
She'd given up custody of her kids before her disappearance, and her diary entries indicate it was so she could move across the country to follow Lenz,
Hmm.
who she referred to as Golden Boy.
Oh, that's a good anime. But that dude ain't it.
So the Cult Awareness Network
Yeah.
seems to have dissolved.
I mean, that shit
in
lasts
the
forever.
late
Like, once again, they're still
1990s.
trying
Can you
to
talk about
connect on
what
one another and
happened?
everything.
So Scientology,
he
was
actually
one of
lasted for a
the
pretty
groups
long
that
while.
Really went after
Still kinda,
any
quote,
group
unquote,
that
died
criticized
young,
them
but-
and especially hated the Cult Awareness Network. They sued the CAN group 50 times.
No.
I got hit with 12 suits in 1 week. I would open the door, a process server would give me a suit. They were suing us all over the country, sometimes simultaneously.
There was a case in the early 1990s where a deprogrammer named Rick Ross took on a case in
boss.
West. It was a
Rick
fundamentalist
Ross.
Christian group where he
Made
exit
black
counseled
music.
teenage sons of a woman
Is that
out of
doing
a
it for
group,
anybody?
and then
Anybody,
she wanted her
giving
then
me a ha-ha
18-year-old
in
son
chat?
exit counsel also, and it didn't work. He had been kidnapped.
You and
He
two
went
protests
back
in the
to
UK
group.
branches? There's oh
Scientology
hell
got a
yeah!
hold of
We got the
young
bus to
man
honk in front of
and
their HQ.
got him to run a lawsuit against the Cult
That's
Awareness
good.
Network
That's fucking
based on
good.
the fact that Rick Ross had some vague connection to CAN, even though he didn't attend the meetings. Scientology's lawyers were quite adept at this kind of case.
Yeah, I'm not finding this monster.
Where CAN
It's over.
didn't have
I
good
can't fucking do it.
representation because it was poorly
Again,
funded and they couldn't
this fucking
afford
sucks.
a good legal
This game
team.
kinda sucks.
Scientology won the case. They bankrupted CAN, the bankrupted group had to
Just
sell
gotta
its
keep fighting
assets. The only
Rathian,
top
I
bidder
guess.
was Scientology, so Scientology purchased CAN in 1996.
enough damage for no
so
good
whenever
reason.
you call one of those old cult awareness network numbers
But
in
it's
those
not even
books,
flinching.
you
So
would
it's not
end
even
up talking
limping.
to a
So I'm not even
Scientologist.
close. Somehow this time.
What are you going to do when they're trying to destroy you? Look, if you're a
I'm
Jew,
gonna hit this thing from here. Oh,
if
good.
you're a
Thank
Jew,
you.
No Jew
Thank
is
you.
going to cry about the fact
Thank
that
you.
the Nazi Party is gone. If you're an African American, no one's going to cry that the KKK is gone. I'm not crying because CAN is gone.
Yeah.
Just need to buy some time, I guess, but I don't have
Deprogramming
any
still
time
happens
anyway.
across the country, although it's rare to find cases labeled as involuntary after the 1990s.
Yep, time's up.
I still do cases. The last case I did.
Well-designed
intervention
game.
Case was in
All
India.
right, let's
I was
restart.
flown over there in September, and that case turned out fine.
over.
Many ex-Rama students still appear to be in the computer programming industry.
Yeah, there's no reason to stop
One
that
former
aspect.
student
That
is
part.
quoted as saying, I don't agree with how he treated
That part
women.
will
I don't
never
think he
change.
was enlightened,
There's no
whatever
reason to
that
stop
is.
that.
What I did get from him was a career.
Yeah.
Others have turned their experience into cautionary tales.
After leaving Lens's organization, I didn't get cancer. I didn't get
Oh,
no! Since then, I've had a number of
Great, perfect response.
that
10 out of
I
10.
started and moved up here to Maine, and I built my own house with my wife. We just
Aw.
read books on how to build a house, and we did it. And in the last 10
Just fucking
years, I
did it.
discovered a love for, rediscovered a love for filmmaking and screenwriting. I wrote a bunch, including the one I had mentioned before about two people falling in love as they try to save each other from their respective cults. It's a dark rom-com called The Cult of Us.
But there may always be a market for the mystique of enlightenment as defined by those who
And
claim
Grover
to have
has at
achieved it, and in a reality where only
Well, it probably
they
helps that he had programming money to
Someone
really
might
work
say,
off
oh,
that.
yes, Rama, wonderful. He's an enlightened teacher. But gosh, I just don't feel comfortable with him. I feel more comfortable with with someone else, whose name we won't mention. Why won't I mention it? Well, you have to do some work. I mean, there has to be some adventure here. Part of the test, at least to get in, is that you have to find them. It's hide and go seek. And then you have to believe them. I mean, I could just be making all of this up. Maybe I'm not enlightened. Maybe it's an extra double bluff where I'm just saying all this so you'll just think that I am. You see? Who can tell? You can tell. You can tell and your heart can tell.
Well, I'm glad I didn't know him drown himself, but damn, it's just
A
it
big
really
thanks to
drives
Jim
home.
Piccarello and Joe Zimhart.
It just really
I
drives
wanna-
home how like deeply rooted a lot of these cults really get their talents into people, and it's just absolutely terrifying. Because like I said, once again, there were times in life that I was like adjacent to these sort of mindsets and everything like that, and all I have to say is I was lucky to have not been pursued to the point where I was pulled kind of down into that even further. But it doesn't take much. It really doesn't take much. It has to just find a belief in someone else's self that they never found in themselves. And then they fucking ride that high until theirs or others' demises. And then once they're cut off from the other people around them, it's just like, it's only so much you can do. Like Rose makes it look like he's the master Michael Myers. Man, that dude is paste. That dude is pasty. All right, I'm going to do like one more video. Fuck it. We'll do one more video. I think I still have it in my watch laters, but we'll see if I do or not. I have a lot of watch laters. I'm always wanting to watch stuff later. I have not watched this one in a long time. Like, this is a perfect excuse and time to watch this. I'll just load up on some items for now.
Music, artwork, and jumping in video games. This, to me, is the triforce of things that we will forever refine but never perfect.
We'll just watch
the
a very
reason
short
being
one.
that these three have qualities that give them
All right.
value in
Let me know if the
respect
volume's
to their
off.
context. The right piece should fit the right environment.
Yo,
The
Petty,
idea is
thank you for the
that
10 whole
it's expressed,
days.
Meaning that there is no
You're a cool
universally
person, though,
perfect
till
piece.
Oh,
night.
you're
You wouldn't
also
rock
a
up to
cool
preschool
person.
and
Thank
pull
you
out
so much,
Hereditary.
Petty. I
Well,
greatly
mean, I would,
appreciate
But
it.
if you wanted to entertain them, you'd put something on that's more akin to their baby tastes. Here, the right film has to fit the right audience, and jumping in both traditional games and fighting games also shares this conundrum. The act
This
of
is just
going up and down
jump
might not
arcs and
seem like
fighting
a
it- and video
complicated
games.
task to do well. However, the way that someone goes up and down and what they're permitted to do during it changes a game more than climate change is changing the planet. Even platformers that are designed primarily around jumping will have different types of jump to change that ever so important game feel. Mario and Mega Man have two very different jumps. While Mega Man turns on a dime, Mario's unusual dump truck mother's basement dwelling body type means that he retains quite a lot of momentum and has to slow down and speed up. Both of these jumps are designed as solutions to problems problems, and so tasks are built around these types of jumps. Mario's problems are designed around positioning and movement, with a de-emphasis around combat and thus a greater focus on movement itself. Are you able to make this jump? How are you going to build up the speed to make this jump and also avoid this enemy at the same time? You know, problems designed around the environment that aren't climate change. Mega Man, on the other hand, has problems designed around its combat, and the environment works in tandem with shooting lemons. Since the jump is so freeform and simple, it's pretty unengaging to put Mega Man inside of Mario's style of level design, since his basic white girl movement doesn't complement pure platforming. Instead, the challenges are created around more precise combat scenarios, where the style of simple yet flexible jump shines through as a positive. Many platformers create jumps and then design problems around it, because many single-player games often put priority
and they have
on
good
game
people
feel
behind
and create interesting scenarios around the character's strengths and limitations.
Maybe it'll be worthwhile in the long run.
In particular, were designed around the idea of being flexible, creating a tool to exclusively solve problems and creating a sense of player freedom rather than restriction. But what about a game like Castlevania? Although its jump is a solution to
but
problems,
I do like his
relative to its
videos nonetheless. He
contemporaries,
does a lot of
it's
fighting
like
game
trying to jump
videos.
with you, your controller, and your character covered in Nickelodeon slime, since there's no flexibility once you've made a decision. You can still attack, but once you've chosen the direction that you're going in, you might as well have proposed to your landing spot. Castlevania doesn't have a jump that's made for its game feel, but instead falls a bit more in the category of jumps I'm really fucking eager to talk about. The jump in the original Castlevania has a good purpose design. It's not only a solution to your problems, but in itself a problem to solve. Yeah, it might get you over a projectile, but you need to make sure that you've got enough distance to ensure that you're not going to land onto your enemy or completely overshoot a jump. You need to ensure that you're going to go up and down and still avoid what you're planning to go over without putting yourself in danger. And so, problems are designed around it. Challenges are built within this distance where you have to carefully consider what you're about to do and whether it's a good idea. And if you play mindlessly like the other two, you're going to put yourself in positions you can't work out of. Yeah, it's not as complex as getting like I don't fucking know, like a doctorate in physics, but it demands more from you as a player. And you don't have to enjoy it. After all, it's designed to feel confining and restrictive, whereas most games are made to provide us with a sense of power and thus escapism, as it allows us to feel like we have some kind of control over our short and fleeting lives. But the design of a jump like this is intentional and adds its own unique flavor to a game. It's a new type of challenge, however, the environment that it resides in is still one of a player versus a pre-designed puzzle. It's you versus Shigeru Miyamoto,
are there any Medusa
or
heads
Hitoshi
in,
Akamatsu, I don't know, another
Symphony of the
Japanese
Night?
game. But what
I'm
happens
sure there
when you
is,
take them
but
out of
I'm
this
thinking
player
about it now.
versus designer environment and put them into a player versus player environment? The
Also, I'm going to
answer
run a
is
poll
that-
real quick that I
well,
forgot
there's a lot
to
of different
rerun
types of
because
jumps,
I
and
was
so the answer varies depending on what each developer intended and how they wanted their jumps
Symphony
to
of the
be
Night.
used. The key difference that they'll all share is that they're forced to take on this dual design. Regardless of the type of jump that they employ, they'll all become problems since there's someone waiting on your landing to swat you out of the sky. However, even with this forced design shift, it's still a required mechanic for many games, and the way that jumping, jump arcs, and more importantly general use of vertical space works provides different games, specifically fighting games, with their own unique identity. As a disclaimer, we're going to be omitting certain details and simplifying things in regards to specific games, so don't shit your pants if I don't mention the larger implications of your specific game. Even the simplest jumps
give me the
affect
fighting
design,
game
like how
information
Street Fighter
now.
2 is very much focused on its design around controlling ground space because they created a very limited vertical environment. Jumps follow a slow and simple arc that's easy to respond to, and so a lot of emphasis is placed on controlling the ground prior to them being in jumping distance, and then once they are, pushing them out of the sky once they are there. The design here from the perspective of the person jumping is that it should be a way to avoid danger and potentially get more damage on your opponent with the danger of having to commit and potentially get anti-ed for it. From the perspective of the
commitment's
person that's
huge
being
in
jumped in on, the risk is
Street
that someone
Fighter,
might jump
ST,
over your
I should
next
say.
attack and punish you on the way in. However, since they can't defend themselves at that point, you're guaranteed reward if you use your impeccable foresight, aka reacting within like 30 frames. The situation here is very clear for both players, which for some people is dull as fuck. But let's not dismiss a simple jump. After all, some people might find this jump engaging by itself and like its easy to understand quality. Perhaps some of these players would like another game that has different kinds of jumps whilst retaining some of its simple qualities. So how could we create a bit more of a spicy jump without complicating the scenario too much? One simple way would be by adding a defensive choice after you've decided to jump. As I'm sure you're aware, Street Fighter Third Strike did this with parries. To simplify the explanation, let's also ignore the fact that there's variations on jumps a little bit, because I mean, we've got a better example of that coming. Calm down.
Yeah, I was
Third
gonna
Strike
say.
has parries, which I'm sure we're all aware of because, you know, this video exists, but for the uninitiated, prepare for university
stop having fun
deployment of parries.
online. Does he say
You
that?
press
I've
forward
never
and
seen that
fuck all
aspect.
happens. Mild oversimplification, but being able to negate incoming damage with a precise input wildly changes how you engage with the airspace. It still keeps all the other
You're
stuff
not
from the
committed.
previous
You have a
example,
chance to get
it's
out.
a committal choice, positional danger, you anti-air that shit, yada yada. However, now there's a defensive layer to that anti-air situation, which in turn changes some of the other points as well. Now if you're jumping in and you know your opponent has been ready to invade your space like an American police
also
officer,
air
you can
blocking
parry
is
that
so
shit on the
nice.
way in, and now you've got frame
And then
advantage
many
and you
other
make your
games
approach
that followed
safe.
up that.
From the perspective of the anti-airer, if you know that your opponent is looking to parry a hit, you can do a multi-hitting anti-air and punish him for trying to make it safe, or, you know, just change when you do the anti-air.
Like,
That
simple
said,
shut up
if you know
isn't
your
cool.
opponent is looking for a parry, you know that you can't be pushing a button in order to parry, so you can just walk around and do whatever you want. Set up a jump of your own, catch him with a low on the way in, get more subscribers than Brian F. Anything's possible. But now if you know that your opponent thinks you're fishing for parries and they won't be anti-airing because they're playing against your parry, you can go one step back in your game plan and just smack that motherfucker. You can also start baiting people in with this, because even though the jump arc is quite still, we as people have something that doctors refer to as small brain. So if we see a jump in and it's just outside of the range of their attack and our actual anti-air, we'll still go for it sometimes because, well, small brain. In doing so,
you
we
can't
can
always be
start to set
perfect.
up
That's a
with
huge thing about
punishes and
fighting
create
games. You
game plans
can't
around
always
how
be
we're
perfect.
flawed as people. This is definitely still possible
Hold
in
on
Street
you.
Fighter 2,
Well,
but in a game where there's more variables to any
I'll just
given
wait for
scenario,
Brandon
we're
Simmons
less likely
27 to
be
come
able
through.
keep all
I'll
within the metal stack, and so
let them know
more
of your
prone to
legacy.
error, so these kinds of situations can be relied upon more. To
It's
help
very
First Strike's
weirdly
air conundrum, the
aggressive.
additional parry
He's
is
very
precise, and so it
shake
isn't
key
so
chains in
simple
front
to
of the
execute
person.
that it feels like
But
one
if you just
option
listen to
covers
what
a
he's
very
actually
large
saying, it's like
majority of options, the
you're
way that
breaking it
something
down
like
very
an air
nicely.
block
I
might,
really
which
rate
wouldn't be a
that.
problem
Appreciate
per
that
se,
a
in that it
lot.
would provide new and different challenges to overcome, but it wouldn't be very engaging.
Which works for me because I guess I'm not paying attention to the video as much as just
blocking.
listening.
Only allow it when the other opponent is in the air or it's a projectile, but we'll talk about that later.
We really
Let's
try to
say
hone
you
in
don't
like, okay, what
parries,
causes the
however. It's
mistakes?
not
What
that you're
causes the
going,
human
I
error?
have to press forward when? How do I do this? This is too hard. It's just that you find that it changes the way that you interact with verticality in ways that you don't really want to play with. Instead, you want a different type of air game, but one where the jump arcs change to allow for more positional choices and change combat through movement. Well, let me introduce you to the King of Fighters.
Yeah.
This one
This is
specifically,
huge on
O2UM.
jumps.
This was the one that has rollbacks. This is the one I'm promoting, even if it does infuriate me to no end. Why does the character select work like this? It's so... KOF shares a very similar jump to Street Fighter 2 in that you've got very limited choices and can't really defend yourself once you've committed to a jump. The difference being that Street Fighter's jumps look like this, but KOF's look like it's doing some over-the-rainbow shit. AKA, you've got a lot of choices. You've got standard jumping, hyper jump, short hops, hyper hopping, backwards long jumps. There's a lot of choices here, and even though the actions you're permitted to do during each jump is the same,
there's
the
a
purpose
lot
of
of jumps in
each jump is
KOF, so
different.
like
Now
positioning
you've
is
got these little
so
hops that allow you to quickly access an
micromanaged in this
overhead,
game.
and whilst you have to commit to the position you're about to take, you don't have to live with the expectation that you're forever going to be a failure because you're going to get anti-ed every time. Reason being is that these hops are so fast that it's often difficult
There's
to
a reader
respond,
subway,
and
I
so
have no
whilst
idea
you
what
need
you're
to commit
talking
to the
about.
space that you're about to take, it's often unreasonable for your opponent to anti-air you every single time. You're also pretty evasive during this hop, because even though you're not going to be hopping to the International Space Station back, you go over every single low poke and most mids, and so you're not in the air long enough for people to effectively
Yeah, that's like
anti-air you with
anti,
any
like,
kind of
poke jumps,
consistency.
which is
That
really
said,
cool.
if you're doing this, then yeah, expect to get your ass clapped every once in a while. Now, if you only had this one kind of hop, this wouldn't be as
Never
interesting.
bust. Oh,
It would still
really?
be cool in that now you have fast access to an
That's
overhead,
Capcom.
which
It
makes
still
for an
counts.
even
That's
more
still
dangerous
basic KO.
offense
Let's be
and
real
place
here.
more difficulty on the part of the
It's much
defender,
more
but there's
KO
more
up.
to an interesting jump than just how fast
You can have E Honda
access the
running, and that's
overhead. To
terrifying.
add more to the awkward fighting game Jenga that we're playing, they added hyper hopping, which makes it easier to turn a simple situation into something that's more akin to, oh fuck, what the hell is happening, help! This is also possible with normal jumps, but by allowing the player to have different distances that they can jump around with, it creates more player freedom and expands the ability to deceive expectations of the opponent. However, there's more changes that come along with the jumping aside from the jump itself.
They never
If you
play
want to do a
CBS2.
jumping combo with a short hop, it requires a more specific timing, because you're
We were
not
talking
going
about
to
his
impact
running
your opponent
animation
and
the
land
other
quickly
yeah,
after,
last
meaning you have
night.
to press as
It's
low
like
to
just
the
even his
ground as
running
you
animation
can,
is just like
and
it's
not just
so
as soon as you're
unnerving
in
to
your
look at.
opponent's proximity. But more importantly, anti-airs change.
Yeah,
In Street
it sucks.
Fighter, a lot of anti-airs cover this space ever so slightly to the side of you and above you to make it so that their main purpose is swatting people out of the air. In KOF, a good anti-air would have needed to change to be more diagonally focused, with
That's
fast
true,
recovery to cover
and it
multiple
reaches
angles
really
and
high up in the
timings.
air.
But guess
Anti-airs
what?
in
They
KOF
didn't.
are insanely big.
Is the sequelitis influence getting a bit too direct? Generally speaking, most moves specifically designed to be anti-airs outside of DPs still cover this directly above airspace. There are exceptions to this rule, but they're rarer than a good modern Panic at the Disco song. This combined with a much faster
Video
jump arc
games?
that's lower makes for
Pretty
many more
bad.
situations where you're better off making choices that cover the space before they really get into into
Video
the
games,
air
they're
or
doing
moving
alright.
in the
They're
air,
doing
rather
alright.
than
They're
an option
the
that
video
covers the problem
games
from
are
the ground
alright.
with such commitment. It's often better to choose an option that meets them in the air because it reduces the risk as a defender since you'll get knocked down instead of comboed. However, if you make the right decision, you end up turning the tables and putting their own advantage against them. If you're not going to choose an option that's as direct as an air to
video
air,
games
it's
are
better to choose a
trying their
move that's
best.
fast and high with low recovery, like a jab, because it often covers the space required, but is less committal than most options designed to be more traditional anti-airs. These types of jump don't change anything on the micro level of design.
Yeah,
After
if you ever
all,
get into
still jump
KOF,
in, you still have some
just being able to
commitment, wonder where your
stand
life went
A,
wrong,
your
you know
your
how it
stand
goes.
jab
But now
is
jumps
so
are a
important
solution
in this
to
game.
problems and problems
Entirely.
themselves, and also act as tools of expression through movement as well as a collection of tools to create a more complex neutral. Whereas jumps previously overcame specific problems, this kind of jump creates a wide variety of outcomes from the same type of solution.
I also
And
hope
so
that
once
the
you learn how to
availability of
handle all these
KOF
jumps
opens
with
up,
proficiency, you can
and
start to tailor them solutions
the investment
to
is
what
let
you're
go
comfortable
of
with.
by
You're not
certain
going to express yourself like you're doing a
benefactors.
follow along with Bob Ross, but in terms of a competitive setting, it's free enough that the variable choices allow you to create a unique playstyle. The design began to shift away from covering this horizontal space until they're at a closer distance and then covering the air and the ground at the same time, and became a game of movement and the mid-range, because hops and jumps combined created a game that was much faster and easier to overcome small obstacles in. This made for a game that for many felt much more dynamic, even if it was much harder to get a grip on because it changed so much of the smaller mechanics. Although I still prefer 3S, KOF just makes me very angry.
His hand could
As
slip.
a side note, there's a fantastic set of videos by Dandy J called The Beginner's
just
Incomplete
slip
Guide
and
to
be like,
KOF.
"Oops, I
If I've
sold
sparked
all
your
my
interest,
shares,
I'd recommend
and it's
watching
now
them
the
videos
People's
to help
Company."
you get into KOF without fumbling around for as long as I did. This doesn't necessarily make for a fighter that
We never
everyone
know.
can enjoy, but starts to make
Stonks
fighting
are
games
hard.
unique not only for combos and characters, but neutral
Stonks,
choices.
the
Jumping
economy,
is still a problem and
all
a
that good
solution, but
stuff.
allows you to do the same thing with multiple different types of solution. This helps to add expression to the air game, which in turn becomes
not
player
relative,
freedom over
96%
time.
though,
And with
honestly,
the
I-
expansion
holy
of
shit.
airspace in minor ways that led to big changes in game feel came the edge to make large changes to the airspace to fill in gaps in the market that weren't satisfied. And whilst there's many games that have smaller character-specific instances of movement, I'm talking stuff that's universal, like air dashing and double jumps. We'll get to you later, be patient.
Yeah,
Regardless of
air
what
dash is gonna be
ability
fucking
you
huge.
add to an airspace, if it's another positional choice after a jump, you're going to be adding
You got some sick dance
potentially
moves there,
removing
you
and
follow.
changing ideas in that space that you're playing in. The idea
Those who
that
stream
changes
KOF games might
almost
follow. Well, I won't say I'm
universally is a
exactly
shifting
streaming
commitment.
KOF.
This
Just a
change
video
generally
that
tends to
includes
be
about
made in an
KOF's
effort
different
to
hyper
shift
hops and
jumping
jump
away
short
from the
hops and everything like that.
commitment-focused
I
jumps
am
of
a KOF
Castlevania
liker
and push it
nonetheless, though,
towards
so
the
it's
feeling of
not like
player
it's
freedom of
unfamiliar to
most
me. Big fighting
platforms.
game
Think
fan out
about
here.
any
So,
game with a double
Marco,
jump
thank you
in
for the
it. If
follow.
someone's
Greatly
jumping in on
appreciate
you, but
that.
they haven't used their second jump or
Nice to
any other
meet you
type of
as
movement
well. I hope
option
you're
for
having a
that
good
matter,
one.
There's probably going to be a bit of hesitation around trying to
Oh,
climb
fucking
out of the sky.
fucking-
Reason being is that without the second jump gone, you can't guarantee that you're not getting baited and you're about to go from
Right.
burying your fist in someone to being fisted. The commitment that's present in the previous examples
I'm
isn't
looking at that
present
style
here to
situation
the
like,
same
yeah,
degree, since now you've
same.
got choices, even if limited, that can remove you from a dangerous situation and turn a negative IQ jump in into a situation that your two brain cells won't stop rattling on about. However, once you recognize that you've
Does
burned
everything
someone's
here?
double
I
jump,
do,
you
I
feel
do.
like you've just set a
But yeah,
trap
what's
for
going
them
on,
since
Marco?
they've removed their
Nice
defensive
to hear a
choices and
fellow
that commitment
retro
is
streamer out
reinstated.
there hanging out and
Generally
also
with even
a big
less
fighting game
safety
liker at the
since
same
you're in the air
time.
set to a
Love to
position
see
with
it.
an even longer duration
Commission
of time,
pictures of Yuri
allowing your
Sasaki
opponent
kissing
to
other
fall
girls because
with
it fits
more
her name. I
consistency. To
mean,
help you feel the sense of power as the person being jumped
Friends
in on,
with
the games that
Yuri
employ less
was a
commitment than jumps often
long-lasting
have tools that allow you to reposition yourself quickly from the ground in order to catch
it
up
was
with
just
someone
part
who's
of the
darting around
culture
in
at
the
one
sky.
point.
Platform fighters
Sagato
generally
made
make
the
it so that
art.
moving around on the ground is faster than moving in the
Yeah,
air.
when
and
you
so
get to
remaining
Melee and
grounded where
Smash
you
and
can
stuff like
move
that, I
quickly with
wonder.
less commitment is
We'll
still
see.
an advantage even within this expanded airspace.
Move those
Rivals is the only good platform fighter, by the way. Games like Marvel have dashes that are
You-
fast
you
and
will
cover a
never
large portion
silence
of the
me.
screen, many of which can be cancelled into something that allows you to either immediately
Other
dash
things.
again or
KOF
can
has
be
a
cancelled
very
into a jump,
nuanced
giving you extra
history.
aerial momentum. This assists in shifting the power of balance to be more even rather than pushed in the favor of the person jumping by allowing you to Usain Bolt right up to someone that's in the air. The part that I think is more interesting is that often developers won't stop at double jumping, but
Is
also
someone
proceed to
embarrassing?
blow the movement door wide open with air dashing.
You could do
Different
far
types
worse.
of games have different types of air dashing, and because I don't want to be here forever, I'm gonna have to generalize a bit here. I don't want to hear the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle community come at me. Different air dashes for different folks.
Alright,
as
Missile
Bob Ross
wins.
said.
Alright,
Is
Missile's
this
the bear
an air
dog. I'm
dash?
gonna vote
I
for
don't
in
think I
that
would
one
consider
competition
it
going on.
Now you've got many choices in the air in terms of finds a
It's
scenario
back.
that's like putting the
There
right
it
shape
is.
into the right hole and to defuse the bomb or murder your firstborn. Now the rigid decisions of the previous jumping examples expand, not from the different types of jumps that are available, but instead the path that they may follow. This then starts to expand even further when you factor in things like double jumping, which even if they do cut off other choices, still expands the toolset. This starts to make jumping, even with very rigid lines, entertaining and becomes part of player expression. While you may not have as many individual movement choices as something like KOF, their intertwined system makes for so many choices that you feel like a kid in a candy store.
You can
or
make
a
different reaction
23-year-old
choices
in a
after
Game
a
Gear store.
jump. You can watch your opponent, see if they react to something, and if they react to something,
you
you react back with an air dash in there. That's like kind of like the rock paper scissors game that goes in to just a simple jump like KOF, and then this fucking game, and then there's fucking.
You've got access to really fast overheads that become effective all the time in the corner, or overheads that can be accessed very fast from a mid-screen distance. Whilst jump-in overheads themselves haven't changed here, the time that they're usable has. In games with very simple jumping, the attack might come out with some different timing, but it's going to be very slight since there's only about a 10 to 15 frame window where the overhead can actually connect. With air dashing, you've got them available almost all times, but you can also change the amount of potential time that you will have them
you can
for.
wait.
Without an
Like
air
I said,
dash,
that's
this
the whole
type of
reaction
timing
thing. If
just
you see them not
simply
doing
doesn't
anything,
happen.
fucking
It's
air
not
dash in.
possible. It's a conspiracy theory. The schmicks doesn't work without air dashing.
I know
This
it's
creates a
done
whole new
dirty.
approach to
She was
both
good in
timing in the air as
XR.
well as the
She was
effective
real good in
distance, as it
XR.
shifts based on screen position and how much speed you were initially
And she's
traveling
fine.
at, how late or
Fine
early you
enough
air
in
dash,
Strive.
what kind of
Strive's
hitboxes
just
come
fucked
out
up.
at what speed and distance. And as I'm sure you can tell, this creates a dramatic shift in the game, not only for the person jumping in, but also the person having to respond to it. Now being on the opposite hemisphere as your opponent and being pressed right against your opponent can share an almost equal danger. I say almost equal because some characters can't respond very well from being full screen, and some characters have to be pressed against your opponent to do anything. It's also still going to be easier to respond to something that takes a longer amount of time to do, and so being at full screen generally still
story-wise.
Okay. But still creates a variable danger zone. Now you can't rely on being
Which
safe
I
from
don't
jump
follow
ins from
any
this
of the
longer
fighting game
distance
stories,
because these
basically. I watched a
positions can still
long
spell out a full combo for you. This
story
puts a
of
huge
KOF,
amount of
actually.
variables in play for any given
And it was
situation
really good.
and
Like I
assists
also
the
I'm like,
player
oh
in
wow,
being
these
able to find
stories
a
are
lot of
really good,
creativity in
and
a
that's
system
like the
that
only
previously
fighting
was
game
quite
thing I know
difficult
any
to access.
story-wise
Because
barely.
of this and the general idea that people are going to be coming at you from this more horizontally focused angle, you tend to find that good anti-airs in these kinds of games cover more in front of you rather than directly above you.
Anti-airs
These
are fucked
changes
up
to
in Guilty
movement
Gear as
and
a
the many
result.
systems that change to accommodate the new systems
Creative
takes
profiles make
emphasis
sense,
away
yeah.
from trying to cover this portion of the screen with fireballs and then playing a footsie jumping game here, and instead creates a game that changes based on your character's tools and goals and where they press advantage most effectively. Take a character like Accent Core Venom that would break
He's
a
that
more
one dude we saw in the
grounded
last
game with
video
less
who wrote
movement
a billion
options.
books.
Since he's in an environment where characters are created with this more extreme movement potential in mind, he's fine, but he still has to play into his goal of setting up balls and knockdown and also being the most fun character in the game. Many games that have this more free
I know,
movement
Venom
will
is
have
amongst one of the
characters
funnest
that
characters in the
individually
game,
want
not
to
gonna
achieve
lie.
different types of win conditions. Why this
What
is
video
the
is this?
case,
This
I
is
wouldn't
Jump
really
Arcs.
be able to tell you.
Literally,
Because
that's the name of the
characters
video.
generally designed to be
Jump
wildly different
Arcs.
between each other. It's pretty common to see the perspective that
By
learning
Leon
new
Massey.
characters
Also,
in
what's
these
up,
games is
Ty?
much
How's
harder than
Froth?
the other ones. Exiled
I'm
characters generally
really
follow
fucking
the
mad at
flow
you,
of
and
do
not
X to
mad
set up
in
Y, or
reality.
the game ends if
Because
X.
me and Boyce were
Ironically,
planning to
you
play
could
Froth
debate
this
this style of
Sunday, and
design
I
creates
like
less
got beat to
freedom
the
in
punch.
its
Like,
characters
God
and
damn it, there's
systems.
no
I'd argue
way.
that it helps to
No
give
one's
characters
thinking
more
about
defined
Froth,
strengths
I
and
say,
weaknesses
as
instead of
I
cutting
turn
off
on
particular types of
co-host
play.
and
Games
see
that have
someone
less
else is
movement
thinking
tend
about
towards
Froth
goals like, I
like the
want to
brain
control
genius
this
they
portion
are.
of the screen, because the game doesn't have enough choices that allows the
I'm sad I
opponent
didn't get to see it,
effectively make
honestly. I would have loved to
decisions
watch
based on
that. You and
positioning.
Octo on
The
that shit?
characters in
Oh, that'd
turn
be
don't
good.
have things that they want to achieve in particular, but their own particular spaces that they want to control, which isn't a bad thing. I don't want to see anyone in the comments going, "Oh, you see, this is why Street Fighter 5 is fuck off. They're just different
in the
games."
yeah, like
The point that
collectively,
I'm
we're all thinking
admittedly
about Froth.
failing to get at is that as changes started to be made
Earlier
in the
today
airspace,
was thinking
many
about
game
Resident
developers
Evil
chose to take
basement
the
theme.
opportunity
Now
and change
it's
the game in
Froth.
ways that made good and bad choices
Snowflake,
different from
I
games.
have to-
When you
I have to
play
go back to
different
Boys. We have to play
choices, you're
Snuff now.
inevitably gonna
We
give
gotta
the player
one-up
different
them.
feelings. Street Fighter can feel quite restrictive at times because you have to solve many different problems with the same tools.
Yeah, and
occasionally
then they
using
fucked
the
it up
tools
in
unique
6.
and novel ways that aren't immediately obvious. In games with more choices, you're going to feel a greater sense of player freedom because there's more situations that you can create, but in turn that means that good players can craft a fucking Da Vinci Code for you to solve. To attempt to return some of that player freedom, a lot of games opted to have defensive choices be available more consistently. The previously mentioned air blocking is in many games, but often doesn't allow you to block a move that's grounded unless you spend some kind of resource to do so.
Right.
However, to make it balanced in favor of the person attacking, many games chose to make it so that the person blocking has their momentum stuffed and doesn't advance from the jump once they've blocked. This means that anyone who's blocking
I didn't
in
even
the
think
air
about
trying to
that,
avoid
actually.
projectiles typically
Yeah,
still have
no,
a
it
hard time
pushes you
finding
back
their way
out.
in,
You don't get
making it
back
so
in
that playing
there.
effective zoning isn't impossible.
When you're jumping
it's
in, you
just
block.
restricted
I didn't
and
even think
difficult.
about that,
To assist
honestly.
overcoming
Holy
the
shit.
fiasco that is air defense and ensure
Yeah,
that
but
you've
just
still
do
got
DI 3
plenty of
times
ways to deal with the
and I
same
get the
problem.
move
Many
on
games
stage.
introduced air throwing, but whether or not it's an effective way to deal with someone that's blocking tends to vary from character to character.
I just move
But
on. I
even
find
with
new
all of
hobby.
these
At that
changes,
point,
some
find
players
new
might
player.
find it bit frustrating to deal with a system that gives someone jumping so much freedom, and so they started to change even more. Generally speaking, hitboxes changed to be more in favor of the person pressing and got larger to make it easier to swap people out of the sky when they've got more places that they can be in the air. Without larger hitboxes, you'd feel like you're trying to go fishing with a needle instead of a spear, or like a net. I don't really know how fishing works. They also introduced more moves that encourage you to meet your opponent in the air.
Ooh.
Whilst this does exist
sorry,
in
that
other
JD
games
made
like
me
Ryu's
scream a
jumping
little bit.
medium punch, you're still only able to get one move out before you hit the ground. Instead of making specific moves that were really good in the air, many games introduced fast-hitting moves that you could press multiple times in the air to start combos with. Many characters in Guilty Gear have jump Ps that are designed to be moves to intercept your opponent midway through their travel.
Move.
And
Yeah,
also
you're
start combos that be safe if they're blocked.
Yeah, you're
A side effect
seriously
of
like
this is more tick-throw
super
situations,
close,
which I
right
have
next to them.
very,
Like I didn't even think
very
about it
fond
like that.
memories
I just
of.
knew it's a
God,
problem.
insane. Because of these expanded choices and greater emphasis on game feel and freedom,
And that makes a lot of sense why that move is even more powerful than I considered on the outset.
Games. Because hitboxes changed to be more generous and options became more plentiful, you find that there's many ways that a good player can end someone that's less skilled than them much faster. And whilst maybe not all of these changes were made because of a more accessible air game, to me it seems like the expansion of the vertical space certainly played a part in these changes. And sometimes that greater expansion of airspace isn't a universal agreement, which makes characters have their own unique identity. Characters with flight like Dr. Doom allow them to control a portion of the screen and be very dynamic in the position that he's effective, not only by allowing him the opportunity to
Doom
reposition
flies
wherever
fucking
he'd
everywhere.
like,
Doom,
but also to
Sentinel,
hold vertical space with a unique timing
Storm.
by being in the same spot for so long. Guilty Gear is full of characters that don't necessarily
fucking
give them
fly.
more expanded vertical space, but
Turn
allow
that in
them
a way
to
that makes
change the
actual
timing
struggle
on that
so
vertical
much more.
space
Yeah,
a
'cause you
lot.
get that
Whilst you've
added
got
block on there as
characters
well.
like Kahyun and Sol that do have moves that change their jump
Storm
box to make it look like your art teacher
NPC
fell over. Characters like Venom and Testament have
almost
moves
God
that
forbid
freeze
anyone
their
NPC
momentum. In the case of
won.
Venom, you can
Shit
set
gets
a ball
fucked.
and this freeze occurs, but your momentum is retained once the ball set finishes. This allows
Yeah,
you
that's
to
a big
create
one
a
as
very
well.
strange timing that allows you to capitalize on players that are playing very responsive with anti-airs. And whilst it does leave you very vulnerable to air-to-airs, it provides new and unique choices to make.
That's right.
Whilst
If
it
he
might
sees the
not
floor
affect
more
the
than 10
jump
seconds,
arc
right? Yeah,
directly,
just jump
the
into the
different
air,
timing
throw some
creates
laser
new ways to
beams,
bait out your
dash
opponent.
across
My
the
favorite being
screen.
this little mix.
Yes, so many
God, I
options with
fucking love
that.
hitting
Just
that.
don't
However,
play
as
their game.
previously
Just don't
mentioned,
play
there's
the
moves that are
game.
unique to characters that
Fuck
provide
it.
them with extra mobility. Some of you might be thinking of moves like Ken's EX Air Tatsu in Third Strike, which allows you to take a jump arc that traditionally looks like this or this and make it look like this. But then you've got characters like Chunhua, I can't fucking say that name, who takes all the mobility concepts from many different games and crams it all into one character and makes for the most enjoyable character in the game. If you disagree with me, fight me in real life. I'm not very good at this game. Look at that fucking upward dive kick. It's so sick. But whilst all of this is great, you don't
I think that's a character I
necessarily
would
have to
really like a
expand
lot if I
movement
spent
to
more
give
time in this
characters
game.
unique identities. In a game with a
I
lot
just
of
didn't want to
aerial
play Faust in
options,
this
you can
game,
also be
and,
reductive to someone's
that
moveset
game.
to provide them with their
It was
own
fighting
unique
herds.
playstyle.
Try not
And
to call
also
it
to
My Little
balance
Pony.
them, I would love to talk about Taiga, but I don't play CF, so more Guilty Gear, am I right, boys? In a game where everyone has air dashing, Potemkin can't. Justice can't either, but, you know, just ignore that. This helps to give Potemkin a very defined role as a slow tank that hits hard as fuck, and so your goal is to play as much keep out as possible and make it so that he's never able to get into his very strong positions. If he was moving around like everyone else, you'd still have a fun character, but you'd have a less clearly defined character, and personally speaking, you'd make a less interesting character to play against. The key thing that I'd like to pull away from Potemkin, Justice, Taiga, all of these characters that have more restrictive movement is that just because something is gone doesn't mean that it's bad, and adding these complexities doesn't necessarily mean that
He
it's
just has
good.
different options that he
It's
needs to
just
play around
different.
it,
So
but
what
he does
a
have things
bad
like very good
jump look
anti-airs and stuff like
The
that.
original Street Fighter, aka the alcohol baby of fighting games, has this bizarre
Freshman
jump that's
pistol,
just
shotgun, and
awful
rifle,
to play
bouquet,
with.
strawberry.
What makes it so
He's
sickening is that whilst
fine,
it does,
fine.
as I'm sure you've seen, go up
Mention
and
of
down,
Arcana.
it
I
doesn't
mean, we're not
fall
done yet.
apart.
He could
Whilst
get
other
there.
games have
He
this
could get there.
incline, a gradual
He probably won't get
slowdown,
there.
and then a slow increase
He
in
might just
momentum
not play
towards the
Arcana.
ground. Street Fighter 1 instead has a fixed incline to a set period where you're in the air and a fixed incline down. This makes it a hard mechanic to approach, both as the person that's jumping in and the person that's responding to it.
No one
Putting
knows what the fuck's
aside
going on down there.
awful DP motion of Street Fighter 1, it's hard to anti-air something that has such a snappy startup since you have no build-up or anticipation. Due to the very immediate
there's bugs down
transitions
here.
between each of these states, it's hard to create a mental map of where someone's about to be without having seen the timing for this jump many, many times, since it goes against our natural understanding of how gravity impacts anything. However, in subsequent Street Fighters, you'll notice
It's got that
the jump
Shaq Fu
rises,
jump.
has a longer hanging period because it takes a while for gravity to impact objects, and then falls with increasing velocity because gravity exists. This hanging period and gradual fall helps to build anticipation and inform our actions.
That's what we have
Without
before.
it, it's not only
He
frustrating
woke
for
up
the
from his
person that's
long
getting
nap.
jumped
His
in
long-
on, but
he was
also
very
infuriating
tired.
for the person using the jump as they snap from state to state, making it
Those are
hard
the
to
rule
correctly
cool.
time a
Did not
jump in
concern
or use
himself with the
any of
Y.
tools effectively. And then there's the neutral jump, which
one, right? Yeah.
I literally can't figure out what the goal was. Fuck
Yes.
it exists in
It's
a
a
game
little
where
hop.
walking
It's a little
is actually
Tekken
a
hop. You
collection
just
of
do a little
hops. Who
Tekken.
gives a
It's
fuck?
fine.
as you can very clearly see, the issue isn't that the jump isn't complex, it's that the jump is
Cool,
implemented.
'cause- yeah, rule of cool.
Like Takashi
Exactly.
Nishiyama was trying to save a thirsty man from
Makes him
dehydration
instantly
by giving him
cannibal,
seawater.
also a
This is a
super
simple
jump.
jump, but it's frustrating to use because it makes a solution
We asked
to
the same thing
problems,
about Cable,
barriers to
too.
sanity
We'll
by
never
being the
know.
only choice
We'll never
available
fucking
and
know.
feels awful without adding anything to the game. Whilst I'd certainly say that I prefer a more
My favorite
complex
game
air
to watch
game,
porn
there's
now.
a
Yeah,
reason why the
because
more
his answer
simple
to
yet
being unable to
restricted
air
use of
dash
airspace still
is,
sticks around
well, then
today.
I
Some
bring the
people just
opponent
wanna
to
play
me
ground
instead.
focused
I
fighting
turn
games.
their
Some people
air
wanna be
dash
so far away
into
from their
my
opponent,
air
they're willing to
dash,
push advancements
which
in
is
space travel to
bonkers.
do it. Thankfully, fighting games are a vast and diverse genre, so I think we're going to see many unique approaches to airspace stick around. And even if we did wake up one day and all of a sudden Tekken was an air dasher, we'd still have a long history of fighting games that allow us to see a wide array of the use of air. So in conclusion, I don't know, man, I just think that jumping in fighting games is surprisingly cool. Jump arcs might not be the end-all be-all to the contribution of a way that a fighting game is made and played, but it's certainly a large part of it. Yeah, you've got games like Power Rangers that have floaty and simple jumps, but you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone with a shred of sanity that says it plays like
Yeah, people
Street
talk about
Fighter.
Alpha 1,
Skullgirls might
honestly.
have
People
air
talk about, like,
dashes,
Alpha
but it's
2 and
not
3.
the same as Guilty Gear. But by changing the way that jumps
And then
work,
it came to me later, and I was like, people hate Alpha 2. I'm like, wait, what? Everyone talked about Alpha 2 until, I guess now I know that people hate it.
Games, which, as a genre, fighting games are amazing for. For a genre that's often mislabeled as one where every game plays the same, it's stunning to me just how much developers and players have taken such a simple concept and expanded it. Whether you want to jump in, fuck all, air dash out, air dash into immediate death, or never return to the ground, there's a place for you.
I've got
and
into
I know
that.
where mine is.
Familiar.
It's right here, in Guilty Gear Xrd Rev 2. See you around, whether it's in the next video, next game, or next year. Have a good one.
Dawson in Street Fighter 6 is making you think about
at the end of the video. I'd just like to say thank you very much for watching and supporting this year. The growth has been pretty
Resolve,
fucking
I
good.
lose.
I'd also like to thank Logan at the Twitter
If you
account,
ever
play
just
underscore
let that
more
happen
underscore KO.
somehow, well, not somehow, it could very easily happen. But it's like, if you let that shit happen, just sigh and just be like, all right, next time. Unfortunately, I play anime games, so every time I see Dalsim teleport, I'm like, watch this. I just jab really quickly. I'm like, I can't be teleported on. I played anime. I will not. I just rarely get teleported on. I'm like, I just want the knockdown. I don't need anything fancy. I don't need any special moves. That's fine. But all Dalsim want to do is like, I'm gonna do a fireball and I'm gonna teleport behind him. I'm like, that's just Faust. Look, that's just Faust. I know how to deal with this generally. Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh. Just for now. Damn, I haven't played the game since Street Fighter 1, and now Dawson can teleport. What happened between Street Fighter 1 and Street Fighter 6? Not taking in the games in between. Who the fuck is Kid? There's just Ryu and Blonde Ryu. I parry the bonk, by the way, Brandon. Your move. I'm at frame advantage, but I'm going to wait and block and see. What happened to Eagle? Eagle's dead. Apparently, I don't remember when I read this, but apparently Eagle was also gay in the original game. So it's like, well, damn, where is Eagle? Get Eagle back in here. The people got to know what happened to Eagle. Show must go on, but the show? Luke says, let's go. But where is he going? The battle is over. Oh, right. They did put him into CBS 2. I forgot about that, actually. I legit forgot about that he was in CBS 2. That's really fucking funny that I forgot that. Here's some music. In the meantime, while I'm laughing and joking about stuff. Because I can talk about jump bugs all day. I remember that Maki was in CBS 2. But she never made the impact of like, oh yeah, I'm in CBS 2, watch what I can do. She was like, oh right, yeah, Maki, she's here. She kind of looks like Guy, so that's where my brain stops. Oh, God, I wasn't paying attention. You've stepped into the fighting game zone. I am a big fighting game liker, so unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, very fortunately, fighting games end up on the subject very, very often. But so are many folks in the chat as well. I just love me some fighting games. Hyper fight and hyper bullshit. This fucking guy teleports. You're telling me that the Zen Master, Frog Zen Master, is saying that he can teleport into a cross up after flaunching fire out of his mouth? You're telling me that the Zen Master can do this the entire time and he was real? You're telling me that he drank all that vodka and took the 125 pills of Valium before dropping in the water and immediately just teleported out of the water as a joke so that the tax collectors would not come after his money? You're telling me a yogurt teleported into Oh, fuck. Let me make sure I de-item myself really quickly here. I fucking forget. God damn it. The comedy has not gone too far. It's gone the right distance. The exact right distance it needed to go to. Alright. There we go. That's all cleaned up. Sweet. Let me save my game just to be sure. Is he also a cowboy? Eagles might have been a secret cowboy. He might have been one of them legendary gay cowboys. I guess he couldn't have been a cowboy because then he would have had to suffer a bad fate, and he didn't. So, get this going now. Good. How much did you hunt these last few hours? Really sure interesting. I've successfully hunted no monsters, unfortunately. Rathalos fucking sucks to hunt. The game is not well designed, and I kind of grow to hate it, honestly. I'm just because of the fact that I have to be faced with Rathalos, I'm just kind of like, I fucking hate that, actually. I really don't look forward to fighting Rathalos, but we'll do it again. We'll do it again on Saturday. And speaking of Saturday, I'll be doing it again for a couple hours. I'll probably get like a couple runs in and maybe a video or two again. And then we'll move on to playing some Double Dragon Gaiden. I'm super excited to be playing with that as my quote-unquote first sponsor stream. That's gonna fucking rule. I'm hyped about that. So that'll be on Saturday. So we're gonna start with a couple hours of some good old Monster Hunter. Then we'll play some Double Dragon Gaiden. That'll be the Saturday, and then Sunday will be Froth with Boix as well. And as always, for new folks who are in here and everything like that, I always try to keep my schedule pretty much up to date all the time. So that way it can always convert into your own time zone. So there's no like complications about like, well, what time are you starting? Well, I'm starting this time Eastern. It's like I'm over in Australia, Europe, Japan. And it's like, all right, the scheduler will put the exact times that you need in your time zone to make things as easy as possible for everyone else out here. So definitely check out that schedule. It's going to be all at Monster Hunter until I finish it. But I just need to get very lucky on killing Rathalos. That's just where I'm stuck right now, unfortunately. So, yeah, which part of Europe even? I barely know my U.S. time zones for that matter. So, should have laid address from Star Wars, but it's failed. Huh. Figured people would be buying that by the hand over fist, hundreds of thousands of dollars, but hopefully they did it for fucking charity and not for someone who raided a house and just said, hey, I found this. This is mine now. I'm going to sell it for a lot of money. But I don't know what the truth is, unfortunately. So I'm just going to hope for the best on that one. Iceland doesn't observe daylight saving time. Yeah, neither does Arizona. One state out of the many. Ironically doing it. The one thing that they do right in Arizona is fucking not ignoring daylight savings time. And then they do everything else wrong and racist and horrible. This is the single Arizona fact I have ever known. It's great. It's the one thing that you should know about Arizona, and the rest of it you could probably just write off, honestly. Yeah, exactly. The only one worth knowing. That's right. But that said, thank you all for hanging out. Greatly appreciated. I'm going to go ahead and cut it off here because I don't think I can take another fight with a Rathalos. As stubborn as I fucking am about finishing this game, my sanity needs to stay in check for this one. So I'm just going to be like, I'm just going to let it go for today. Going to rest on my laurels and try to figure out on Saturday. Maybe I'll get lucky this time. Maybe Rathalos won't spend 400 hours flying around and doing nothing. So we'll see what happens. But that said, if you want to hang out for a little bit longer, you want to watch some extra gaming content on twitch.tv.com, allow me to bring you all over to, who's doing what tonight? Who's doing the gaming tonight out here? Damn, there's a lot of good gaming out here. Oh wow, a lot of people are playing tonight. Holy shit, there's a lot of people. Okay, what do I want to see? I'm gonna send you all over to Bobby. I'm gonna send you all over to Bobby. Yeah, I have not gotten to rate his channel because he never goes super late and he's doing a charity. So I'm gonna share a charity love with him. But thank you all for hanging out. Much appreciated. If you go over there and you want to hang out for a little bit longer, just tell Bobby about how much Rathalos sucks. Just say monsters suck as a whole. You know what? Ain't no monster safe. Just say monsters suck as a whole. We were not going to make it complicated out here. But thank you all for the support. Thank you all for hanging out. Thank you for the follows. Thank you for the subs and all that good stuff. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you all for hanging out. We'll watch some more cool videos on Saturday before we do some double Dragon Gaiden. So definitely pull up for all that. But until then, take care of yourselves. Have a good one. Stay cute as always. Be safe out there in the world. And until next time, peace.